Chapter 401. Soar into the Sky. I originally thought that your natural talent ought to be not inferior to Huangji, so I had a thought like this. Duan Lingtian glanced deeply at Mo Yu as he spoke. But I never imagined that you had a past like that. In this way, not only is your natural talent not inferior to Huangji, it simply completely surpasses Huangji and throws him far into the distance. Today, after Duan Lingtian had found out about Mo Yu's past, he sighed with emotion and couldn't help but be shocked. Mo Yu, who was actually under such arduous circumstances, was actually able to pass the 7-star sword sect outer court disciple test and become a 7-star sword sect disciple. The height of Mo Yu's natural talent in the martial Tao could be seen from this. If I didn't consume the 10,000-year stalactite milk, then my natural talent would probably be inferior to Mo Yu. Duan Lingtian couldn't help but sigh in his heart. All along the way here, he'd relied mainly on the memories and abilities of the rebirth martial emperor. Although his natural talent wasn't bad, if it wasn't for everything that the rebirth martial emperor left him, then it would impossible for him to grow so quickly. Mo Yu's natural talent was instead actual natural talent. A person who had no medicinal pills to assist in cultivation had entered the 7-star sword sect and became a member of it. In terms of natural talent, although it couldn't compare to his current natural talent, it was still considered to be extremely high. Perhaps, it was just like the Fecta Peak's master, K. Zhen, had said. Mo Yu's natural talent wasn't inferior to any one of those 5 great young masters. Suddenly, Lingu Jinhong's burning gaze shot at Mo Yu as he said slowly, "Are you willing to take me as your master?" A wisp of a smile appeared on Duan Lingtian's face when he saw this scene. Although Lingu Jinhong had intentionally suppressed his mood when he spoke calmly, Duan Lingtian was still able to sense the excitement in Lingu Jinhong's heart by relying on his acute spiritual force. Obviously, Lingu Jinhong was extremely satisfied of Mo Yu. As soon as Lingu Jinhong finished speaking, the few 7-star sword sect outer court disciples that were in charge of taking care of the stable looked at Mo Yu with envious expressions. They knew clearly in their heart that after today, this senior brother Mo Yu, who was younger than them, would soar into the sky. But the person concerned was instead completely dumbstruck, as if he completely didn't believe all this was true. Mo Yu. Duan Lingtian kicked Mo Yu before he finally recovered from his shock, then looked at Lingu Jinhong with an excited expression as he replied. "Willing, I'm willing." To Mo Yu, all of this was too sudden and it gave him a feeling as if a pie had fallen from the sky. Good, good, I never expected that I, Lingu Jinhong, had only just lost a personal disciple, but the heavens gave me another. From today onwards, you, Mo Yu, will be my personal disciple and my closed-door disciple. I will foster you to the best of my ability. Lingu Jinhong laughed heartily and the gloominess on his face from Huangji's betrayal had completely vanished. Congratulations, sect leader. Duan Lingtian was the first to congratulate Lingu Jinhong. Congratulations, sect leader. Zheng Fan, Zheng Song, K. Zhen, and Meng Chu congratulated Lingu Jinhong as well. The few 7-star sword sect disciples that were in charge of taking care of the stables hurriedly congratulated Mo Yu and Lingu Jinhong as well. Now, their faces were filled with a humble expression when they looked at Mo Yu. They knew clearly in their heart that from today onwards, this senior brother had transformed from a wild chicken into a phoenix and had soared into the sky. Presently, even the Grand Rock nodded to Lingu Jinhong. "Thank you, Elder Peng." Lingu Jinhong nodded with a smile to the Grand Rock, and his words contained respect. Obviously, the Grand Rock was congratulating Lingu Jinhong earlier as well. "Mo Yu, this is Elder Peng, he's our 7-star sword sect's guarding revered elder." When he saw Mo Yu look at the Grand Rock and seemed to be slightly afraid, Duan Lingtian lightly smiled and said, "Don't be afraid, greet Elder Peng." "Elder Peng." Mo Yu hurriedly bowed respectfully to the Grand Rock. The Grand Rock nodded and a sheen of satisfaction appeared in his sharp eyes, then he glanced at Lingu Jinhong. Seeming to be saying to Lingu Jinhong, "The personal disciple you've taken now is much better than that ungrateful bastard from before." Swoosh, swoosh. Along with the tremble of the Grand Rock's wings that were like clouds that covered the sky, Duan Lingtian's group flew up into the sky. Presently, there was an extra person in Duan Lingtian's group. Mo Yu. Senior brother Duan Lingtian, thank you. That day, when Duan Lingtian gave Mo Yu the 1 million silver, he'd already been extremely grateful to Duan Lingtian. Now, under Duan Lingtian's help, he was able to take the 7-star sword sect's leader, Lingu Jinhong, as his master. To him, this was undoubtedly an extremely great fortune. The gratitude he had towards Duan Lingtian in his heart was at its height. This great favor was something he was unable to repay. Work hard and cultivate properly so that you can take over from the sect leader and become the next sect leader of the 7-star sword sect in the future. Duan Lingtian looked at Mo Yu and smiled lightly. He looked extremely favorably upon Mo Yu. Duan Lingtian's words caused Mo Yu to be startled and caused him to be unable to refrain from shaking his head. Senior brother Duan Lingtian, even if someone has to take over from the sect leader in the future, it's still you who should do it. In my eyes, no one within the 7-star sword sect is more qualified than senior brother to take over from master and become the next 7-star sword sect's leader. Lingu Jinhong and the others looked at Duan Lingtian, as their thoughts were similar to Mo Yu. They all felt that Duan Lingtian was the best choice to be the next 7-star sword sect's leader. Duan Lingtian shook his head and smiled when he saw he'd become the center of attention in an instant, then he shrugged as his gaze shot into the distance. After a long time, he said slowly, the position of sect leader of the 7-star sword sect is not suitable to me. My aspirations are not within the Azure Forest Imperial Kingdom. My aspirations are not within the Azure Forest Imperial Kingdom. What Duan Lingtian said in the end had undoubtedly made his stance known clearly. He would sooner or later leave the Azure Forest Imperial Kingdom for an even vaster world. Lingu Jinhong and the others fell silent when they heard Duan Lingtian. Only now did they realize that with Duan Lingtian's cultivation, if he were to continue staying in the 7-star sword sect in the Azure Forest Imperial Kingdom, it would indeed be burying his future. HMPH. The reason that Huangji betrayed the sect leader in our 7-star sword sect is most likely because of what sect leader said during the martial competition of the 5 great sects, when the sect leader revealed that he wanted to make junior brother Duan Lingtian as the next 7-star sword sect's leader. Zheng Song snorted coldly, and when he mentioned the traitor Huangji, a strand of cold light flashed past his eyes and he said in a low voice, if he knew that junior brother Duan Lingtian had completely no intention of taking the position of sect leader, I wonder what expression he would have. If he knew, he would probably be angered to the point he spat blood. Meng Chu couldn't refrain from laughing. It's just a traitor, there's nothing to discuss about it. Zheng Fan and Kei Zhen glared at Zheng Song and Meng Chu, glancing at Lingu Jinhong with hinting looks. Obviously, the 2 peak masters were warning them not to tear off the sect leader's scabs. The 2 of them smiled embarrassedly and didn't dare say anything more. There's no harm done, I've seen past it. Lingu Jinhong noticed the actions of Zheng Fan and Kei Zhen, then shook his head and smiled. I feel fortunate right now, it's fortunate that Huangji left the 7-star sword sect. Otherwise, it's difficult for me to imagine what would have happened to the 7-star sword sect while in his hands. This time, I can be considered to have profited from a misfortune and taken you as my personal disciple. As he finished speaking, Lingu Jinhong looked at Mo Yu, and Mo Yu was pleasing to his eyes no matter how he looked at Mo Yu. In terms of character and natural talent, Mo Yu far surpassed Huangji. Fortunately, Duan Lingtian was able to discern what others could not. Otherwise, this disciple of sect leader might have been covered in dust for God knows how long. Zheng Fan lightly smiled. Indeed, Kei Zhen expressed his deep approval. Yes, it's all thanks to Duan Lingtian this time. Duan Lingtian, I, Lingu Jinhong, will remember this favor. Lingu Jinhong looked at Duan Lingtian and said sincerely. Sect leader, you jest. This is only a small matter to me, I only said a few words. Duan Lingtian shook his head, without a shred of intention to claim credit for himself. It's a small matter to you, yet it's a huge matter to me. Taking you as my personal disciple has allowed me to see through a lot of things. Perhaps, I was wrong at the beginning and should not have wasted my time and energy to foster a person like Huangji. Lingu Jinhong sighed, and as he finished speaking, he was slightly unable to not care about it. The personal disciple he'd put his whole heart into fostering had become an ungrateful bastard in the end and turned to another sect. Although he'd seen past it, there were still thorns in his heart after all. Just like the saying, we may know a man's face but not his heart. Sect leader, you don't have to blame yourself. Duan Lingtian consoled. Lingu Jinhong nodded and didn't say anything. Cold lights appeared in his eyes as he gazed towards the east. The Origin Convergence sect was precisely in that direction. Suddenly, Duan Lingtian noticed Mo Yu had looked over with eyes that contained traces of wonder mixed within, as if he wanted to ask Duan Lingtian something but didn't speak for so long because he seemed to be extremely afraid of violating a taboo. Mo Yu was only at the 6th level of the origin core stage now and was unable to condense his origin energy into sound. Duan Lingtian slowly informed Mo Yu of the sequence of events via voice transmission. When Mo Yu found out everything about Huangji, he had an enraged expression and his eyes emitted killing intent. Then he looked at Lingu Jinhong and said solemnly, "Master, there'll be a day that I'll kill that Huangji with my own 2 hands and clean the trash from our sect." Lingu Jinhong nodded and his face revealed a heartfelt smile. "Master believes you'll be able to do it." After a short while, the Grand Rock descended onto the empty space outside Dubi Hall. Duan Lingtian's group left the back of the Grand Rock that was spacious like even ground. "Elder Peng, sorry for troubling you." Lingu Jinhong slightly bowed to the Grand Rock. The Grand Rock's time in the 7-star sword sect was even longer than the 2 guardian elders, and although it was a demon beast, he'd taken the Grand Rock to be like a senior. The Grand Rock nodded then flapped his wings as he soared into the sky. Before he left, his pair of fierce and profound eyes glanced at Duan Lingtian, then he flew into the clouds and mist to disappear in the sky. Duan Lingtian bid his farewells to the sect leader and the others, then directly left. He went to Alcade Hall. Duan Lingtian. Within Alcade Hall, the eyes of the Alcade Peak's master, Qin Shang, lit up when she saw Duan Lingtian, then asked slightly curiously, "How was the outcome for the martial competition of the 5 great sects this time? Did the sect leader's personal disciple, Huangji, seize a place in the top 3 in the martial competition?" As the peak master of Alcade Peak, Qin Shang was rather attentive of the martial competition of the 5 great sects. 401 Chapter 402, Little Gold Mouse Overcoming Her Heavenly Tribulation. Huangji. Duan Lingtian's brows couldn't help but frown when he heard Qin Shang mention Huangji, and his expression was slightly unsightly. "What?" Qin Shang asked in bewilderment. Duan Lingtian shook his head and slowly retold the sequence of events of the matter. Duan Lingtian had only just finished speaking when Qin Zhang's expression completely became gloomy. Swoosh! A formidable imposing manner leapt up from Qin Zhang's body, and seemed to transform into a dreadful monster that swept towards the surroundings. Although it didn't cause any pressure to Duan Lingtian, it still caused him to be slightly moved. He could clearly feel that at this moment, the imposing manner that leapt up from Qin Shang was actually even much stronger than the imposing manner of Kei Zhen, and was not inferior to Elder Peng. "Huangji," Qin Shang slowly spoke with a voice that contained frightful coldness mixed within. "Kei ought to be cultivating in her room, go in and wait for her to awaken." After she told this to Duan Lingtian, Qin Zhang's figure flashed, transforming in a flowing light to disappear from the Alcade Hall and disappear before Duan Lingtian's eyes. Duan Lingtian understood that Qin Shang had surely gone to look for the sect leader. Alcade Hall. It wasn't the first time that Duan Lingtian had come here, and he quickly found Kei's room and walked in. After he entered, he could see Kei was sitting cross-legged on the bed and cultivating. "This little girl is really hard-working." Duan Lingtian shook his head and smiled as he looked at Kei who was completely immersed in cultivating. Swoosh! Right at this moment, Duan Lingtian heard a whistle sound out by his ear, and in the next moment his shoulder sunk slightly. Squeak squeak! Subsequently, a wave of anxious cries sounded out by his ear. The cries were slightly soft as it was obviously being intentionally suppressed, as if the sound was extremely afraid of disturbing Kei who was immersed in cultivating. "Little Gold, what's wrong?" Duan Lingtian noticed something was off, so he turned around and left the room, then put the little gold mouse on his shoulder into his hand and asked curiously. Squeak squeak! The little gold mouse's jade eyes flickered as it looked at Duan Lingtian, and it ceaselessly nodded its head, seeming to be expressing something. Duan Lingtian frowned. In the end, he couldn't help but extend his spiritual force out onto the little gold mouse. When Duan Lingtian sensed the changes of origin energy within the little gold mouse's body, his face couldn't help but change to an expression of shock. You've broken through to the void prying stage." The little gold mouse nodded and its jade eyes contained a slightly anxious expression mixed within. "You've sensed the 6-9 heavenly tribulation." Duan Lingtian seemed to have perceived something, and his eyes squinted as he asked in astonishment. The little gold mouse nodded again. "Let's go." Duan Lingtian didn't dare dally. He grabbed the little gold mouse tightly then directly flashed out of Alcade Hall to descend onto the even ground outside Alcade Hall. "This won't do. You can't overcome your 6-9 heavenly tribulation here. Once the 6-9 heavenly tribulation descends here, then not only would Alcade Hall be destroyed, even the spirit point would be destroyed. We'll go to the primeval forest." Duan Lingtian looked at the little gold mouse in his hand and asked. Can you fly now? The little gold mouse nodded and left Duan Lingtian's hand to float in the air, then waved its limbs like a human, pointing east then pointing west. As if it was a little directionally challenged mouse. No wonder. I was wondering why you didn't directly leave to overcome the 6-9 heavenly tribulation, so it turned out that you entirely don't know your way. Duan Lingtian saw this scene and came to a sudden understanding. This is something you're unable to compare to with Little Black and Little White. Duan Lingtian continued. Squeak squeak, Duan Lingtian had only just finished speaking when the little gold mouse became restless. Obviously, it was extremely displeased towards what Duan Lingtian said, then shook its small head as it vented the displeasure in its heart. Little fellow, you're not resigned. Duan Lingtian laughed. Squeak squeak, when he saw the little gold mouse crying out in panic again, Duan Lingtian didn't continue teasing it. How about this, you take me flying with you and I'll lead the way. As he spoke up to this point, Duan Lingtian glanced at the body of the little gold mouse that was the size of an infant's fist and had an expression of aversion on his face. But, can your little body take me flying? Squeak squeak, the little gold mouse hurriedly nodded. Under Duan Lingtian's astonished gaze, the little gold mouse's body trembled that actually started expanding. In the end, it seemed to have transformed into a 3-meter-tall hill, a fluffy hill. Swoosh! Duan Lingtian was surprised for a while, then didn't hesitate to flash onto the little gold mouse's back, and he felt the place he landed was completely soft. Duan Lingtian simply sat down directly. Comfortable, much better than the sofas from my previous life. Squeak squeak, the little gold mouse's voice became even more anxious. Duan Lingtian extended his hand to point towards the direction of the primeval forest as he said, all right, let's go. That way. Instantly, the little gold mouse moved. Whoosh! A gold light flashed by and vanished outside Alcade Hall. As he sat on the little gold mouse's back and was brought flying off by it, Duan Lingtian couldn't help but shake his head. As the saying goes, as timid as a mouse, it was truly not false in the slightest. Even the little gold mouse, which was the descendant of a Jade-Eyes heavenly mouse, wasn't able to escape from this. If it was any other void-prying stage demon beast, then it would have probably searched for a place to overcome the heavenly tribulation at the first possible moment when it sensed the 6-9 heavenly tribulation. This little gold mouse instead didn't dare roam about by itself, as if it was afraid it would get lost or perhaps encounter some sort of danger. That forest over there. In next to no time, Duan Lingtian's gaze pierced through the cloud and mist to see the boundlessly vast forest in the distance, and it was precisely the primeval forest. Although he knew since long ago that the primeval forest was boundlessly vast, when Duan Lingtian actually looked down at it from the sky, he still couldn't help from being slightly shocked. It was too big. No wonder he'd taken so much of time just to move about near the inner area. Bang! Right at this moment, Duan Lingtian's eardrums shook, and he heard a thunderclap sound out by his ears, and his instantly went pale as he shouted out in a low voice. Little Gold, go down! Quickly go down! Right when the little gold mouse plunged downwards, Duan Lingtian raised his head and he could clearly see the mist and clouds in the horizon were roiling, instantly forming ripples that twisted into a vortex. Subsequently, all the clouds and mist were densely gathered together by the vortex, transforming into a ball of dark clouds that ceaselessly roiled. Duan Lingtian's eyes were sharp and was able to clearly see that at the center of the vortex, within the dark clouds, a strand of violet lightning was jumping about, and as the violet lightning appeared, it started jumping about at a higher and higher frequency and was extremely terrifying. Quickly, quickly, Duan Lingtian urged on the little gold mouse. As a person that had merged with the memories of the rebirth martial emperor, Duan Lingtian naturally knew what would happen next. 6-9 Heavenly Tribulation. Within the Cloud Continent, regardless of if it was a human or demon beast, once they broke through to the void-prying stage, then they would draw the 6-9 Heavenly Tribulation within a short amount of time. Normally, there wouldn't be any danger. Of course, this lack of danger only applied to the first-level void-prying stage martial artist or demon beast. When one was overcoming the Heavenly Tribulation, no outside could be present within an area of 100 meters. Otherwise, 2 heavenly tribulations would descend at the same time. One would be aimed towards the person who had to overcome the heavenly tribulation, whereas the other would be aimed towards the outsider. The outsides in question would be just like the current Duan Lingtian. The 6-9 heavenly tribulation would take him as someone wanted to assist the little gold mouse to overcome the tribulation and desired to challenge the might of the heavens. Swoosh! The speed the little gold mouse plunged down with was incomparably swift, and Duan Lingtian could see that the ground was ceaselessly approaching. A little bit more, just a little bit more. Duan Lingtian gazed at the ground. So long as the height was suitable, he would leap down at the first possible moment. To him, the little gold mouse was currently no different from a god of plagues, and if he were to continue staying within an area of 100 meters of the little gold mouse, then he would absolutely be courting death. The little gold mouse was unafraid of that 6-9 heavenly tribulation, but it was an existence that was difficult to withstand to him. According to the memories of the rebirth martial emperor, even the first bolt of lightning in the 6-9 heavenly tribulation, the weakest bolt of lightning during the tribulation, was sufficient to be compared to a full-forced strike from a half-step void stage martial artist. A half-step void stage martial artist was an existence that surpassed the 9th level of the nascent soul stage, and possessed a strength comparable to 1,500 ancient mammoths. It was far from something Duan Lingtian was able to go against. Bang, bang, bang. Waves of oppressive thunderclaps sounded out from the horizon. Every time it entered Duan Lingtian's ears, it would cause his face to go pale, and he would ceaselessly urge the little gold mouse. Little gold, faster, faster. Once the 6-9 heavenly tribulation descended and he was still within an area of 100 meters from the little gold mouse, then the 6-9 heavenly tribulation would descend with 2 tribulations. One for the little gold mouse, and the other for him. Even if the little gold mouse helped him defend against the first bolt of lightning, he would surely be unable to get 100 meters away from the little gold mouse in time before the second bolt of lightning descended. Even if it was the little gold mouse, it still had to take the second bolt of lightning seriously, and it couldn't divert its attention to care for him. So, he needed to quickly leave the god of plagues, little gold, before the first bolt of lightning descended. Quickly, quickly. Duan Lingtian's heart burned with anxiety as he heard the thunderclaps that occurred at a higher and higher frequency. Although the ground beneath his feet was ceaselessly approaching, his heart was still completely in his throat. He knew clearly in his heart that the first bolt of lightning from the 6-9 heavenly tribulation was about to descend. Bang, bang, bang. The vortex in the horizon ceaselessly revolved and warped. Within the ball of dark clouds, the violet-colored lightning forked and flickered as they emitted terrifying auras, and carried along an energy that seemed as if it could annihilate everything. This was the might of the 6-9 heavenly tribulation. The force of nature, the force of heaven. Swoosh. The little gold mouse plunged downwards at full speed, with a speed so swift that it seemed to have transformed into a gold bolt of lightning. Little gold, the 6-9 heavenly tribulation is only a formality to you. I'll watch you from a distance, Duan Lingtian hurriedly said to the little gold mouse when he saw the ground gradually approaching. Squeak squeak, the little gold mouse replied with a voice that contained a trace of excitement mixed within. Obviously, it wasn't afraid in the slightest when facing the 6-9 heavenly tribulation. As expected of the descendant of the jade-eyed heavenly mouse, Duan Lingtian thought in his heart. At the same time, his gaze fixed onto the ground that wasn't far from him. When he saw the ground was right before his eyes, Duan Lingtian exerted force in his legs, his origin energy skyrocketed and his wind force swept out, and he left the back of the little gold mouse. Whirlwind. Duan Lingtian didn't dare hesitate in the slightest and exploded out with the strength of his entire body to flash straight to the ground. When he was approaching the ground, the quake energy that vibrated to the limit appeared and raged beneath his legs. 402 Chapter 403, You're a baddie. Bang. Duan Lingtian finally descended onto the ground and he used his origin energy, wind force, and quake energy to neutralize most of the force from his landing. Even then, he still felt intense pain assault him, and the bones of his legs had traces of fracturing. So painful. Duan Lingtian's face went pale, and he didn't hesitate to withdraw and swallow a grade 6 recovery pill, then circulate his origin energy to dissolve the medicinal strength of the pill and recover his injuries. At the same time, he once again used force in his legs, and his origin energy skyrocketed as he flashed out. Whirlwind. His entire body seemed to have transformed into a gust of wind that flashed towards the distance, and tried to the best of his ability to flee from the god of plagues, little gold. Bang, bang, bang. The thunderclaps sounding out in the horizon were incomparably ear-piercing, and caused Duan Lingtian to be as if he was confronted with a formidable enemy. If it was at an ordinary time, the distance of 100 meters would only require a short moment for Duan Lingtian to flash out from it. But now, almost, right at this moment, Duan Lingtian's heart burnt with anxiety, because he knew that he was competing with time right now, competing for every second. Bang! In the blink of an eye, a dazzling bright light enveloped the ground, causing Duan Lingtian to stop dead in his tracks, as if he was struck by lightning. I was still too late. A bitter smile appeared on Duan Lingtian's face, and he sighed as he looked at the heavenly tribulation that divided into two. The so-called heavenly tribulation was actually a bolt of lightning. But this bolt of lightning couldn't be compared with ordinary lightning. Just like the first heavenly tribulation of this 6-9 heavenly tribulation was a bolt of lightning that was as thick as an infant's arm, and it carried along the terrifying might of nature and was extremely shocking. Swoosh, swoosh, one bolt of lightning flashed towards the little gold mouse, and the other flashed towards Duan Lingtian. Squeak squeak, the little gold mouse's anxious cry entered into Duan Lingtian's ears. Subsequently, Duan Lingtian noticed the little gold mouse look at him, seeming to be prepared to come assist him. Duan Lingtian's face went pale and said in panic, "Little gold, don't come over, I can deal with it." What a joke! If the little gold mouse came over, although it would be able to withstand both bolts of lightning by itself, it was only the first bolt of lightning of the 6-9 heavenly tribulation, and it was also the bolt of lightning with the weakest might and slowest speed. The first bolt of lightning was more like probing. To an existence above the void-prying stage, it was no different than scratching an itch. The true trouble started from the second bolt of lightning. That was the truly terrifying heavenly tribulation. If the little gold mouse were to come over now, it would be able to help Duan Lingtian withstand the first bolt of lightning, but it would undoubtedly draw close the distance between it and Duan Lingtian. At that time, it would be impossible for Duan Lingtian to get 100 meters away from the little gold mouse before the second bolt of lightning appeared. Once the second bolt of lightning descended, Duan Lingtian would die for sure. As for now, when he saw the little gold mouse not taking any action, Duan Lingtian heaved a sigh of relief. Whirlwind. As he gazed at the first bolt of lightning that was nearby, Duan Lingtian's body flashed out as if he'd transformed into a gale and flashed towards the distance. He'd finally gotten more than 100 meters away from the little gold mouse. Duan Lingtian didn't even have the time to heave a sigh of relief when the descending bolt of lightning that was as thick as an infant's arm had already blasted towards him. It lit up half the sky and the earth, causing Duan Lingtian to be dazzled. This feeling was as if he was directly flashed by a flashlight from his previous life. Bang! The bolt of lightning that was as thick as an infant's arm whistled as it descended, seeming to have transformed into a terrifying demon beast that had opened its blood mouth, wanting to swallow Duan Lingtian into its belly. Duan Lingtian made his move, his origin energy flashed to fuse into the spatial ring in his hand, and lightly trembled. Blaze inscription. In almost an instant, a strand of crimson-red flowing light surged out from the spatial ring in Duan Lingtian's hand, and it emitted an extreme blazing aura. Swoosh! The crimson-red flowing light tore through the sky, seeming to have transformed into a crimson-red bolt of lightning, and after it flashed out, it started to expand. Instantly, it had already transformed into a condensed flame the size of an infant's arm, and it moved to intercept that bolt of lightning. Bang! The flame and lightning collided together with a bang, the sky shook and the airflow pulsed, transforming into circle after circle of ripples that swept out. The strong wind that was born from the terrifying airflow being compressed directly pushed Duan Lingtian flying far away. The ground where Duan Lingtian stood earlier was completely desolate and in ruins. Although Duan Lingtian was in a slightly sorry state, his face revealed an expression of joy from survival. I succeeded. When he saw the flame and lightning vanish at the same time after colliding in the sky, he couldn't help but heave a sigh of relief. Earlier on, before he descended onto the ground, he'd already made plans for the worst-case scenario, to receive the first heavenly tribulation of the 6-9 heavenly tribulation. Of course, he didn't receive it with his own strength, but instead used the strength of an inscription. Whereas the inscription that received the bolt of lightning was precisely the one and only strongest inscription in Duan Lingtian's possession, the Blaze inscription, the inscription that was said to be able to annihilate half-step void stage powerhouses. I never imagined that the Blaze inscription would be used here. At the same time that he heaved a sigh of relief, Duan Lingtian felt slight regret. After all, the Blaze inscription was a trump card in his possession, a trump card that could annihilate a half-step void stage powerhouse. Never mind, I can be considered to have escaped death today, and I would have died for sure if I didn't have the Blaze inscription. In next to no time, Duan Lingtian had seen past time. Little Gold, his gaze then descended onto the faraway little gold mouse. Presently, the first bolt of lightning from the 6-9 heavenly tribulation had descended onto the little gold mouse. To the little gold mouse, this first bolt of lightning was no different than scratching an itch, and it was easily received by the little gold mouse. Bang! Right at the instant this bolt of lightning was blocked off by the little gold mouse, within the ball of dark clouds in the vortex at the horizon, another bolt of lightning was condensed once again, and it was the size of an adult's arm. The second heavenly tribulation. Swoosh! This bolt of lightning swiftly tore through the sky like an enormous meteor as it charged downwards towards the little gold mouse. Its speed and strength absolutely couldn't be compared to by the first bolt of lightning. Squeak! When faced with this bolt of lightning, the little gold mouse emitted a sharp cry and the origin energy on its body roiled and raged. Atop the sky, 2,000 ancient mammoth silhouettes condensed into form. Swoosh! Suddenly, the little gold mouse moved. Duan Ling Tian only saw a gold light that was coiled in origin energy flash by. It directly flashed towards the second bolt of lightning in full fury. Bang! In the next instant, the bolt of lightning was crushed, and only a gold figure remained floating in the air. The little gold mouse was completely unharmed. Bang! Subsequently, it was the third bolt of lightning. The little gold mouse was still without any pressure. Bang! The fourth bolt of lightning, still without any pressure. Bang! The fifth bolt of lightning descended, smashing the little gold mouse into the ground. When the little gold mouse crawled out of the ground, it was dusty and dirty in appearance, and was in an extremely sorry state. Squeak squeak! However, the little gold mouse wasn't injured in the end, and it raised its head to gaze at the battle of violet-colored lightning that forked and flickered within the dark cloud that was at the center of the vortex. Its intelligent eyes flickered with a provocative sheen. Duan Ling Tian saw the little gold mouse had turned its body around now. Its butt was facing towards the heaven as it shook its butt at the sixth bolt of lightning, which was also that last bolt of lightning that was still brewing. This scene caused Duan Ling Tian to burst out laughing. This little gold is really a clown. Duan Ling Tian shook his head and smiled. Finally, the last bolt of lightning of the 6-9 heavenly tribulation transformed into a bolt of lightning that was as thick as the arm of a grown man before smashing downwards. Swoosh! The speed of the lightning was so fast that it was difficult for Duan Ling Tian to catch it. He only that at the instant the bolt of lightning descended, the little gold mouse rose into the air to meet it head-on. Subsequently, the scene that unfolded before his eyes caused Duan Ling Tian to be dumbstruck. He saw the little gold mouse stand on the air and open its mouth. The current little gold mouse was like a 3-meter tall hill, and when it opened its mouth, although it couldn't be considered to be a huge bloody mouth, it was not small. Little gold wouldn't be thinking of swallowing the last bolt of lightning, right? An insane thought arose within Duan Ling Tian's heart. The facts proved that Duan Ling Tian was correct. The last bolt of lightning from the 6-9 heavenly tribulation, the bolt of lightning that was as thick as a grown man's arm, has fiercely smashed into little gold's open mouth. Little gold! Duan Ling Tian's heart rose to his throat. Only when he saw that bolt of lightning disappear within little gold's mouth and little gold standing in the air while burping, did Duan Ling Tian heave a sigh of relief. Everyone says I'm a freak and abnormal, but compared to this little fellow, I'm completely nothing, Duan Ling Tian said in his heart. Squeak squeak! Right at this moment, little gold's body gradually shrunk, then it transformed into a gold light that descended onto Duan Ling Tian's shoulder. Duan Ling Tian grabbed little gold and sized her up. He was able to see that there wasn't any obvious changes on the body of this infant Jade Eye's heavenly mouse as of now, yet its pairs of Jade Eyes had a trace of change. If he didn't carefully size her up, Duan Ling Tian wouldn't be able to have noticed. Deep within the Jade Eyes of little gold, there seemed to be a trace of violet lightning that was difficult to notice mixed within. Duan Ling Tian was able to confirm that little gold was absolutely not like this in the past. Could it be because of that bolt of heavenly tribulation that little gold swallowed? Duan Ling Tian couldn't refrain from recalling the scene from before, and he was deeply afraid. Opening the mouth and swallowing the strongest bolt of lightning within the 6-9 heavenly tribulation. Such a thing would probably only be done by this little fellow. Little gold, why did you swallow the last bolt of lightning? Duan Ling Tian looked at the little gold mouse and asked curiously. Squeak squeak! The little gold mouse only cared about crying out and ceaselessly shaking its little head. Duan Ling Tian was completely unable to perceive what meaning it wanted to express, and he had a bitter smile on his face. Unfortunately, there isn't much understanding of the Jade-Eyed Heavenly Mouse within the memories of the rebirth Martial Emperor. I only know that the Jade-Eyed Heavenly Mouse is an existence that can become a demon emperor. Suddenly, Duan Ling Tian's smile froze. Only because a light voice transmission sounded out in his ears. Bad, baddie, bad, bad, the voice belonged to a female and seemed immature, as if it was a little girl that was learning to speak. Who? Duan Ling Tian looked around and swept out his spiritual force, but he didn't notice anyone nearby. Bad, baddie, you're a baddie, the voice sounded out once again. Finally, Duan Ling Tian's gaze descended onto the little gold mouse in his hand, and he seemed like he'd seen a ghost. It's you that's talking to me. 403 Chapter 404, Grade 6 Weapons Craftsman. According to the memories of the rebirth martial emperor, amongst demon beasts, existences at the void prying stage possessed intelligence that was no inferior to humans. Existences at the void initiation stage were able to condense origin energy into sound and communicate with humans. Existences at the void interpretation stage were able to speak and directly communicate with humans. Existences at the void transformation stage were able to take human form. Demon beasts that had cultivated to this level had already broken away from the scope of beasts and were called demons. Besides their essence, demons were no different to humans in any other aspects. If one really wanted to point out a difference, then demons were stronger than most humans. After all, existences that could be called as demons were all existences at the void transformation stage or above. The void transformation stage, what notion was that? There was no existence at the void transformation stage even throughout the entire Darken dynasty, after all. Little Gold, aren't you a void prying stage demon beast? How can you? Duan Ling Tian quickly confirmed that it was indeed the little gold mouse that was talking to him via voice transmission, and it caused him to be astounded. Logically speaking, only a demon beast at the void initiation stage or above was able to condense origin energy into sound and communicate with humans. Just like Elder Peng, the little gold mouse was a demon beast that had only just stepped into the void prying stage. It's me, baddie, baddie, the voice that was pleasing to the ear entered into Duan Ling Tian's ears once again, and it sounded immature like a little girl. Baddie, Duan Ling Tian had heard it clearly this time, and he was completely speechless. When did I become a bad person? Could it be that in the eyes of the little gold mouse, I'm a bad person? Little Gold, I'm not a bad person. Duan Ling Tian tapped the small head of the little gold mouse and said in all seriousness. However, the little gold mouse paid no attention to him and continued sending voice transmissions by itself. Baddie, you're a bad person. Duan Ling Tian was speechless. Can she not communicate properly? Duan Ling Tian's gaze descended into the distance as he held the little gold mouse. The place the little gold mouse overcame the tribulation was covered in destruction and not a single complete patch of ground could be found. This place was the outer area of the primeval forest. Suddenly, Duan Ling Tian frowned as he vaguely sensed that there were a few people approaching here, as they ought to have noticed the events that occurred here. Whirlwind. Duan Ling Tian's figure flashed deep into the primeval forest and avoided all those people. He wasn't afraid of them as they were only Origin Core stage martial artists and were probably 7-star sword sect disciples. He didn't want to bring up unnecessary problems. Baddie, baddie, the little gold mouse's voice transmission continued to enter Duan Ling Tian's ears, becoming more and more proficient. Little Gold, how many times have I said it, I'm not a bad person. Duan Ling Tian glared as he said, if you continue to call me, baddie, then I'll throw you here and abandon you. Hee hee, the little gold mouse's pleasing voice of a young girl sounded out. Baddie, if you dare throw me here, big sister Kair will be unhappy. Duan Ling Tian rolled his eyes at the little gold mouse. Up to you, call me whatever you want. At this moment, Duan Ling Tian's tone contained slight helplessness within. Let's go in and have a look. Duan Ling Tian glanced at the inner area of the primeval forest, and under the urging of his curiosity, Duan Ling Tian brought along the little gold mouse and slowly made his way there. They'd encountered many demon beasts on the way, but they were all killed off by the little gold mouse. The little gold mouse was a first-level void prying stage demon beast now, so those fierce beasts below the void prying stage were completely helpless against the little gold mouse. Squeak squeak, accompanying the little gold mouse's complacent cry was her voice transmission that entered Duan Ling Tian's ears. Baddie, I'm formidable, right? Not bad, however, you ought to not be as formidable as Little Black and Little White, Duan Ling Tian nodded and said slowly. Unexpectedly, Duan Ling Tian's words caused the little gold mouse to completely become enraged. Who said so? Those two aren't as formidable as me, HMPH. That time, the two of them together weren't a match for me, and now that I've already evolved into a demon beast, they would be even less of a match for me. Duan Lingtian thought otherwise when he heard the little gold mouse. Little Black and Little White both had good fortune that belonged to them. This was something that was different from Little Gold. Moreover, the mysterious young girl, Han Shui Nai, that Little Black and Little White followed was obviously not an ordinary person, and they presumably would be able to obtain a great deal of benefits from following her. Now, they'd probably already evolved into demon beasts. HMPH. HMPH. I'll surely beat them down once they return. I'm surely stronger than them, I'm their big boss sister. The little gold mouse's voice transmission entered into Duan Lingtian's ears, and it was filled with confidence. Big boss sister. The corners of Duan Lingtian's mouth twitched, then he stretched his hand out to tap the little gold mouse on the head. Who taught you that? I heard someone say it when I and Big Sister K'er went to Alcade Peak, the little gold mouse said. Duan Lingtian was speechless. Looks like the little gold mouse was led astray by those female ruffians of Alcade Peak. As far as Duan Lingtian was concerned, those Alcade Peak female disciples that pounced at him like fierce tigers and wolves were no different to female ruffians. He was unable to have any peace every time he went to Alcade Peak. Fortunately, he'd become smart now, and when he went to look for Li Fei he would execute his movement technique and travel at full speed so the crowd of Alcade Peak female disciples were utterly incapable of noticing him. Even if they noticed him, they would be unable to recognize him. Duan Lingtian brought the little gold mouse to continue traveling deep into the primeval forest. The fierce beasts they encountered grew stronger and stronger, and there was no lack of half-step void stage fierce beasts amongst them. However, even if they were half-step void stage fierce beasts, they were still nothing in front of the little gold mouse. Batty, refine a spirit weapon for me. Duan Lingtian's eardrums slightly trembled and he heard the little gold mouse's voice transmission. Instantly, Duan Lingtian had a strange expression. You want a spirit weapon? What spirit weapon do you want? Let me think. The little gold mouse swayed its cute little head as it pondered, and after a short moment, it said jubilantly, refine a spirit sword for me, I always see Big Sister K'er cultivating the sword and it's rather nice to see. Spirit sword? Duan Lingtian was stunned, and an unusual scene couldn't help but appear in his mind. Within the scene, the little gold mouse's limbs held onto the spirit sword and dragged it along before swinging it out, directly killing a fierce beast. Duan Lingtian shuddered when he came back to his senses. If he gave this mischievous little fellow a spirit sword, then wouldn't the little fellow become even more rampant? However, Duan Lingtian didn't refuse the little gold mouse's request. What type of spirit sword do you want? Do you want one similar to mine or do you want me to refine a small spirit sword that suits you? Duan Lingtian looked at the little gold mouse and asked. The smaller the better. The little gold mouse's eyes lit up and sent a voice transmission into Duan Lingtian's ears, then muttered. I don't like becoming big, it's too fat, and so ugly. I look nice now, slim, beautiful, and cute, those big sisters on Alcade Peak all praise me when they see me. If I were to become big, it would surely scare them. Duan Lingtian was rather baffled by what the little gold mouse said. But he paid no attention to it. After all, the little gold mouse had only just learned how to condense her origin energy into sound, and her being able to communicate normally with him could already be considered to be not bad. But he'd roughly understood what the little gold mouse was muttering about. It was none other than the little gold mouse feeling that if it was too big a spirit sword, she would need to enlarge her physique before she could use it. Whereas she didn't like enlarging her physique. This little fellow is so smug. Duan Lingtian shook his head then looked at the fluffy and chubby little gold mouse, then said to himself, I really can't perceive which part of her is slim. Of course, Duan Lingtian didn't dare say this out loud. This little fellow was a void-prying stage demon beast right now. If the little fellow were to really get angry from embarrassment and directly become large, then wouldn't he directly become a pile of mush if the little fellow swung a slap at him? Alright, then I'll refine a spirit sword especially for you. Duan Lingtian nodded and promised. The little gold mouse's gaze lit up, and her front limbs ceaselessly clapped together as she said excitedly via voice transmission, okay, Batty, you're so good. I'll start refining now, help me stand on guard, if there's a fierce beast that approaches within an area of 100 meters from me, directly kill it, Duan Lingtian said to the little gold mouse. The little gold mouse nodded her head like a chick pecking grain when she heard this. The little gold mouse's figure flashed onto Duan Lingtian's shoulder, Then her jade eyes flickered with a fierce light as she sized up the surroundings. If anyone dares disturb Batty while he's refining a spirit sword for me, I'll surely smash them into mush. The little gold mouse's voice transmission sounded out in Duan Lingtian's ears, and the immature voice of a young girl contained traces of valor mixed within. This caused Duan Lingtian to be speechless. Is this really a little female mouse? Duan Lingtian shook his head and abandoned all distracting thoughts before withdrawing a pile of material and starting to refine the spirit sword. Hiss! A strand of green flames lit ablaze in Duan Lingtian's palm. Grade 6 Weapon Flame. After Duan Lingtian broke through to the nascent soul stage, he was directly capable of condensing a Grade 6 weapon flame by relying on the lifetime worth of experience and skills in weapons refinement of the rebirth martial emperor. It could be said that he was currently an extremely experienced Grade 6 weapons craftsman. A Grade 6 spirit weapon was something he could refine freely. After I broke through to the nascent soul stage, I've been busy advancing my cultivation and comprehending wind force. I haven't even had the time to refine a Grade 6 spirit sword for myself, and Li Fei. I'll first refine a Grade 6 spirit sword for this little fellow. After I return to the sect, I'll refine another 3 more Grade 6 spirit swords. Duan Lingtian decided in his heart. In next to no time, Duan Lingtian calmed down and officially started refining the spirit sword. Swoosh. Swoosh, 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 profound refining techniques came freely in Duan Lingtian's hand, and he combined them with the various materials, melting them into the Grade 6 spirit flame to transform into pools of liquid. Duan Lingtian's gaze was incomparably concentrated and he completely turned a deaf ears towards the things in the outside world. At this moment, only the pile of weapons crafting materials and the weapon flame in his hand remained in his world. Although the materials couldn't be considered to be a large amount, Duan Lingtian instead needed to refine them over and over again. The Grade 6 spirit sword he was refining for the little gold mouse was many times more difficult than refining an ordinary Grade 6 spirit sword. The smaller the spirit sword, the more energy would be spent. While Duan Lingtian was concentrated on refining the Grade 6 spirit sword, the little gold mouse had left Duan Lingtian's shoulder many times and flashed out. And before long, many fierce beasts' corpses lay on the ground 100 meters away from Duan Lingtian. Practically all these fierce beasts were killed by the little gold mouse with a single strike. 404 Chapter 405, The Ferocious Little Gold Mouse. The little gold mouse was a descendant of a jade-eyed heavenly mouse and possessed a pure bloodline. Now that she had advanced into a demon beast, she seemed to have the bearing of suppressing all ordinary first-level void-prying stage demon beasts. 2 hours quickly passed by. When Duan Lingtian withdrew his mind that was immersed in weapons refinement, he couldn't help but be startled when he saw the scene 100 meters away from him. Blood flowed into rivers in 100 meters away and the corpses of fierce beasts piled into a mountain. Batty, have you finished refining my spirit sword? The little gold mouse lay lazily on Duan Lingtian's shoulder and sent a voice transmission, muttering. So boring, no fierce beast has come over for half an hour, but I can't leave you and go look for them. The corners of Duan Lingtian's mouth twitched when he heard the little gold mouse. Even if there were fierce beasts that approached, so long as it wasn't a stupid fierce beast, then when it saw so many corpses of its own kind, it would probably be terrified to the point it turned and ran. Would they send themselves over for you to kill? This little gold mouse is simply a brute. Take it. Duan Lingtian passed the Grade 6 spirit sword that was as long as a pinky finger to the little gold mouse. This Grade 6 spirit sword's appearance was no different to an ordinary spirit sword, and the biggest distinguishing feature was its small size. Using the words from his previous life, that was a pocket-sized spirit sword. A bright light appeared in the little gold mouse's jade eyes as it pounced over, then its chubby little claws held onto the Grade 6 spirit sword, and she was extremely excited. Swoosh! In the blink of an eye, the little gold mouse dashed out, heading into the depths of the primeval forest. Batty, hurry up! The little gold mouse's excited voice sounded out by Duan Lingtian's ears, and he knew that the little gold mouse had surely gone to look for a fierce beast or demon beast to test the sword. The fierce beasts and demon beasts targeted by her are going to have bad luck. Duan Lingtian's executed whirlwind and his figure flashed out to follow the little gold mouse, silently mourning the fierce beasts and demon beasts that were about to die at the hands of the little gold mouse. It was also because the little gold mouse intentionally slowed down that he was able to follow the little gold mouse, otherwise, with Duan Lingtian's speed, Duan Lingtian wouldn't be able to follow no matter what. Roar! Suddenly, a deafening roar sounded out ahead. The little gold mouse stopped her flying figure and stood in the air. Her claws held the grade 6 spirit sword and her pair of jade eyes flickered with a sheen of excitement as she looked ahead. Meanwhile, Duan Lingtian had caught up. Duan Lingtian looked ahead, and there just happened to be a tiger fierce beast staring fiercely at the little gold mouse, and it opened its bloody mouth that emitted a horrible stench. Half-step void stage. Duan Lingtian's spiritual force stretched out and senses the fierce beast's strength at the first possible moment. Half-step void stage. Not to mention the little gold mouse that possessed a grade 6 spirit sword now, even if it was the little gold mouse before she possessed a grade 6 spirit sword, her strength was still sufficient to annihilate this fierce beast. Roar! The half-step void stage fierce beast roared a few more times, seeming to have perceived that the little gold mouse wasn't simple and its pair of sharp eyes revealed a trace of a sheen of terror. Then, flee! Duan Lingtian saw that this half-step void stage fierce beast actually turned and ran, as if it was a mouse that had encountered a cat. But, how could it possibly flee before the ferocious little gold mouse? Swoosh! The little gold mouse transformed into a gold light that flashed out, and in the blink of an eye, she was already before the half-step void stage fierce beast. Roar! Right when the half-step void stage fierce beast roared loudly. Squeak! The little gold mouse was unwilling to lag behind, and her sharp voice suppressed the fierce beast's roar. At the same time, origin energy raged and flickered with a frightful sheen atop the pocket-sized spirit sword in her hand. Squeak squeak! The little gold mouse cried out excitedly, then the grade 6 spirit sword in her hand swung out, seemed to have transformed into a bolt of lightning that flashed directly for the half-step void stage fierce beast. Instantly, the energy of heaven and earth roiled in the sky, and 2,800 ancient mammoth silhouettes condensed into form above the little gold mouse, then dashed out in tow. Swoosh! Swish! The little gold mouse's figure flashed and the sound of the howls of wind and the sword sounded out at the same time. Duan Lingtian saw something flash before his eyes and the half-step void stage fierce beast was killed by the little gold mouse with a single sword strike. It crashed onto the ground, tainting the ground with dazzling and eye-piercing blood. The grade 6 spirit sword Duan Lingtian refined for little gold was able to provide an amplification of 40%. Squeak squeak! The little gold mouse returned to Duan Lingtian's side and its jade eyes contained excitement mixed within. Formidable! Formidable! The little gold mouse's excited voice, young female voice, entered into Duan Lingtian's ears. Now, when Duan Lingtian heard this slightly immature voice, traces of coldness arose in his heart instead. This little gold mouse was a complete brute. Continue, continue. Duan Lingtian had only just gathered up the beast core and remains of the half-step void stage fierce beast when he heard the little gold mouse's voice again. The little gold mouse led the way at the front, and continued to enter deep into the primeval forest. This little fellow has really gotten addicted to this. Duan Lingtian smiled bitterly as he followed, his expression becoming slightly serious. Because he knew that they might encounter a demon beast if they continued to walk towards the depths of the primeval forest. The weakest demon beast was at the first level of the void prying stage, and its strength would be on par with the little gold mouse. However, the little gold mouse had a grade 6 spirit sword to rely on. So long as she didn't encounter a demon beast at the second level of the void prying stage or above, then she ought to not have too much pressure. After a short moment, Duan Lingtian and the little gold mouse encountered a first-level void prying stage fierce beast. It was just as Duan Lingtian had thought. The first-level void prying stage fierce beast was completely incapable of withstanding a single sword strike from the little gold mouse. Alright, little gold, don't go any further. Duan Lingtian secretly broke out in cold sweat when he saw the little gold mouse still wanting to go deeper into the primeval forest after killing the first-level void prying stage fierce beast. This little fellow was truly like a newborn calf that didn't know the terrors of a tiger. Perhaps it was because she perceived the seriousness in Duan Lingtian's words. Although the little gold mouse was unwilling, she still obediently stopped moving, then flashed back to descend onto Duan Lingtian's shoulder. Batty, this spirit sword is really nice. The little gold mouse's voice transmission entered into Duan Lingtian's ears. Can you not call me Batty? Duan Lingtian was slightly helpless. No matter how he heard it, the little gold mouse's way of addressing him was uncomfortable to him. No, the little gold mouse's voice was resolute and decisive, without any room for discussion. If you still call me Batty, then I won't help you advance the grade of your spirit sword. Duan Lingtian smiled as he looked at the little gold mouse, his eyes flickering with a glow of cunning, and had an expression that said, I got you. What's the benefit of increasing the grade? The little gold mouse's words caused Duan Lingtian to be speechless for a while. It seemed like this little fellow didn't know entirely about the difference between spirit weapons of various grades. Along with Duan Lingtian's patient explanation, the little gold mouse came to a sudden understanding, and a pitiable luster appeared in her jade eyes. But, you're undoubtedly a bad person, why can't I call you that? When have I been bad? Duan Lingtian was speechless. HMPH. The little gold mouse stared at Duan Lingtian and said slowly via voice transmission. You helped those two little serpents bully me in the past, you still dare say you aren't a bad person? Duan Lingtian was stunned. Only now did he recall that this did indeed happen. At that time, he'd just bought the little gold mouse from the auction in Blackwind City. He'd seen people who held a grudge, but he'd really never seen one that held a grudge to this extent. Duan Lingtian had never imagined that the small matter from that day would be remembered by the little gold mouse for so long. Then I won't help them bully you in the future, all right? Duan Lingtian glared at the little gold mouse, and silently said in his heart, perhaps, once little black and little white return, they won't need my help to beat little gold down. Then what should I call you? Duan Lingtian knew that the little gold mouse had made a compromise when he heard her voice. Since you call Kaur as big sister Kaur, then call me big brother Lingtian, how about it? Big brother Lingtian. Although the little gold mouse was disobedient, she had the disposition of a child after all. After she experienced the might of the spirit sword, she was filled with dependence on it. Under the temptation of the high-grade spirit sword that Duan Lingtian promised, she was completely without resistance and chose to compromise. All right, we should go back now. Your big sister Kaur ought to be. Duan Lingtian hadn't finished speaking when his face went grim. His acute spiritual force that he'd extended out had vaguely sensed a terrifying aura. That was the aura of a second-level void-prying stage demon beast. Let's go. Duan Lingtian didn't dare hesitate, using all his ability and whirlwind, seeming to transform into a gale as he directly flashed out. His destination went straight towards the outer area of the primeval forest. Whoosh! Right when Duan Lingtian dashed out, an ear-piercing howl of the wind sounded out and an enormous figure forcefully obstructed Duan Lingtian's path. Big brother Lingtian, it's here. The little gold mouse's voice transmission sounded out in a timely manner. Duan Lingtian couldn't help but lower his head and roll his eyes. I saw. Ow! Presently, it was an enormous wolf that stood before Duan Lingtian. This enormous wolf was an entire 3 meters tall and its bloody mouth could stuff in many Duan Lingtians. Most importantly, this was a second-level void-prying stage demon beast. Duan Lingtian felt a wave of powerlessness in his heart, and angrily glared at the little gold mouse. Little gold, it's all your fault. If it wasn't for you wanting to go deep into the primeval forest, we wouldn't have encountered this fellow. Now we both are probably going to die here. Although the little gold mouse was able to exert a strength of 2,800 ancient mammoths when utilizing the grade 6 spirit sword, a second-level void-prying stage demon beast had a strength comparably to 3,000 ancient mammoths when exploding forth with its full strength. Even when the little gold mouse possessed the grade 6 spirit sword, she wasn't a match for it. Kill it! Kill it! Duan Lingtian's eardrums shook, and the little gold mouse's excited voice transmission entered his ears. Kill it! Are you going to do it? Duan Lingtian glared at the little gold mouse and said angrily. In the next moment, Duan Lingtian felt his shoulder become light, and he could hear a wave of wind howls flashing out, sweeping towards the enormous wolf demon beast that possessed a cultivation at the second level of the void-prying stage. Little gold! Duan Lingtian's face went pale. He never imagined that the little gold mouse would be so bold and directly charge over. Right when Duan Lingtian had an expression of worry and his heart burned with anxiety. The scene before his eyes caused Duan Lingtian to be completely dumbstruck. While the little gold mouse dashed out in a flash, a sword howl resounded out, and 2,800 ancient mammoth silhouettes condensed into form in the sky. Subsequently, there was actually another 500 ancient mammoth silhouettes that condensed into form. 405 Chapter 406, Half-Step Advanced Lightning Force. Squeak squeak, the little gold mouse provoked enormous wolf demon beast as she raised up the grade 6 spirit sword. At this moment, origin energy suffused and raged atop the spirit sword. If one were to look carefully, then it could be noticed that there seemed to be numerous violet lightning that were difficult to notice mixed within the raging origin energy. The violet lightning coiled around the origin energy and emitted traces of a strange aura. Squeak. Suddenly, the little gold mouse let out a screech, then her body flashed out, transforming into an arrow that left a heavy bow, flashing towards the enormous wolf demon beast. Ow! The enormous wolf was instantly enraged from being provoked by a tiny little thing, and origin energy skyrocketed atop its sharp claws and they flickered with a frightful cold light as it pounced towards the little gold mouse, and its claws enveloped towards the little gold mouse. 3,000 ancient mammoth silhouettes condensed into form above the enormous wolf, then they dashed out in tow with great force. Watch out! Duan Lingtian's face went grim when he saw this scene, and he couldn't help but warn the little gold mouse. Bang! Right at this moment, an oppressive thunderclap abruptly exploded out. In the next moment, the airflow in the sky flashed and it was the little gold mouse that had dangerously avoided the enormous wolf's attack, dodging to the side. There seemed to be numerous violet lightning that were difficult to notice within the origin energy suffused on the little gold mouse's body, and they emitted strands of strange aura. Lightning force. Duan Lingtian's pupils constricted. Earlier, when he saw the little gold mouse exert strength and the extra 500 ancient mammoth silhouettes that appeared in the sky, Duan Lingtian had guessed that it might be the strength of force. Now, he was practically able to confirm it. The little gold mouse had indeed comprehended force. Moreover, it wasn't elementary force but instead was half-step advanced force. Precisely speaking, it was half-step advanced lightning force. Lightning force was similar to Duan Lingtian's wind force and Zhang Shouyang's earth force. They all belonged to the forces of nature and were able to supplement both offense and speed. They possessed both offense and speed. Just like when the little gold mouse avoided the enormous wolf's attack earlier, she'd used the half-step advanced lightning force on her feet and relied on the recoil from the explosions of lightning combined with her own strength to dodge to the side in time. Swoosh! Something flashed before Duan Lingtian's eyes and he only saw a wild light flash by and an ear-piercing sword howl enter his ears. The airflow in the sky split apart. Ow! At practically the exact same moment, a miserable howl sounded out. Only now did Duan Lingtian notice that at the instant she dodged the enormous wolf's attack, the little gold mouse had targeted the enormous wolf's throat and pierced throughout with a single stab. The strength of the little gold mouse's sword strike was comparable to the strength of 3,300 ancient mammoths. The speed of the sword was something that was difficult to reach for the enormous wolf demon beast that only possessed a strength of 3,000 ancient mammoths. Of course, it was most importantly because the enormous wolf hadn't had the chance to react yet. Otherwise, even if it was unable to dodge this sword strike, it would still be able to move its neck away, and it wouldn't come to the extent of suffering the little gold mouse's deadly strike and being killed directly. Bang! The enormous figure of the enormous wolf that had flashed into midair crashed onto the ground while accompanied with a pillar of blood that gushed out, and it was completely without a trace of life. The second-level void-prying stage demon beast was dead. Squeak squeak, the little gold mouse was extremely excited when it saw the enormous wolf was killed, then it arrived before Duan Lingtian and twisted up its chubby little butt. Big brother Lingtian, I'm formidable, right? The little gold mouse's voice transmission had no lack of an intention to seek credit. Formidable. Duan Lingtian's gaze still stared blankly at the enormous wolf that dropped on the ground and he felt as if he was dreaming. The second-level void-prying stage demon beast was killed by little gold just like that. Hee, this dog is extremely stupid. The little gold mouse's voice entered into Duan Lingtian's ears in good time, causing the corners of Duan Lingtian's mouth to be unable to refrain from twitching. Dog. This little gold actually said a second-level void-prying stage enormous wolf fierce beast was a dog. Duan Lingtian shook his head then gathered up the enormous wolf's beast core, then brought along little gold to walk all the way out of the primeval forest. Big brother Lingtian, refine a spatial ring for me. The little gold mouse's eyes flickered with a sheen of pity, and looked at Duan Lingtian in anticipation. Okay, I'll refine one for you when we return. Duan Lingtian nodded in a slightly stiff manner, then the little gold mouse became big and carried him flying towards the location of Megre's peak, as he intended to directly return to the stalactite cave. On the way, little gold, when did you comprehend half-step advanced lightning force? Duan Lingtian sat on the little gold mouse's fluffy back and asked in wonder. His heart couldn't help but surge when he recalled the scene from before. The little gold mouse had actually comprehended half-step advanced lightning force. Hee, the little gold mouse's voice transmission contained slight complacency mixed within. This is the natural talent of our jade-eyed heavenly mouse. After we advance into a demon beast, we're able to use the last bolt of lightning of the 6-9 heavenly tribulation to comprehend elementary lightning force. However, my circumstances seemed to be slightly different, and I was actually able to directly comprehend half-step advanced lightning force. Duan Lingtian had a bitter smile on his face when he heard the little gold mouse. The jade-eyed heavenly mice were worth of being called supreme demon beasts in the memories of the rebirth martial emperor. They were actually able to use the 6-9 heavenly tribulation to comprehend force. It was shocking. However, Duan Lingtian's attention quickly moved to the second half of what the little gold mouse said. Ordinary jade-eyed heavenly mice use the 6-9 heavenly tribulation to comprehend elementary lightning force, whereas the little gold mouse instead comprehended half-step advanced lightning force. Is this related to the 10,000-year stalactite milk that the little gold mouse consumed? Duan Lingtian thought secretly in his heart. In next to no time, the little gold mouse brought Duan Lingtian to the side of Megrez Peak, to stand on the air beside the tilted tree. Duan Lingtian leapt onto the tilted tree and walked into the stalactite cave. The little gold mouse became small and followed him. If I'll refine a spatial ring for you, you'll probably be unable to wear it. How about this? I'll refine a collar for you, Duan Lingtian said to the little gold mouse before starting to get busy. A grade 7 weapons craftsman was able to refine a spatial ring. As a grade 6 weapons craftsman, coupled with having inherited the lifetime worth of weapons refinement experience of the rebirth martial emperor, refining a spatial ring was a piece of cake to Duan Lingtian. Not only that, Duan Lingtian was able to infer things from what he already knew, so he was able to perfectly duplicate the functions of a spatial ring onto any accessory. After bustling about for a while, a collar appeared in Duan Lingtian's hand. I used special materials that possessed great elasticity on this collar. Wearing it won't affect your ability to become big or shrink. After he made the little gold mouse drip blood and establish ownership on the collar, he placed the collar on the little gold mouse's neck. In next to no time, the little gold mouse had learned how to use the collar, and she kept the grade 6 spirit sword in her hand. So you wanted this thing to place your grade 6 spirit sword in it? Duan Lingtian shook his head and smiled. Big brother Lingtian, this can't be called a spatial ring, right? The little gold mouse excitedly shook the collar on her neck and asked via voice transmission. Yes, this can be considered to be a spatial collar. Duan Lingtian nodded. No matter was it a spatial ring or a spatial collar, they only had one function, and that was to store things without life. Alright, your big sister Kair ought to have already woke up from her cultivation, let's go see her. Duan Lingtian brought the little gold mouse along to leave the stalactite cave, and only now did he notice that the sky was gradually going dim and it was already dusk. Duan Lingtian had just left the peak of Megrez Peak and had just arrived nearby the Megrez Peak trade hall when he frowned. Nearby, a figure stopped dead in his tracks and looked at him. The Megrez Peak outer court elder, Zhao Ling. Duan Lingtian, I heard that you seized first place in the 5 great sects martial competition this time. Zhao Lin looked at Duan Lingtian with a gaze as if he was looking at an unparalleled treasure. The flames of greed and burning desire that jumped about in his eyes seemed as if they could burn everything into ash. A 22-year-old 4th-level nascent soul stage martial artist had comprehended elementary wind force, and defeated the saber young master of the 5 great young masters to seize the first in the martial competition of the 5 great sects. As far as he was concerned, all the glory of Duan Lingtian was surely sourced from that muscle meridian rebirth scroll. So what? Duan Lingtian glanced indifferently at Zhao Lin, then circumnavigated past Zhao Lin. For a time, the crowd of Megrez Peak disciples surrounded over and had jubilant expressions. Congratulations, senior brother Duan Lingtian. Congratulations, senior brother Duan Lingtian. Congratulations, senior brother Duan Lingtian. Obviously, all these Megrez Peak disciples had heard the news of him seizing first place in the martial competition of the 5 great sects. Zhao Ling's had a gloomy expression as he gazed at Duan Lingtian's back, and his eyes revealed traces of viciousness. Duan Lingtian, I'll find a chance, I'll surely kill you and seize the muscle meridian rebirth scroll. The greed in Zhao Ling's heart was almost to the point of madness. Big brother Lingtian, that person earlier seems to have killing intent towards you, want me to help you kill him? The little gold mouse's immature voice that was like a young girl sounded out in Duan Lingtian's ears, and traces of excitement was mixed within. As if killing someone was an extremely enticing matter to her. Duan Lingtian laughed bitterly in his heart. This little gold was really a little demon. I want to kill him as well, but this place isn't suitable. Duan Lingtian restrained the little gold mouse. If the little gold mouse were to make a move here, it would truly be too noticeable. It was fine if Zhao Lin didn't have any background, as with his current status in the eyes of the 7-star sword sect's leader, Lingu Jinhong, killing Zhao Lin was nothing. But the problem was that there was a guardian elder behind this Zhao Ling, and the status of a guardian elder in the 7-star sword sect was similar to the sect leader. It was to the extent that because of the high seniority of the guardian elder, even the sect leader, Lingu Jinhong, had to address them respectfully as martial uncle. Duan Lingtian could imagine that once the little gold mouse killed Zhao Lin today, then he would surely draw extremely great troubles to himself. At that time, even if the sect leader, Lingu Jinhong, wanted to protect him, the sect leader would probably be powerless. Okay, then we'll wait for a suitable time to kill him. Little Gold's voice transmission entered into Duan Lingtian's ears again. The seemingly immature voice of a young girl seemed innocent and pure when heard, but the content of the voice instead caused Duan Lingtian to shudder. Fortunately, this little fellow is a friend and not an enemy. Duan Lingtian shook his head and he slightly rejoiced in his heart. In next to no time, Duan Lingtian had slowly stepped onto the chain bridge that headed to the main peak, Dubi Peak to go see KR. 406 Chapter 407, Go Fly a Kite. The crowd of Megrez Peak disciples respectfully sent Duan Lingtian off with their gazes. They only recovered to their senses after Duan Lingtian's figure disappeared before them, and the exclamations of surprise rose and fell. I really never imagined that senior brother Duan Lingtian would actually defeat the demonic Lotus Blade sect's saber young master and seize first place in the martial competition of the 5 great sects. Senior brother Duan Lingtian is too terrifying. In the past, I felt that his natural talent wasn't inferior to those first-rate figures like the 5 great young masters. I never imagined that he'd directly beat down Saber Young Master. During the last 2 martial competitions of the 5 great sects, our 7-star sword sect didn't even get in the top 3. This time, we directly seized first place. Senior brother Duan Lingtian has truly brought glory to our 7-star sword sect. As expected of my idol. He's only 22 and already possesses such accomplishments. Once a few years have passed, sweeping through the other 4 of the 5 great young masters that are the most outstanding in the younger generation of our Azure Forest Imperial Kingdom would be nothing difficult. With senior brother Duan Lingtian's current situation, defeating the zither young master in the agreed battle 1 year from now might not be hopeless. As the crowd of Megrez Peak disciples discussed, they moved the topic to the agreement between Duan Lingtian and zither young master. 1 year ago, Duan Lingtian and the zither young master had settled upon the 2-year agreement. This matter had spread throughout the 7-star sword sect since long ago. At that time, they didn't look favorably upon Duan Lingtian. After all, although Duan Lingtian's natural talent was not bad and was not inferior to zither young master, as far as they were concerned, at that time, it was extremely difficult for Duan Lingtian to surpass zither young master if he was only given 2 years of time. Now that they knew Duan Lingtian's cultivation had broken through to the 4th level of the nascent soul stage and had defeated one of the 5 great young masters, Saber Young Master, to seize first place in the martial competition, they had seen hope. I believe that senior brother Duan Lingtian will surely defeat the zither young master 1 year from now and create a miracle again. All the Megrez Peak disciples were filled with confidence towards Duan Lingtian. Only Zhao Ling, who was at a corner of the trade hall, had a gloomy expression and seemed out of place from everything in the surroundings. 4th level nascent soul stage and elementary wind force. This won't do. I can't allow Duan Lingtian to continue growing. I must find an opportunity to kill him and seize the muscle meridian rebirth scroll. Zhao Ling's expression was savage and terrifying, and his eyes emitted frightful fierce lights. If he's given another few years of time, wouldn't he possibly break through to the void prying stage and catch up to me or even surpass me? When he thought up to here, Zhao Lin's heart burned with anxiety. He wished for nothing more than to directly chase and kill Duan Lingtian. In the end, his reason defeated his impulse. Presently, Duan Lingtian has seized first place in the martial competition and has seized the glory for the 7-star sword sect that the sect hasn't obtained in a long time. The sect leader surely has an extremely high regard for him. It must be done secretly if I want to kill him. Otherwise, even grandfather would be unable to protect me. Zhao Lin knew clearly in his heart that although his grandfather was the guardian elder of the 7-star sword sect, his grandfather wasn't able to control everything by himself. If he were to kill the person who rendered a meritorious service to the 7-star sword sect, then the sect leader and the other guardian elder would surely not let him off. Duan Lingtian, I'll surely find a chance. Zhao Lin's eyes emitted a sheen of greed and ruthlessness. As for Duan Lingtian, he naturally didn't know of Zhao Lin's current thoughts. Or perhaps, even if he did know of it, he wouldn't care. Duan Lingtian had arrived at Alcade Hall once again and noticed that Kair had already awoken from her cultivation. When Duan Lingtian saw Kair once again, he couldn't help but be stunned, as he kept having the feeling that there seemed to be a change in Kair. When his spiritual force extended, he noticed the root of the problem at the first possible moment. Kair, you broke through to the second level of the nascent soul stage. Duan Lingtian had a surprised expression. Yes. Kair lightly smiled and nodded, then asked. Young master, when did you return? Right, little gold is missing, did she go look for you? As she finished speaking, Kair's beautiful brows frowned and slight worry was mixed within her expression. I returned today at noon and you just happened to be cultivating. As for little gold, she's here. Duan Lingtian raised his hand and grabbed out the little gold mouse that was hiding in his sleeve. Little gold, you weren't mischievous, right? Kair stretched out her delicate hand to lightly stroke the little gold mouse's head as she lightly smiled and asked. The little gold mouse hurriedly shook her head. In the next moment, Duan Lingtian saw that the smile on Kair's face froze and her expression was filled with astonishment. Duan Lingtian could guess that it was surely that the little gold mouse had sent a voice transmission to communicate with Kair, and it had frightened Kair. The facts proved that Duan Lingtian's guess was correct. Kair's beautiful face was stunned for a short moment before speaking with slight disbelief. Little gold, you're able to communicate with me via voice transmission. Yes, big sister Kair. After I broke through to the void-prying stage and overcame the 6-9 heavenly tribulation, I'm now able to condense my origin energy into sound and communicate with human martial artists. It's all thanks to Big Brother Lingtian who took me to go overcome the heavenly tribulation. Otherwise, I would still be unable to find my way. This time, the little gold mouse's voice transmission entered into both Duan Lingtian and Kair's ears. You still have the nerve to say that? You're truly timid like a mouse. Duan Lingtian shook his head and smiled. I am a mouse, a jade-eyed heavenly mouse, the little gold mouse said as a matter of course, then stopped before continuing. There are too many existences above the void-prying stage within the 7-star sword sect. If it wasn't for my strength being inferior to them and I was worried of being discovered by them, I'd surely dare to look for a place to overcome the tribulation myself. As she finished speaking, the little gold mouse provided justification for herself. When they heard the little gold mouse, Duan Lingtian and Kair glanced at each other and couldn't hold back their laughter. This little fellow still knows how to defend herself. Young master, what was the outcome from your trip to the demonic Lotus Blade sect to participate in the martial competition of the 5 great sects? I heard master say that the 7-star sword sect has missed the top 3 in the martial competition for 2 successive martial competitions already. Kair asked curiously. When Duan Lingtian heard Kair ask this, he knew that Kair still didn't know of the news that was spread and gave rise to much discussion outside, and he smiled mysteriously as he said, this time, our 7-star sword sect's disciples seized first place in the martial competition. First in the martial competition? Kair was stunned then asked curiously. Young master, could it be that the sect leader's personal disciple, Huangji, seized first place in the martial competition of the 5 great sects for the 7-star sword sect? Kair wasn't too clear of Duan Lingtian's current strength. She only knew that her young master's strength was stronger than her, but she'd never asked for Duan Lingtian's specific strength. As far as she was concerned, although the young master's natural talent was outstanding, his age was still young, after all. Even if he participated in the martial competition of the 5 great sects, he'd presumably be unable to get any ranking. Huangji. Duan Lingtian shook his head, and when he thought of the scene of Huangji betraying the sect leader in the 7-star sword sect, his expression couldn't help but slightly sink. That Huangji was ungrateful to kindness and was virtually an ungrateful bastard. Huangji's actions incurred great indignation by all. Young master, what's wrong? Kair noticed that Duan Lingtian's expression was off and her beautiful face went pale as she asked nervously. Did Kair say something wrong? As she finished speaking, Kair's eyes contained tears that were about to drop. Kair was incomparably strong when facing outsiders, but she was instead extremely tender and soft before Duan Lingtian. To her, Duan Lingtian was her heaven, her everything. Duan Lingtian's every action would affect her emotions at all times. It's nothing. Duan Lingtian's heart ached slightly when he saw Kair's delicate and touching appearance. Duan Lingtian stretched out his hand to take Kair's hand, then pinched the center of her palm as he said with a light smile, "Silly girl, I just thought of that ungrateful bastard, it has nothing to do with you." Ungrateful bastard. A wisp of bewilderment appeared on Kair's beautiful face when she heard this. Huangji. Duan Lingtian retold all the actions of Huangji. After Kair finished listening to it, her beautiful face seemed to be covered in a layer of thin ice. Huangji has really gone too far. The sect leader fostered him to his current accomplishments, but he actually repaid the sect leader like this. The sect leader is surely extremely grieved now, right? Of course. Duan Lingtian nodded, then sighed. If I placed myself in his position and thought about it, it isn't difficult to feel the sect leader's current feelings. Alright, let's not talk about this. Kair nodded then blinked her pretty eyes as the thin ice on her face melted and she stared fixedly at Duan Lingtian. Young master, it was you who seized first place in the martial competition for the 7-star sword sect, right? Why would you think that? Duan Lingtian was stunned, as he never expected Kair would suddenly say this. Could it be that the little gold mouse secretly told her? For a time, Duan Lingtian's gaze descended onto the little gold mouse. He still remembered that when he brought the little gold mouse over from Megrez Peak earlier, there was a group of Megrez Peak disciples that surrounded him and congratulated him for seizing first place in the martial competition of the 5 great sects. Presumably, this little fellow heard it as well. The little gold mouse noticed Duan Lingtian looking over and hurriedly shook her head as she sent a voice transmission. I didn't tell her. Young master, I guessed it. Kair couldn't refrain from bursting into laughter when she saw Duan Lingtian questioning the little gold mouse and the little gold mouse's innocent expression. Her smile was like a flower, causing Duan Lingtian to be stunned for a moment. Young master, you're really formidable. Kair noticed Duan Lingtian's burning gaze and her face flushed red, and it seemed as if blood would drip out. Kair, young master's formidableness is yet to come. Duan Lingtian blinked his eyes at Kair with an evil smile on his face, then stretched his hand to embrace Kair up by the waist before walking towards the room. At the same time, Duan Lingtian raised his hand and tossed the little gold mouse in his hand flying. Little gold, go fly kites. I'll throw you to the sect leader tomorrow if you dare disturb us, and ask him to stew you and make a pot of nourishing soup. Bang! Duan Lingtian embraced Kair and entered the room before closing the room door. The little gold mouse stood in midair, and her pair of jade eyes flickered with threads of anger. Big brother Lingtian is bad, you bully. Although she was angry, the little gold mouse really didn't dare go disturb Duan Lingtian, and her body flashed to descend onto the pavilion in Alcade Hall before staring blankly. Swoosh! Right at this moment, a dignified and graceful figure appeared within the pavilion, and it was a beautiful woman. Little gold, why are you here? The beautiful woman's gaze descended onto the little gold mouse as she asked curiously. 407 Chapter 408, Ancient River Trading Company. Squeak squeak, the little gold mouse heard the beautiful woman's words and she stretched out her claw to point towards the distant room, her jade eyes filled with anger. Flowing lights revolved in the beautiful woman's pretty eyes when she saw this and she smiled slightly, seeming to have guessed something. Duan Lingtian and Kair finally had some time together after a very long time, and they lingered together until deep into the night before leaving the room. After they left the room, they arrived atop the pavilion and at the first possible moment, they saw the beautiful woman that was teasing the little gold mouse. Master. Kair bowed respectfully, her beautiful face flushing cutely. Peak Master. Duan Lingtian greeted as well. He remained unfazed and didn't forget to blink at Kair, causing Kair to be embarrassed to the point she wished for nothing more than to dig a hole and hide within. The beautiful woman was the Peak Master of Alcade Peak, Qin Shang. Qing Xian lightly smiled and nodded to Kair, then her gaze descended onto Duan Lingtian and she sighed lightly. Duan Lingtian, I really never imagined that you'd actually seize first place in the martial competition for the 7-star sword sect. Our 7-star sword sect hasn't seized first in the martial competition of the 5 great sects for a very long time. As she spoke up to hear, Qin Shang slightly recalled past memories. Duan Lingtian's brows raised, he'd heard the sect leader, Lingu Jinhong, speak of this before. The last time the 7-star sword sect seized first in the martial competition was almost 20 years ago. At that time, the person that seized the first for the 7-star sword sect was precisely the Alcade Peak's master before him, Qin Shang. Before long, Qin Shang changed the topic. The 2-year agreement between you and the zither young master will arrive in a year. I've discussed it with the sect leader. We'll let you go out and gain experience since your current strength is already not inferior to a 6th-level nascent soul stage martial artist. Gain experience. Duan Lingtian was stunned. Qin Shang nodded and said slowly, I presume you've heard since long ago that our 7-star sword sect possesses many businesses in various places in the Azure Forest Imperial Kingdom, whereas besides some external affairs elders, it's mostly inner court disciples above the age of 30 that are in charge of managing these businesses. Duan Lingtian nodded as he'd heard of this. Qin Shang continued, after the discussion between me and the sect leader, we've decided to send you to the ancient city of Everlast. The ancient city of Everlast? Duan Lingtian couldn't help but be stunned when he heard Qin Shang. He wasn't unfamiliar to the ancient city of Everlast. 2 years ago, when he and Li Fei had left the 7-star sword sect to head to Solitary Summit, they had gone to the ancient city of Everlast. After that, they even got acquainted with Zhang Shouyang and Wang Chong in the ancient city of Everlast. Our 7-star sword sect has businesses in the ancient city of Everlast. Duan Lingtian was slightly surprised. Qin Shang nodded. Our 7-star sword sect doesn't have any businesses in the ancient city of Everlast. However, 2 external affairs elders and some inner court disciples of our 7-star sword sect are protecting the ancient river trading company in the ancient city of Everlast. Protecting a trading company? Duan Lingtian's brows raised as he never imagined that the 7-star sword sect would be related to the trading companies of the Azure Forest Imperial Kingdom. Presumably, the 7-star sword sect inner court disciples that were protecting the ancient river trading company ought to be able to obtain a certain amount of fees. This was something that Duan Lingtian could be sure about. When am I leaving? Duan Lingtian asked. Tomorrow. Qin Shang said, you just have to go look for the sect leader at noon tomorrow. Duan Lingtian nodded. Duan Lingtian then bid his farewells to both Kair and Qin Shang before leaving Alcade Hall. He cultivated for the entire night after he returned to the stalactite cave. At dawn the next day, Duan Lingtian went to Alcade Peak to look for Li Fei and told her how he would be temporarily leaving for some time. Duan Lingtian didn't bring along Kair and Li Fei when he left this time. According to what the Alcade Peak's master, Qin Shang, and Elder Bai said, the ancient city of Everlast was too chaotic. Coupled with the fact that Duan Lingtian was going to gain experience and not for a tour, if the 2 girls were to follow by Duan Lingtian's side then they might affect Duan Lingtian. Swoosh! A black figure flashed into the sky from outside the 7-star sword sect's Dubi Hall, then shot straight up into the air before concealing itself and vanishing within the cloud and mist. At the same time, high above in the air, a young man that wore a 7-star sword sect inner court disciple's attire stood atop an enormous eagle that tore through the sky with extremely swift speed. The handsome and extraordinary young man with sword-shaped brows saw through the cloud and mist to descend towards the distance as he muttered. With this first-level nascent soul stage sun eagle to carry me, it would take at most a month to reach the ancient city of Everlast. It was Duan Lingtian who'd left the 7-star sword sect. Presently, Duan Lingtian stood on the sun eagle and flew through the sky. Although the speed of the sun eagle couldn't compare to Elder Peng, it still far surpassed that of a Fergana horse. The 7-star sword sect's leader had entrusted Elder Peng to capture this sun eagle for Duan Lingtian. It wasn't that Elder Peng was stingy, but the stronger a flying beast was, the more difficult it was to be tamed. Just this first-level nascent soul stage sun eagle had caused Duan Lingtian to spend 3 hours of relying on his entire strength to be able to completely tame it. Squeak squeak, a wave of cries echoed out from beneath Duan Lingtian's sleeve. In next to no time, a gold and fluffy small head had stuck out, and she blinked her jade eyes as she looked at Duan Lingtian. It was the little gold mouse that always followed by Kair's side, the infant jade-eyed heavenly mouse. Big brother Lingtian, this mixed-hair bird's speed is too slow. Duan Lingtian's eardrums slightly trembled, and the little gold mouse's immature voice that was like a young girl's entered into his ears. Duan Lingtian rolled his eyes at the little golf mouse. You really compared yourself with it? Didn't you think what cultivation it has and what your cultivation is? Or, do you want to become big and take me to the ancient city of Everlast? In this way, it would take a few days at most for us to arrive there. HMPH. I don't want to become big, it's so ugly, so fat, so embarrassing, the little gold mouse's voice transmission sounded out without stop. This caused Duan Lingtian to be speechless, then his gaze descended onto the chubby body of the little gold mouse and shook his head as he sighed. This little fellow really has a good perception of herself. Could it be that she thinks she isn't fat now? They didn't encounter any trouble on the way because they traveled high in the air all the way. 1 month later, the Sun Eagle beneath Duan Lingtian slowed down, then plunged down before flying at a low altitude. Meanwhile, the clouds and mist before him completely dispersed, and a simple and ancient city appeared before Duan Lingtian's eyes. In the distance, the ancient city seemed like a colossus that was hibernating in the desert, and it opened up its bloody mouth and ceaselessly swallowed the merchants and pedestrians within the desert. Ancient City of Everlast. Duan Lingtian had a feeling as if they were worlds apart when he saw the ancient City of Everlast again. He'd only passed by the ancient City of Everlast the last time he came here, as his main destination was still the solitary summit, but the destination this time was instead the ancient City of Everlast itself. Outside the ancient City of Everlast, many people rode flying beasts to the city. If it was just this, then Duan Lingtian would be insufficient to draw the attention of others. However, most of the people that were near Duan Lingtian couldn't refrain from repeatedly looking at Duan Lingtian. These gazes all descended onto Duan Lingtian's clothes. The inner court attire of the 7-star sword sect was undoubtedly a signboard. This young man looks to be a little over 20, and is absolutely not older than 23, he's actually a 7-star sword sect inner court disciple. According to my knowledge, the minimum requirement for becoming a 7-star sword sect inner court disciple is to be at the 7th level of the origin core stage. Besides that, because of the strictness of the 7-star sword sect's inner court disciple test, normally it's only people that have stepped into the 8th level of the origin core stage that would be able to pass the inner court disciple test for sure. The younger generation of the 7-star sword sect lacks strong successors. The disciple with the strongest natural talent seems to be the 7-star sword sect's leader's personal disciple, Huangji. But even Huangji was only an outer court disciple at that age, right? Looks like this young man ought to have replicated a 7-star sword sect inner court disciple's attire and is pretending to be a 7-star sword sect inner court disciple because he wants to pass himself off as a genuine inner court disciple. It ought to be so. Many people that saw Duan Lingtian passing started discussing animatedly, and within their discussions, they didn't think Duan Lingtian was a real inner court disciple of the 7-star sword sect. Duan Lingtian was truly too young. These discussions naturally entered into Duan Lingtian's ears, but he didn't mind and stood on the Sun Eagle to descend outside the ancient City of Everlast. Whoosh! Duan Lingtian's figure leapt down, then looked at the Sun Eagle and blew a whistle with his mouth. Instantly, the Sun Eagle seemed to have obtained some sort of instruction and it flapped its wings to conceal itself and vanish within the clouds and mist. Duan Lingtian moved his gaze to descend onto the ancient City of Everlast after the figure of the Sun Eagle vanished, then he walked out in large strides, intending to enter the ancient City of Everlast. Don't move. Right at this moment, a cold shout stopped Duan Lingtian. Duan Lingtian frowned and turned around. He saw a young man around the age of 35 in the distance, and the young man was riding a Fergana horse over and was staring at him from the distance. Duan Lingtian's gaze lit up when he clearly saw the young man's attire. The attire of a 7-star sword sect inner court disciple. Obviously, this young man was a 7-star sword sect inner court disciple as well. But in the next moment, Duan Lingtian's brows frowned. That 7-star sword sect inner court disciple spurred his horse to stop before Duan Lingtian, then looked down as Duan Lingtian condescendingly and shouted out fiercely. Kid, who are you? Why are you pretending to be an inner court disciple of my 7-star sword sect? Pretending. Duan Lingtian was stunned and slightly muddled. What did he mean by this? Still playing dumb. Before Duan Lingtian could even react, the 7-star sword sect inner court disciple sneered. Kid, let me tell you, I've seen so many people like you who have pretended to be my 7-star sword sect disciples, a young man a little over 20 wearing my 7-star sword sect's inner court disciples attire. Do you really think you're a peerless genius like the 5 great young masters? Duan Lingtian finally recovered from his shock after being sharply denounced right to his face by this 7-star sword sect inner court disciple, and he lightly smiled and said, Senior brother, I'm afraid you're mistaken, I'm really a 7-star sword sect inner court disciple. I'm called Duan Lingtian. This is the letter written personally by the sect leader that he asked me to pass to Elder Zhao Yu and Elder Feng Ping, and my introduction is within it. As Duan Lingtian spoke, he withdrew a letter from his spatial ring and passed it to the 7-star sword sect inner court disciple. He didn't take the 7-star sword sect inner court disciple's previous actions to heart. As far as he was concerned, this was only a misunderstanding. But in the next moment, the smile on Duan Lingtian's face froze. 408 Chapter 409, Two Choices. The seven-star sword sect inner court disciple that sat atop the Fergana horse extended his hand out to receive the letter Duan Lingtian passed to him. Swish, 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 comma, he didn't even open it and directly tore the letter into pieces with a few movements. Swoosh. With a casual swing of his hand, the pieces fluttered in the wind to scatter within the desert, and not a single complete piece could be found any longer. Kid, the seven-star sword sect inner court disciple looked down at Duan Lingtian, who had a gloomy expression, and ridiculed. You're quite smart, you even knew to prepare a forged letter to deceive everyone, the sect leader's letter. I, Zhao Lei, a seven-star sword sect inner court disciple, doesn't even have the qualifications to make the sect leader write a letter for me. Could a little kid that's a little over 20 like you possibly have a letter written personally by the sect leader? Who would believe it? As he finished speaking, Zhao Lei glared angrily at Duan Lingtian, and a wisp of a complacent ridiculing smile appeared on the corners of his mouth. He had an expression as if he was saying that he'd seen through Duan Lingtian's cheap tricks since long ago. Duan Lingtian took a deep breath and suppressed the restless flames of rage in his heart, then said in a low voice, Zhao Lei, right. I don't mind that you don't believe I'm an inner court disciple because of my age, and I only took it as a misunderstanding, but now, I took out a letter that can prove my identity, the letter that the sect leader asked me to pass to Elder Zhao Yu and Elder Feng Ping, and you actually tore it without even sparing it a glance. Are you so sure that wasn't personally written by the sect leader? As Duan Lingtian finished speaking, traces of an icy cold luster jumped about in his eyes. He didn't mind that this Zhao Lei didn't believe him in the beginning. Although his reputation had spread far and wide in the seven-star sword sect now, and not long ago, he'd even seized the supreme glory of first in the martial competition of the 5 great sects. However, the ancient city of Everlast was a remote place after all, and it wasn't surprising that a seven-star sword sect disciple that was stationed at the ancient city of Everlast's ancient river trading company hadn't heard of him. But now, he'd passed the letter personally written by the sect leader to Zhao Lei to distinguish its authenticity, yet this Zhao Lei didn't even spare it a glance before directly tearing it up. Laughable. When Zhao Lei heard Duan Lingtian, the ridicule on his face grew deeper. Kid, you're truly thick-headed. If I were you, I'd have fled as far as I can when my disguise was seen through. Letter. What can a forged letter prove? If I take out a letter that says His Majesty the Emperor of the Azure Forest Imperial Kingdom wanted to take me as his foster son and make me the next inheritor the position of Emperor, you would believe it as well. As he finished speaking, the ridicule on Zhao Lei's face practically reached the limits of ridicule, and caused the surrounding crowd of spectators to burst out in laughter. Duan Lingtian's face sank, then glanced at Zhao Lei with a cold and indifferent gaze before turning to walk towards the ancient city of Everlast. Since this Zhao Lei didn't believe his identity, then he would go to the ancient river trading company's branch in the ancient city of Everlast and go look for that Elder Zhao Yu and Elder Feng Ping. At that time, everything will be brought to light. Don't move. Right at this moment, Zhao Lei's voice sounded out from behind him, causing Duan Lingtian's expression that had eased up to sink once again, and he turned around to look at Zhao Lei. You still need something. Now, Duan Lingtian lacked interest when facing Zhao Lei, and he couldn't care less to pay any attention to him. Zhao Lei sat on the Fergana horse, and his icy cold gaze looked down upon Duan Lingtian as he said in a cold voice, You pretended to be my seven-star sword sect inner court disciple, and you just want to walk it off. What do you want? Duan Lingtian sneered. He wasn't willing to fuss about it with Zhao Lei earlier, but now, this Zhao Lei really thought he was a soft persimmon that Zhao Lei could squeeze however he wished. Take off this forged seven-star sword sect inner court disciple attire of yours, then take off your inner clothing, then walk into the city in your birthday suit. An evil smile appeared on the corners of Zhao Lei's mouth. Zhao Lei's words caused the amount of people spectating to increase. This young man is really unfortunate. Forget pretending to be a seven-star sword sect inner court disciple, he was actually caught red-handed by a real seven-star sword sect inner court disciple. Yeah, he's really unfortunate. If I was him, I'd forge a seven-star sword sect outer court disciple attire. In this way, I wouldn't be doubted at all. Perhaps this young man felt that the identity of a seven-star sword sect inner court disciple would be able to satisfy his vanity. He's still a little kid, but he wants to pretend to be a seven-star sword sect inner court disciple. Truly courting death. The gazes of the surrounding crowd descended onto Duan Lingtian, seeming to have already seen the scene of Duan Lingtian entering the city in his birthday suit. The eyes of some married women even glowed, as if they were impatiently wanted to see this handsome young man, Duan Lingtian's, appearance when entering the city in his birthday suit. Some young girls instead were embarrassed to the point their faces flushed red. Enter the city in my birthday suit. At the beginning Duan Lingtian thought he'd heard wrongly when he heard what Zhao Lei said. After a short time, Duan Lingtian recovered from his shock and noticed the strange gazes from the surrounding crowd. Only now did he realize that this Zhao Lei did indeed want him to take off his clothes and enter the city in his birthday suit. Instantly, Duan Lingtian's gaze became cold as he looked at Zhao Lei and said in a low voice, "Zhao Lei, you're unable to confirm the truth behind my identity now, but you want to use such an extreme penalty on me, isn't it going a bit too far?" "Going too far?" Zhao Lei sneered. "Kid, don't try to mystify yourself in front of me. I can see through a bastard like you with a single glance. Today, if you don't take off your clothes and enter the city in your birthday suit, then I'll break your legs and let you learn not to do this again. If I don't walk in the city in my birthday suit, then he'll break my legs." Duan Lingtian's face immediately seemed as if enveloped in a layer of thin ice, and was extremely icy cold. "Zhao Lei, you don't have the qualifications to decide if my identity is true or not. I want to see Elder Zhao Yu and Elder Feng Ping and let the two elders personally distinguish if I'm a real 7-star sword sect disciple or not. If you don't believe me, then you're welcome to follow me." Duan Lingtian's voice was as if it sounded out from an icy pity and contained frightful coldness mixed within, but he still patiently finished saying all this. Now, he endured it because Zhao Lei was a 7-star sword sect disciple, and he was giving the sect leader, Lingu Jinhong, some face. Otherwise, with his temper, he'd have killed Zhao Lei long ago for continuously humiliating him like this. Duan Lingtian's words created a stir in the surrounding crowd of spectators. This young man spoke neither humbly nor arrogantly, and he seems to not be a fake. Could it be that he's really a 7-star sword sect disciple? But even if he's a 7-star sword sect disciple, it would be impossible for him to be an inner court disciple, right? I've never heard of the 7-star sword sect possessing such a young inner court disciple. He looks to me like he's misleading us. Misleading? I don't think so. He himself said that he wanted to enter the city and look for the 7-star sword sect's elders to distinguish his identity. Could it be that he's confident in fleeing right under the nose of this 7-star sword sect inner court disciple? Who knows? The smile of ridicule on Zhao Lei's face grew wider when he heard Duan Lingtian. "Look for the two elders. There's no need. There's no need." The cold light in Duan Lingtian's eyes were piercingly cold and he couldn't bear it any longer. He said in a low voice, "Zhao Lei, must you make it difficult for me today? Make it difficult for you?" Zhao Lei was stunned then couldn't refrain from laughing and he only looked down at Duan Lingtian once again after laughing for some time, then he said with an expression of disdain. "Kid, it's not that I look down on you, but what qualifications does a little kid like you have for me to make things difficult for you? If you're sensible then quickly take off your clothes and enter the city in your birthday suit, otherwise, you won't be able to protect your legs." At the same time that Zhao Lei shouted coldly at Duan Lingtian, he continued to look down at Duan Lingtian. As if Duan Lingtian was only an ant in his eyes, an ant that he could casually stomp to death. "Are you sure you want to do this?" The icy coldness on Duan Lingtian's face had gradually dispersed now, and replacing it was calmness. Perhaps, in his eyes, a person like Zhao Lei was not worth for him to get angry at. Zhao Lei wasn't worthy. A little kid like you doesn't have the qualifications to tell me how to do things. Zhao Lei thought Duan Lingtian was afraid when he saw the enraged expression on Duan Lingtian's face vanish, and he sneered. "Kid, I'll give you the time of 10 breaths. After 10 breaths of time, if there's even a single loincloth on your body, I'll break both your legs and let you crawl into the city. 2 choices, you better think properly before deciding." As he finished speaking, Zhao Lei had a ruthless expression. Duan Lingtian looked at Zhao Lei with a calm expression, and he stood on the spot unmoving like a mountain, as if he wouldn't be fazed even if Mount Tai collapsed before him. It was as if the incident that happened before him wasn't related to him in the slightest. "There's another 7 breaths of time remaining." Zhao Lei's cold and indifferent voice sounded out. When he saw Duan Lingtian still remaining unmoved, he only thought that Duan Lingtian was stunned. Amongst the surrounding spectators, besides a portion of people taking pleasure in Duan Lingtian's misfortune, there was also a portion of people who looked at Duan Lingtian with pity. Some kind-hearted people even tried to persuade Duan Lingtian. This little brother, a wise man does not fight when the odds are against him, a loss of face is much better than losing 2 legs. Yeah, little brother, just endure for a while and it would have passed. Little brother, you shouldn't have worn a fake 7-star sword sect inner court disciples attire and swagger through the streets, it's a taboo of the 7-star sword sect. Duan Lingtian didn't take any action when he heard these persuading words, and he still calmly looked at Zhao Lei. Within his calm gaze was no emotion at all. Big brother Lingtian, he'd going too far. Actually asking you to remove all your clothes and enter the city in your birthday suit, just say the word and I'll kill him right now. The little gold mouse's voice transmission sounded out in Duan Lingtian's ears. Duan Lingtian was speechless as he replied via voice transmission. Little gold, don't start killing people on every occasion. Sometimes, you don't necessarily have to kill people to solve a problem. He patiently guided the little gold mouse. If what Duan Lingtian said were to be heard by the other mercenaries in the mercenary organization he was in during his previous life, they would probably be shocked to the point they wouldn't be able to speak for half a day. After all, the king of mercenaries, Duan Lingtian, of his previous life, only solved problems with a single method. A bloodbath. There's still another 3 breaths of time. Zhao Lei spoke once again, and there seemed to be strands of origin energy waiting to shoot out from his body. Duan Lingtian remained indifferent to this, and still stood there unmoved. This caused the surrounding crowd of spectators to feel their scalps go numb. 409 Chapter 410, The Unfortunate Zhao Lei. This young man that's pretending to be a 7-star sword sect inner court disciple would rather have his legs broken than receive a humiliation. Time's up. Zhao Lei sat on the Fergana horse and looked down on Duan Lingtian with a ruthless expression and his eyes flickered with a vicious sheen. Kid, this was your own choice, since you're unwilling to take off your clothes and enter the city in your birthday suit. Now, I'll cripple your legs and make you crawl in the city. As soon as he finished speaking, Zhao Lei made his move. Whoosh, his figure shook and he seemed to have transformed into an eagle that flashed towards Duan Lingtian, like an eagle grabbing a chick. The surrounding spectators had all kept a good distance away as they were extremely afraid of being involved. They didn't dare lightly offend someone from the 7-star sword sect. Since the beginning until the end, Duan Lingtian watched Zhao Lei attack with a calm expression, and he didn't move like a mountain. When he saw Zhao Lei attack in the 400 ancient mammoth silhouettes that appeared in the sky, Duan Lingtian finally had a slight expression on his face, the corners of his mouth had lightly curved up to form a cold smile of disdain. A 3rd-level nascent soul stage martial artist dared be presumptuous before him. Swoosh. Zhao Lei seemed to have transformed into a gust of wind that arrived before Duan Lingtian in the blink of an eye, and a grade 7 spirit sword appeared out of thin air in his hand and it flashed directly towards Duan Lingtian. In the sky, another 110 ancient mammoth silhouettes appeared beside the existing 400 ancient mammoth silhouettes. This sword strike contained the strength of 510 ancient mammoths, and it seemed to transform into a venomous serpent that fiercely bit towards Duan Lingtian's legs. Idiot! An incomparably sudden voice abruptly sounded out from Duan Lingtian's mouth, and it caused the people present to be stunned. Swoosh! In the next moment, the people present heard an ear-piercing howl of the sword. Clang! Subsequently, they saw to their shock that the grade 7 spirit sword within the hands of the 7-star sword sect inner court disciple that attacked ruthlessly was actually flicked flying by a swing of the young man's sword. Bang! Not only that, after the young man flicked away the grade 7 spirit sword in the 7-star sword sect inner court disciple's hand, he kicked out with his leg, fiercely descending onto the inner court disciple's chest and kicking him flying. Zhao Lei plunged to the ground and had a ghastly pale expression as he spat out a mouthful of blood in a sorry state. He stared wide-eyed in disbelief at Duan Lingtian. Everything that had happened before him caused him to be completely dumbstruck. No one present saw clearly the exact amount of the ancient mammoth silhouettes that flashed above Duan Lingtian. Because, they were all looking at Zhao Lei earlier. I thought that this little brother would have his legs crippled by the 7-star sword sect inner court disciple, but I never imagined that his strength was so formidable. Yeah, this 7-star sword sect inner court disciple is a 3rd-level nascent soul stage martial artist at any rate, but he was actually defeated by the young man in a single move. If he's really a disciple of the 7-star sword sect, then that would be more than enough for him to become an inner court disciple with his strength. He's able to possess this cultivation at such a young age. His natural talent even surpasses the most outstanding amongst the 5 great young masters of our Azure Forest Imperial Kingdom. If I didn't see it with my own two eyes, it would be difficult for me to believe that all this is true. Could it be that he's a genius disciple that has just risen in the 7-star sword sect in the last 2 years? It's possible. Otherwise, why would he need to pretend to be a 7-star sword sect disciple with his natural talent and strength? The surrounding crowd discussed animatedly, and the gazes they shot at Duan Lingtian contained an extra sense of reverence. Amongst them, there were many who broke out in cold sweat for Duan Lingtian earlier. But no one imagined that the outcome would take such a turn. It was truly unexpected to them. Duan Lingtian walked slowly towards Zhao Lin, who fell on the ground in a sorry state. His gaze was still calm and the corners of his mouth held slight coldness. "You, don't come any closer, don't come any closer." Zhao Lei's face went pale when he saw Duan Lingtian walking towards him, and he shouted. "I'm an inner court disciple of the 7-star sword sect. The 7-star sword sect will absolutely not let you off if you dare touch me." 7-star sword sect? Duan Lingtian coldly swept Zhao Lei with his gaze and the corners of his mouth curled into a disdainful expression. It was fine when this Zhao Lei didn't mention the 7-star sword sect, but the moment he did, it angered Duan Lingtian. He'd said many times that he was a disciple of the 7-star sword sect, and in the beginning, he was even respectful of this Zhao Lei's age and addressed him as senior brother. But unexpectedly, Zhao Lei continued incessantly even after he'd continuously made concessions, and actually suspected that he was pretending to be a 7-star sword sect disciple. Putting all that aside, what made him furious the most was this Zhao Lei chattered without stop and even forced him to either be crippled or walk in the city in his birthday suit. "I'll return the 2 choice you gave me back to you. I'll either cripple your legs, or you remove all your clothes and enter the city in your birthday suit." Duan Lingtian looked at Zhao Lei and said indifferently. If Zhao Lei wasn't a 7-star sword sect disciple, he would have killed Zhao Lei long ago. This Zhao Lei ought to be an inner court disciple that was sent to the ancient city of Everlast by the 7-star sword sect, and when he thought about the purpose of his trip, Duan Lingtian suppressed the killing intent in his heart. Duan Lingtian only made him have a taste of his own medicine. As soon as Duan Lingtian finished speaking, the surrounding crowd of spectators had strange expressions, and their gazes shot at Zhao Lei in unison as they wanted to know how Zhao Lei would choose. "If you choose to make my cripple your legs, then I won't hold back. Don't think of joining them back after all this." Duan Lingtian noticed Zhao Lei's unsightly expression and he added. "Kid, I'm an inner court disciple of the 7-star sword sect. Humiliating me like this is similar to humiliating the 7-star sword sect. If you're sensible then FK off. I can disregard the matter of you pretending to be my 7-star sword sect disciple and let you off." Zhao Lei looked at Duan Lingtian and said coldly. Duan Lingtian was stunned. There isn't something wrong with this Zhao Lei's head, right? Duan Lingtian said indifferently. "Zhao Lei, you seem to have not gotten a clear understanding of the situation. Now, it's not about you letting me off or not, but it's that I want you to make a choice." As Duan Lingtian finished speaking, he withdrew the smile on his face, and his eyes emitted a wisp of killing intent that enveloped Zhao Lei. "Kid, do you know who I am?" Zhao Lei's face was gloomy when he saw that what he said didn't work on Duan Lingtian, then he took out an even greater trump card. "Let me tell you, I'm not only an inner court disciple of the 7-star sword sect, my father is even." "I don't care who your father is." Duan Lingtian impatiently interrupted Zhao Lei and the killing intent on his body shot into the sky and swept out to envelop Zhao Lei as he said coldly, "Due to your lack of cooperation, I've changed my mind now. You can either take off all your clothes and enter the city in your birthday suit or leave your life here. I'll give you the time of 10 breaths to consider. Now, there are 9 more breaths of time remaining." Duan Lingtian's voice contained extreme icy coldness mixed within, and it seemed as if it could freeze the air. You, Zhao Lei's face became gloomy. But when he felt the killing intent that swept out from Duan Lingtian and enveloped him, he didn't dare voice out in retort. He had a premonition that if he didn't do according to what this young man said, then this young man would absolutely not hesitate to kill him. The bloodthirsty killing intent on this young man's body undoubtedly proclaimed that the amount of people that had died in his hands was no small number. Presently, the surrounding crowd of spectators were deathly silent. After the deathly silence was a completely uproar. This young man looks to be a little over 20, but he's actually developed such a terrifying killing intent. How many people would he have to kill to be able to develop this killing intent? It's too terrifying. Looks like this 7-star sword sect inner court disciple has really bitten off more than he could chew. Moreover, it's to an extreme extent. I wonder will he rather die than submit, or willingly be humiliated? As an inner court disciple of the 7-star sword sect, he ought to not be such a bastard, right? I think he probably wouldn't choose to remove his clothes and enter the city in his birthday suit. The discussions of the surrounding crowd of spectators entered into Zhao Lei's ears, and it caused his expression to become livid. What are all of you looking at? Hurry up and FK off. Zhao Lei gazed at these people and roared. But the surrounding crowd of spectators paid no attention to Zhao Lei. Even though Zhao Lei was an inner court disciple of the 7-star sword sect, they were many and utterly didn't need to be afraid. Instantly, someone couldn't refrain from mocking. Do you think this is the territory of the 7-star sword sect? This caused Zhao Lei's expression to become even more unsightly. There's still another 5 breaths of time remaining. Duan Lingtian spoke indifferently, and he took everything before him to only be a farce. Duan Lingtian's voice entered into Zhao Lei's ears, and it seemed to transform into a life-seizing musical note that caused his expression to suddenly become incomparably unsightly. Kid, you'll regret this, you'll surely regret this. As Zhao Lei coldly threatened Duan Lingtian, he quickly removed the 7-star sword sect inner court disciple's attire from his body, then removed the clothes within. His entire movement was smooth like flowing water, causing the surrounding crowd of spectators to be lost in astonishment. In the end, Zhao Lei covered a certain thing in his nether regions before heading towards the ancient city of Everlast, and he attracted the attention of countless gazes all along the way. For a time, Zhao Lei became the absolute center of attention. You'll regret this. When Zhao Lei dashed towards the ancient city of Everlast, he didn't forget to turn around and look at Duan Lingtian with a venomous gaze. Duan Lingtian paid no attention to it and slowly walked to follow him. When they saw that the excitement was over, the surrounding crowd of spectators dispersed. They either entered the city or left. Duan Lingtian followed behind Zhao Lei to enter the city, and he could see that all the gazes from everywhere Zhao Lei passed would descend onto Zhao Lei. Until Zhao Lei hid within a small alley within the ancient city of Everlast, the discussion still went on endlessly. Hey, did you see it earlier? Someone walked into the city without wearing any clothes. I just came out of the store and didn't see it. That's truly a pity. This incident is hard to come by. I've been staying in the ancient city of Everlast for some time, but it's still the first time I saw such a scene. A person not wearing any clothes. Could it be that something is wrong with that person's head? Who knows? Duan Lingtian heard similar discussions all along the way. Big brother, can I ask you for directions to the ancient river trading company's branch? Duan Lingtian looked at a young man that passed by and asked with a light smile. The young man pointed ahead when he heard Duan Lingtian, and it was the small alley that Zhao Lin vanished into. Go through that small alley, then continue forward to enter into a large street, turn right and you'll be able to see the ancient river trading company's branch. There are 2 stone tiger statues at the main door of the ancient river trading company. Thank you, big brother. Duan Lingtian walked over in large strides after he expressed his gratitude. 410 Chapter 411, Elder Feng Ping. Big brother Lingtian, you were too evil earlier, hee hee. The little gold mouse's voice transmission entered into Duan Lingtian's ears, and her words obviously pointed towards the incident that happened earlier. See, some things can be easily solved, you don't necessarily have to kill people. Duan Lingtian guided patiently with an appearance of being a model for others. I saw, in the future, I won't kill them as well, I'll make them remove all their clothes and run around in their birthday suit, so fun, so fun. As for those fierce beasts or demon beasts, I'll make them skin themselves. Then, Duan Lingtian felt a chill run down his spine as he listening to the muttering of the little gold mouse via voice transmission. This little devil, she seems to not be talking about only humans, right? She still wants to make those fierce beasts and demon beasts remove their clothes, as well. For a time, Duan Lingtian felt a chill in his back. This little fellow is too terrifying. After he passed through the small alley and continued forward, Duan Lingtian saw a large street. According to the reminder of the nice person form before, Duan Lingtian walked forward with large strides, and though in his heart, looks like Zhao Lei directly returned to the ancient river trading company's branch. According to Duan Lingtian's knowledge, besides the 2 elders, there were still another 3 inner court disciples that were sent to the ancient city of Everlast, and Zhao Lei ought to be one of the 3 inner court disciples. 3rd level nascent soul stage. He probably loafs around here. Duan Lingtian thought in his heart. He believed that even if the ancient river trading company was in any poorer state, it would still be impossible for it to not possess a third-level nascent soul stage martial artist. Presumable, the ancient river trading company depended more on the two 7-star sword sect elders. When Duan Lingtian thought up to here, he'd already arrived at the turn in the road. Meanwhile, a great deal of discussions entered into Duan Lingtian's ears again. These discussions were mostly ones of taking pleasure in another's misfortune. Haha, did all of you see earlier? It was Zhao Lei. Zhao Lei actually returned with his bare butt. I'm dying of laughter. He normally seemed to be pretending to be what he was not, and relied on his status as a 7-star sword sect inner court disciple to treat others with contempt. Now, retribution has finally come. I wonder who made him come back like that. If I know who it is, I'll surely treat him to a few cups of wine. Duan Lingtian had a strange expression when he heard these discussions. Looks like that Zhao Lei's reputation isn't very good around here. Finally, Duan Lingtian turned past the turning and arrived before a spacious courtyard. Two stone tiger statues stood before the courtyard. This ought to be the ancient river trading company's branch in the ancient city of Everlast. Duan Lingtian said to himself. Who are you? Duan Lingtian noticed that when he intended to walk into the courtyard, the two young men that were originally standing by the door and laughing with their hands over their mouth had stopped him in a timely manner. These two young men wore uniform attire, and a single word, ancient, was embroidered on their chest. Presumable, they were probably members of the ancient river trading company. Duan Lingtian raised his hand and patted the clothes on his body, revealing the symbol on the 7-star sword sect inner court disciple's attire. 7-star sword sect inner court disciple. Instantly, the pupils of the two young men constricted. Their gazes quickly descended onto Duan Lingtian's face, and their eyes were filled with disbelief. I've come to look for Elder Zhao Yu and Elder Feng Ping. Duan Lingtian nodded to the two and lightly smiled. Although the two young men were shocked by Duan Lingtian's age, one of them still walked out and greeted Duan Lingtian into the ancient river trading company's branch. Please follow me. Thank you. Duan Lingtian lightly nodded and followed. Little brother, are you really a 7-star sword sect inner court disciple? The young man that brought Duan Lingtian in asked slightly hesitantly. Duan Lingtian shook his head and smiled. You wouldn't think I'm pretending like that, Zhao Lei, right? Would I deliver myself here and meet the two 7-star sword sect elders if I was pretending? Right. The young man came to a sudden understanding, as he didn't think Duan Lingtian had such large courage, and at the same time, he asked with a strange gaze. You encountered your 7-star sword sect's inner court disciple, Zhao Lei, earlier? Yes. Duan Lingtian nodded. When you encountered him, was he wearing clothes? The young man asked. Yes. Duan Lingtian nodded. The young man was instantly interested, and he came close to Duan Lingtian before asking in a low voice. I saw Zhao Lei coming home with a bare butt. Did you see who removed all his clothes? I did. Duan Lingtian nodded once again. Besides the crowd of people that spectated outside the ancient city of Everlast, there would probably be no one that was clearer of this incident. Who? The young man's gaze lit up, and he was intrigued. Himself, Duan Lingtian said slowly. Himself. The young man was stunned and had an expression of disbelief. Right when the young man recovered from his shock and wanted to get to the bottom of it. It's you, kid, you actually dared come to the ancient river trading company's branch. Do you really think you can deceive my father and Elder Feng Ping? A voice that contained extreme rage suddenly sounded out. It was Zhao Lei who'd changed into a new 7-star sword sect inner court disciple's attire and stood in the distance as he glared at Duan Lingtian. Zhao Lei's gaze was extremely gloomy and it descended onto Duan Lingtian as he said in a low voice. Not to mention you're pretending to be a 7-star sword sect inner court disciple, but you actually dared to deliver yourself here. You can't flee even if you have wings this time. Pretending to be a 7-star sword sect disciple. The expression of the young man from the ancient river trading company that brought Duan Lingtian in went grim, and his figure flashed to get away from Duan Lingtian as if he was avoiding the plague. You're not a 7-star sword sect disciple. The young man looked vigilantly at Duan Lingtian. Duan Lingtian smiled indifferently and shrugged. Didn't I tell you before that this Zhao Lei thinks I'm pretending? Truly laughable. If I'm pretending, then why would I come here and walk into a net? The young man felt Duan Lingtian's words were logical and he hurriedly looked at Zhao Lei. HMPH. Zhao Lei coldly snorted. Who knows if you have any schemes and plots? Let me tell you, your plans will come to nothing before me, Zhao Lei. Really? Duan Lingtian sized up Zhao Lei and the corners of his mouth curled into a ridiculing smile. Zhao Lei, I'm truly curious, could it be that there's no other clothes in your spatial ring? Besides that, I only asked you to take off your clothes and enter the city in your birthday suit, and I wouldn't have any objections if you wore your clothes once you entered the city. But I never expected that you actually threw your clothes outside the city and didn't want them anymore. As he spoke up to hear, Duan Lingtian intentionally sighed. When Duan Lingtian's words entered Zhao Lei's ears, it caused him to be as if struck by lightning, and his face went extremely gloomed and even savage. Kid, don't be complacent. Now, since you dared deliver yourself, then don't think of leaving. Duan Lingtian had a calm expression as he looked at Zhao Lei and said in disdain, I really never thought of leaving. Duan Lingtian's reaction slightly exceeded Zhao Lei's expectations. For a time, his heart couldn't help but sink. Could it be that he's really a 7-star sword sect disciple? This thought suddenly appeared within Zhao Lei's heart, and after it arose, it was difficult to restrain any longer. When he calmed his heart down, Zhao Lei recalled that this young man was an existence that could defeat him. Although he couldn't be considered to be strong amongst the 7-star sword sect inner court disciples, he was a 3rd-level nascent soul stage martial artist at any rate. Whereas this young man looked to be around 22 at most. The young man's being capable of defeating him at such a young age showed how monstrous the young man's natural talent was. Could it be that I haven't returned to the sect for a few years and a monster like this has actually appeared within the sect? Zhao Lin's heart trembled. No, it can't be. He's surely not a 7-star sword sect disciple, he's surely not. As he thought up to here, Zhao Ling was in a complete panic. He wasn't in panic because of him tearing apart the letter in Duan Lingtian's possession that was written personally by the sect leader earlier. That matter was only a small matter to him. He was in panic because if this young man really was a 7-star sword sect disciple, then once his father found out about the sequence of event of the matter, his father might not help him teach the young man a lesson. He couldn't just let today's incident go like that. Zhao Lei, what's going on? An indifferent voice sounded out from afar and attracted Duan Lingtian's gaze. Under Duan Lingtian's gaze, a middle-aged man in azure-colored casual clothes walked over slowly, and the middle-aged man's pace was stable, showing that his cultivation was outstanding. Duan Lingtian's acute spiritual force stretched out and found out about the middle-aged man's cultivation at the first possible moment. 3rd level of the void-prying stage. Elder Feng Ping. Right when Duan Lingtian was curious of the person's identity, that Zhao Lei had already bowed respectfully to the person. Elder Feng Ping. Duan Lingtian's gaze lit up. Feng Ping was one of the 7-star sword sect elders that Lingu Jinhong asked him to look for, and he was one of the 7-star sword sect elders that were stationed in the Ancient River Trading Company's branch in the ancient city of Everlast. You are. After replying to Zhao Lei, Feng Ping's gaze descended onto Duan Lingtian, then he frowned and his gaze suddenly became fierce. Who are you? Why are you wearing my 7-star sword sect inner court disciple's attire? With Duan Lingtian's current age, no one would believe that Duan Lingtian was an inner court disciple of the 7-star sword sect. After all, even the figures amongst the 5 great young masters that were the most outstanding in the younger generation of the Azure Forest Imperial Kingdom, might not have the strength to become a 7-star sword sect inner court disciple at such an age. Elder Feng Ping. Duan Lingtian looked at Feng Ping, and he hadn't even finished speaking when he was interrupted by Zhao Lei. Elder Feng Ping. This person is pretending to be an inner court disciple of our 7-star sword sect. He should be killed for his crimes. Elder Feng Ping, please kill this person to avoid any future troubles. Zhao Lei looked at Duan Lingtian and his eyes emitted ghastly coldness as he said in a clear voice. Feng Ping's face sank when he heard Zhao Lei, then he looked at Duan Lingtian. Exactly who are you? Why are you pretending to be an inner court disciple of my 7-star sword sect? Elder Feng Ping. Zhao Lei was anxious when he saw Feng Ping wanting to give Duan Lingtian an opportunity to explain. This person is full of tricks. There's no need to talk with him, just directly kill him. Haha, Duan Lingtian naturally was able to discern Zhao Lei's aim, and he couldn't refrain from bursting into loud laughter. His laughter was unrestrained, confident and fearless. 411 Chapter 412, I'm stronger than him. What are you laughing at? Feng Ping frowned and had a displeased expression. Elder Feng Ping, I'm just laughing that some people like to twist the facts, and wish for nothing more than for you to make a move and kill me before I can explain myself. Duan Lingtian's face revealed a brilliant smile and his words seemed to point towards something. Kid, You're courting death. How could Zhao Lei not know that Duan Lingtian was talking about him when he heard this, and he instantly exploded with anger. But even though he was angry, he didn't dare attack. He'd experienced Duan Lingtian's strength before, and although he didn't know the exact level of Duan Lingtian's strength, since Duan Lingtian was able to defeat him so easily, then Duan Lingtian was surely in existence at the 4th level of the nascent soul stage or above. Who exactly are you? Feng Ping realized that the matter had slightly exceeded his expectations. He was extremely clear of Zhao Lei's disposition. Logically speaking, what the young man had said earlier was sufficient to make Zhao Lei be unable to restrain himself and directly attack. But now, although Zhao Lei was extremely angry, he didn't make a move in the slightest. Not only that, he'd also unintentionally noticed that when Zhao Lei looked at the young man, his eyes actually emitted a sense of fear. Elder Feng Ping, this attire I have on is sufficient to show my identity. Duan Lingtian lightly smiled, and his smile was like a light spring breeze that washed over one. Do you have any proof besides this? Feng Ping asked in a low voice. I originally had a letter that the sect leader asked me to pass to Elder Feng Ping, but unfortunately, it was torn into pieces by him when we were outside the city. As Duan Lingtian spoke up to hear, he glanced deeply at the nearby Zhao Lei. Feng Ping's face went slightly grim when he heard this, then looked at Zhao Lei. Zhao Lei, is what he said true? Elder Feng Ping, this person harbors evil intentions and that letter was surely forged. Zhao Lei looked at Duan Lingtian with eyes that emitted a vicious sheen, and it seemed to transform into a bloodthirsty fierce beast that would pounce over and tear Duan Lingtian to pieces at any moment. Forged. Feng Ping's face sank and shouted in a low voice. How do you know it's forged? What if it's real? I'm able to recognize the handwriting of the sect leader, but now, you've destroyed the letter. If he's really someone the sect leader sent over, how am I supposed to explain this to the sect leader? Elder Feng Ping, this person is surely an imposter, don't listen to his random drivel and directly kill him. Zhao Lei made his last effort, wanting to use the hands of Elder Feng Ping to kill Duan Lingtian. But how could Feng Ping be so easily deceived? Do you have anything else that can prove your identity? Feng Ping looked at Duan Lingtian, and his expression eased off slightly as he asked. Something else? Duan Lingtian started pondering. In the end, Duan Lingtian said, Elder Feng Ping, I wonder if my understanding towards the terrain of the various sword peaks of the 7-star sword sect and my familiarity towards some people of the 7-star sword sect is able to prove my identity. HMPH. Feng Ping hadn't even spoken when Zhao Lei had already said in disdain, Kid, all these things you said are utterly insufficient to prove that you're a 7-star sword sect disciple. You can get a perfectly clear answer for these things from any 7-star sword sect disciple. Duan Lingtian's face sank. This Zhao Lei was really like a ghost that just wouldn't go away. Do you have other proof? Feng Ping looked at Duan Lingtian and asked. Obviously, he agreed with what Zhao Lei said earlier. Yes. Duan Lingtian nodded in reply, his tone resolute and decisive. This scene caused Zhao Lei's face to sink, and his heart was in turmoil. Could it be that this fellow is really able to prove that he's an inner court disciple of our 7-star sword sect? Because of the conflict with Duan Lingtian before, Zhao Lei didn't hope for Duan Lingtian to be able to prove his identity as 7-star sword sect inner court disciple. Otherwise, wanting to take revenge in the future would be as difficult as ascending the heavens. What proof? Feng Ping's gaze lit up. As for Zhao Lei, he was now looking at Duan Lingtian in fear. The proof is, Duan Lingtian stopped for a moment when he spoke up to hear, and after he'd successfully put everyone in suspense, his gaze descended onto Zhao Lei and he said frankly, I'm stronger than him. I'm stronger than him. A short line like this was said by Duan Lingtian in an extremely straightforward manner, and without a shred of beating around the bush. Instantly, Zhao Lei's expression was unsightly and rage arose within his heart. As far as he was concerned, Duan Lingtian intentionally touched this tender spot because Duan Lingtian intended to disparage him. As for Feng Ping, after being stunned for a moment, he glanced at Zhao Lei, and when he saw Zhao Lei's expression was unsightly yet was unable to refute it, he realized that what this young man said might very likely be true. You're stronger than Zhao Lei? Then your cultivation. Feng Ping looked at Duan Lingtian and his face had slight astonishment mixed within. Whoosh! Duan Lingtian's origin energy pulsated and raged as it suffused the surface of his body, seeming to transform into a milky white light barrier that enveloped him completely. Duan Lingtian knew very well that at this moment, even if he gave an extravagantly colorful description, it would still be inferior to the persuasiveness of facts. Swoosh. Instantly, 600 lifelike ancient mammoth silhouettes condensed into form above Duan Lingtian, and they accumulated force while waiting to be deployed. Fourth level of the nascent soul stage. That pupils of the young man that brought Duan Lingtian into the ancient river trading company constricted, and he had an astounded expression. It was difficult for him to imagine that a young man that looked to be around 22 was actually a fourth-level nascent soul stage martial artist. Such natural talent was shocking. It wasn't just him who was shocked. He's really at the fourth level of the nascent soul stage. Although Zhao Lei had guessed it earlier, at the instant he really saw it with his own eyes, his expression became even more unsightly. Feng Ping was dumbstruck by Duan Lingtian's cultivation, and after a long time, he stared at Duan Lingtian with a burning gaze as he asked, "How old are you?" 22. Duan Lingtian spoke indifferently with a carefree expression, as if everything from before was nothing to him. 22-year-old fourth-level nascent soul stage martial artist, hiss. Feng Ping gasped. Such natural talent was sufficient to surpass anyone from the 5 great young masters who were the most outstanding in the younger generation of the Azure Forest Imperial Kingdom. You're really an inner court disciple of our 7-star sword sect? Feng Ping stared at Duan Lingtian with a burning gaze and an expression of anticipation. Yes. Duan Lingtian nodded. When did you join the sect? Feng Ping asked. I've joined for less than 3 years, Duan Lingtian said slowly. Less than 3 years, Feng Ping nodded. Then it ought to be correct. We haven't gotten in contact with the sect for these past 3 years. Elder Feng Ping. Zhao Lei frowned. This person's origins are unknown, and he's even unable to prove that he's an inner court disciple of the 7-star sword sect. You can't believe his lies just like this. Zhao Lei. Feng Ping glanced indifferently at Zhao Lei, then slowly said, I don't care what deep grudge you have with him. Do you think I'm brainless and don't know how to distinguish between true and false? Would a figure with a natural talent that surpasses the 5 great young masters be bored to the point of pretending to be a disciple of our 7-star sword sect? Zhao Lei's face sank. What's going on that it's so noisy? Right at this moment, a voice that was like muffled thunder sounded out. A robust middle-aged man with broad shoulders and a round waist walked out from within, and he walked over slowly. When he saw the middle-aged man, Zhao Lei seemed as if he'd see his savior, and his gaze abruptly shone as he said in pleasant surprise. Father. Duan Lingtian's gaze has now descended on the approaching person, and the way Zhao Lei's addressed the person caused Duan Lingtian's brows to be unable to refrain from frowning. The instant this person appeared, his spiritual force had discovered the person's cultivation at the first possible moment, and it was similar to Feng Ping, the 3rd level of the void-prying stage. Zhao Lei, Zhao, could it be that he's Elder Zhao Yu? A trace of fear was unnoticeably emitted from the depths of Duan Lingtian's eyes. Zhao Yu was similar to Feng Ping and were both 7-star sword sect external affairs elders. Normally, they would be within the ancient city of Everlast to guard the ancient river trading company's branch. This is Elder Zhao Yu. Meanwhile, Feng Ping introduced the person that had arrived to Duan Lingtian, and at the same time, he seemed to have thought of something and was stunned for a moment. I still don't know you name. Duan Lingtian. At the same time that Duan Lingtian introduced himself, he looked at Zhao Yu and nodded lightly. Elder Zhao Yu. Originally, Zhao Yu's expression was calm like an ancient well without ripples. After a short moment, his expression slightly sank in a way that was difficult to notice, yet it was noticed by Duan Lingtian. Duan Lingtian knew clearly in his heart that it was probably Zhao Lei who'd sent a voice transmission to Zhao Yu about the conflict with him earlier. As the father of Zhao Lei, it would naturally be impossible for Zhao Yu to be resigned to allow his own son to suffer such humiliation. Duan Lingtian. Zhao Yu looked at Duan Lingtian with a calm gaze, but deep within his eyes, there instead seemed to be slight rage mixed within. My son has told me about the matter with you via voice transmission. You have no way to prove you're an inner court disciple of the 7-star sword sect. Duan Lingtian frowned. Elder Zhao Yu, Elder Feng Ping has already confirmed my identity. I wonder what you mean by this. Feng Ping. Zhao Yu looked at Feng Ping. You affirmed it's impossible that he's pretending to be my 7-star sword sect's inner court disciple by merely relying on his outstanding natural talent. Isn't this slightly reckless? Perhaps he's really scheming something. Feng Ping's face froze when he heard Zhao Yu. According to his understanding of Zhao Yu was absolutely not a person who would make trouble out of nothing like this. But when he thought about the conflict between Duan Lingtian and Zhao Lei, he vaguely guessed something. Elder Zhao Yu, you're right. Feng Ping nodded. How about we let him temporarily stay here, the two of us will find someone to ride a nascent soul stage flying beast back to the 7-star sword sect to ask the sect leader and make this matter clear. How about it? Zhao Yu nodded indifferently to this and he had no objection. Duan Lingtian, follow me. Feng Ping called Duan Lingtian then led him into an inner courtyard within the large courtyard of the Ancient River Trading Company's branch. There were many unused small courtyards within the inner courtyards. You'll stay in this courtyard in the future. Feng Ping brought Duan Lingtian into an unused small courtyard. Within the small courtyard was verdant plants and an extremely superb environment. Feng Ping glanced at the neighboring small courtyard as he said slowly, "My small courtyard is beside yours. If you need anything in the future, you can just tell me." 412 Chapter 413, Escorting Merchants. Duan Lingtian nodded. He knew that Feng Ping asked him to stay in this small courtyard as Feng Ping surely had the intention of watching him. After all, his identity hadn't been confirmed yet. Right. Suddenly, as if he'd thought of something, Feng Ping looked at Duan Lingtian and asked curiously. "What conflict exactly is there between you and Zhao Lei?" Feng Ping's words caused Duan Lingtian to be unable to refrain from recalling the scene of Zhao Lei entering the city in his birthday suit, and the corners of his mouth curled into a smile. Subsequently, he slowly narrated the sequence of events of the matter. Zhao Lei has gone too far. Feng Ping frowned then sighed. Duan Lingtian, you slightly overdid it, although based on Zhao Lei's actions, it wouldn't be going too far even if you punished him like this. He's still the only son of Elder Zhao Yu and your actions have undoubtedly caused Elder Zhao Yu to lose face as well. No wonder I felt Elder Zhao Yu was slightly off earlier, looks like he already knows about this matter. As he finished speaking, Feng Ping shook his head. Duan Lingtian shrugged with an indifferent expressions. I won't do anything to another without reason nor rhyme, but if someone were to try and bully me, then I'm not a ripe persimmon that he can squeeze at will. As he finished speaking, a strand of cold light that was icy cold and bone-piercing flashed within Duan Lingtian's eyes. Feng Ping sighed. He wasn't surprised that Duan Lingtian made such a stand. If Duan Lingtian was servile, then he would perhaps think that Duan Lingtian was unworthy of his monstrous natural talent in the martial Dao. A martial artist, especially a martial artist with monstrous natural talent like Duan Lingtian, ought to have a proud and lofty nature. Why did the sect leader send you to the ancient city of Everlast? Feng Ping asked. Duan Lingtian lightly smiled and said, the sect leader asked me to come gain some experience in tempering. Feng Ping nodded. Since it's like this, then you stay here first and I'll send someone to head to the 7-star sword sect to confirm your identity. Going back and forth would require almost 2 months of time. You can follow by my side to gain experience in tempering during these 2 months of time. So long as it's something you can solve, then I will absolutely not lend a hand. Duan Lingtian nodded. Before long, Feng Ping bid his farewell and directly left, only leaving Duan Lingtian behind. He returned to his room. Duan Lingtian had only just closed the room door when his sleeve went light and a golden flowing light flashed out. It was precisely the little gold mouse. Squeak squeak, the little gold mouse looked at Duan Lingtian and cried out. At the same time, the little gold mouse's voice transmission with her immature and young voice entered into Duan Lingtian's ears. Big brother Lingtian, that Zhao Lei is truly hateful, also that Zhao Yu, I can discern he isn't a good person with a single glance. I'll go kill him for you, okay? As the little gold mouse spoke, her jade eyes staring at Duan Lingtian. The corners of Duan Lingtian's mouth twitched. Thus it could be seen from this that the education he'd given the little gold mouse earlier had completely ended in failure. Little gold, Zhao Yu isn't simple, he's a 3rd-level void-prying stage martial artist, you aren't a match for him right now. Duan Lingtian said with a serious expression. Relying on the half-step advanced lightning force, the little gold mouse had a strength that was sufficient to kill demon beasts and martial artists at the 2nd level of the void-prying stage that hadn't comprehended force. Even if an existence at the 3rd level of the void-prying stage hadn't comprehended force, it still wasn't someone the little gold mouse was able to kill. Moreover, Zhao Yu was an elder of the 7-star sword sect, so it was impossible that he hadn't comprehended force at a cultivation of the 3rd level of the void-prying stage. 3rd level void-prying stage. The little gold mouse felt a slight sense of loss, then sat her butt down on the bed and drooped her little head. Alright, if you want to kill him, you'll be able to sooner or later, it's been at most 7 years since you were born. Whereas Zhao Yu has cultivated for tens of years and to possess that cultivation. Duan Lingtian noticed the little gold mouse's dispirited appearance and couldn't help but feel amused, so he consoled her. You possess the bloodline of the jade-eyed heavenly mouse, so surpassing him is only a matter of time. The little gold mouse nodded when she heard Duan Lingtian's encouragement and her jade eyes were in high spirits. Just like this, Duan Lingtian temporarily stayed within the large courtyard of the ancient river trading company's branch. Whereas outside the ancient city of Everlast, two black figures flashed out into the sky one after another in a short intervals between them, it was precisely two nascent soul stage flying beasts. The direction they were headed was the location of the Seven-Star Sword Sect. A person sat on each of these flying beasts. The clothes of these two people had the symbol of the ancient river trading company, and they were obviously members of the ancient river trading company. In the subsequent days, Duan Lingtian obtained a certain level of understanding towards the ancient river trading company and its branch in the ancient city of Everlast. The resources and reserves of the ancient river trading company could only be ranked in the mid-range amongst the various trading companies in the Azure Forest Imperial Kingdom. To a certain extent, the ancient river trading company was attached to the Seven-Star Sword Sect and would hand over a great amount of wealth to the Seven-Star Sword Sect every year, whereas the Seven-Star Sword Sect would instead provide the necessary protection for the ancient river trading company. The Seven-Star Sword Sect members led by Feng Ping and Zhao Yu were the ones in charge of guarding the ancient river trading company's branch in the ancient city of Everlast. Of course, besides guarding the branch, they would occasionally participate in escorting the merchant groups of the ancient river trading company. A merchant group couldn't avoid encountering the attacks of bandits while traveling outside, and possessing the escort of the Seven-Star Sword Sect elders and disciples was undoubtedly an extra safeguard. At dawn, the first ray of sunlight enveloped the land and the myriad of beings in the world awoke from their slumber. Duan Lingtian, who sat cross-legged atop his bed, opened his eyes and a bright light flashed within. I'm still a distance away from the 5th level of the nascent soul stage. Duan Lingtian let out a breath of air and walked out of the room, then he stretched his body in the courtyard. Duan Lingtian. Suddenly, a voice sounded out from outside the courtyard. Elder Feng Ping. Duan Lingtian was slightly surprised when he saw Feng Ping who entered the courtyard. Is there something you need? After all, it had already been 7 or 8 days since he'd arrived at the ancient river trading company's branch that day. Today was still the first time that Elder Feng Ping had come look for him. Duan Lingtian's first thoughts was, could it be that we're going to escort a merchant group? The facts proved that his guess was accurate. Duan Lingtian, the ancient river trading company has a batch of goods that need to be sent out. I will bring along the other 3 Seven-Star Sword Sect disciples to escort the merchant group 3 days from now. At that time, you'll come as well. Feng Ping went straight to the point. All right, Duan Lingtian agreed, as he'd finally obtained the opportunity to get some fresh air. He knew that before his identity as a Seven-Star Sword Sect inner court disciple was confirmed, Feng Ping wouldn't let him vanish from his sight. He was indifferent to this, as he was an inner court disciple of the Seven-Star Sword Sect after all, and he had absolutely no reason to be afraid. Duan Lingtian didn't continue cultivating after Feng Ping left. He lay down on the clean lawn in the small courtyard, then crossed one leg over the other as he looked up at the white clouds and blue sky and cozily bathed in the sun. Gentle sunshine showered down, causing Duan Lingtian's body to feel warm. Squeak squeak. Meanwhile, the little gold mouse that was hidden beneath Duan Lingtian's sleeve crawled out as well, and she lay by Duan Lingtian's side and learned to cross one leg over the other like Duan Lingtian. Her pair of jade green eyes revolved with intelligence and cunning. Big brother Duan Lingtian, I miss big sister Kair. The little gold mouse's voice transmission entered into Duan Lingtian's ears. Kair didn't dote on you for nothing. Duan Lingtian held the little gold mouse in his hand, then lightly combed her fur. But, since we've come here, then we have to stay outside for some time. I'll take you around the surroundings once they've confirmed my identity. Okay, okay. The little gold mouse jumped for joy when she heard Duan Lingtian and she was extremely excited. Flowing lights revolved within her jade green eyes, and they were like 2 beautiful gems that were flickering. At this moment, she'd completely tossed Kair to the back of her head. The precondition is you have to listen to me. If there's an outsider present, then you absolutely must not appear unless I allow you, understand? Duan Lingtian changed the topic and started talking conditions with the little gold mouse. The little gold mouse was right at the height of her joy, so she naturally agreed to all of Duan Lingtian's requests. 3 days later, Duan Lingtian rode a tall horse as he followed by Elder Feng Ping's side. They followed the merchant group of the ancient river trading company to leave the ancient city of Everlast. Besides him and Feng Ping, the members of the Seven-Star Sword sect that came along included Zhao Lei and the other two Seven-Star Sword sect inner court disciples. These two inner court disciples had similar ages to Zhao Lei, and they were now riding their horses with Zhao Lei. At this moment, they looked at Duan Lingtian with gazes that contained slight suspicion mixed within. Zhao Lei, this is the inner court disciple that came from the sect. One of the inner court disciples asked Zhao Lei in a light voice. HMPH. Zhao Lei glanced at Duan Lingtian with a cold and indifferent gaze, then he said indifferently. He isn't a member of our Seven-Star Sword sect, we still can't confirm it now, everything can only be known after we get back from this trip. Zhao Lei, you took off your clothes and entered the city in your birthday suit under the threats of this little youth. The other inner court disciple looked at Zhao Lei and a spurious smile hung on his face. This caused Zhao Lei to get angry from embarrassment. The incident from that day once now known by all, and it seemed to have become a stain in his life. Zhao Lei's face sank when he thought of this, and his icy cold and ruthless gaze descended onto Duan Lingtian. As far as he was concerned, all of this was because of Duan Lingtian. Duan Lingtian, I, Zhao Lei, will destroy you or die trying. Zhao Lei hated Duan Lingtian to the limit in his heart. Duan Lingtian naturally noticed Zhao Lei's gaze, but he didn't care in the slightest and completely disregarded it as he talked with Feng Ping. Elder Feng Ping, where's Elder Zhao Yu? Elder Zhao Yu is in charge of guarding the ancient river trading company branch, the five of us are in charge of escorting the merchant group this time, Feng Ping said to Duan Lingtian. Duan Lingtian nodded, then asked. Elder Feng Ping, how long will it take to escort this merchant group to and fro? Feng Ping thought for a moment then slowly said, around 2 months. Subsequently, as if he'd recalled something, Feng Ping continued to add. The people Elder Zhao Yu and I sent to the Seven-Star Sword sect ought to be back in 2 months, at that time, we'll find out the outcome of whether you're a Seven-Star Sword sect inner court disciple or not. Duan Lingtian nodded and didn't mind at all. As far as he was concerned, it was an obvious fact that he was an inner court disciple of the Seven-Star Sword sect, and no one could change it. 413 Chapter 414, Bandits on a Rampage. The merchant group that was like a long dragon moved out of the ancient city of Everlast and headed towards the east. Besides Duan Lingtian's group of 5, there was still another team of guards within the merchant group. The commander of the guards was a 6th-level nascent soul stage martial artist. Duan Lingtian had a calm expression as he spurred his horse in the desert, and his mind was immersed in cultivation. 9 Dragons War Sovereign Technique, Windworm Form. This scene caused Feng Ping, who rode by Duan Lingtian's side, to be unable to help from being moved. He then glanced at the nearby Seven-Star Sword sect disciples that were chatting, and they formed a striking comparison, causing him to sigh in his heart. Not only is this Duan Lingtian's natural talent high, but he's so hardworking, no wonder he possesses this cultivation of this at such an age. The merchant group moved and stopped and moved, and half a month's time quickly passed by. During this half-month of time, the merchant group didn't encounter an attack from bandits. This day, stomp, 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 rapid sounds of horse hooves suddenly sounded out from the distance, and for a time, the entire ground shook like an earthquake. Stop! Along with the explosive shout of the ancient river trading company's guard commander, the merchant group stopped. Elder Feng Ping. After the merchant group stopped, the guard commander looked at Feng Ping with a respectful expression. Although he was the guard commander of the merchant group, his cultivation was only at the 6th level of the nascent soul stage, and he was nothing compared to the elder of the Seven-Star Sword sect. The safety of the merchant group still had to rely mainly on this Seven-Star Sword sect elder. Feng Ping nodded, then he brought along Duan Lingtian and the other Seven-Star Sword sect disciples to slowly spur their horses forward towards the distance, the place where the sounds came from. Meanwhile, under the lead of the guard commander, the 100-plus guards of the merchant group followed behind Duan Lingtian's group to strengthen their appearance. Suddenly, Duan Lingtian's eyes squinted. He was able to see that there were over 100 horses galloping from afar in a vast array. In the blink of an eye, they'd already approached Duan Lingtian's group. Halt, halt, the numerous tall horses stopped and stood still nearby Duan Lingtian's group. There was a person on each of these tall horses. For a total of over 100 people, they all wore various different attire and looked brawny. Bandits. Duan Lingtian guessed the identity of these people at the first possible moment. Leave all your goods and FK off. The bandit in the lead was a robust middle-aged man with a scar on his face. He appeared to be extremely violent and wicked, and he shouted out explosively to Duan Lingtian's group. This person was obviously the leader of the bandits. Right at this moment, the guard commander of the merchant group spurred his horse forward to stand by Feng Ping's side, then he looked at the leader of the bandits and said in a deep voice, "Where are you bandits from? Could it be that you don't know this is the merchant group of the Ancient River Trading Company?" Ancient River Trading Company? Never heard of it. The bandit leader glared his eyes that were large as gongs when he heard the guard commander, then shouted explosively. "Did you hear what IF King said? I'll give all of you 15 minutes to prepare. After that time, if you still let me F King see the sight of any of you, I'll F King." The bandit leader hadn't finished speaking when he was interrupted by a bandit in grey clothes behind him. "Leader, this is the merchant group of the Ancient River Trading Company, let's withdraw." This bandit had a terrified expression and his figure started shivering. "Withdraw." The bandit leader frowned and he was puzzled towards what this subordinate of his said. This subordinate of his was one of the strongest amongst all his subordinates, and logically speaking, this subordinate wasn't such a cowardly person. "Leader, this Ancient River Trading Company is protected by the Seven-Star Sword Sect. Look at those few people, they are all members of the Seven-Star Sword Sect." The middle-aged man is wearing the attire of a Seven-Star Sword Sect elder. If I'm not wrong, he ought to be one of the 2 external affairs elders of the Seven-Star Sword Sect that's guarding the Ancient River Trading Company's branch in the ancient city of Everlast. As the grey-clothed bandit finished speaking, he had an expression of terror. Supposedly, the 2 external affairs elders of the Seven-Star Sword Sect that are guarding the Ancient River Trading Company's branch in the ancient city of Everlast are both existences at the 3rd level of the void-prying stage. Actually, the expression of the bandit leader went pale when the grey-clothed bandit mentioned the Seven-Star Sword Sect. Now, when he finished listening to the grey-clothed bandit, his pupils couldn't help but constrict. 3rd level of the void-prying stage. I've caused a great calamity. The bandit leader's heart shook and his face went pale, then his gaze descended onto Feng Ping who wore the attire of a Seven-Star Sword Sect elder, then cupped his hands and said, "Lord, I, Wang Lao San, didn't know that you're a senior from the Seven-Star Sword Sect, please forgive me for being impolite." Presently, the bandit leader had a terrified expression. HMPH. Now all of you bandits know that you've bitten off more than you can chew. All of you dare rob the merchant group of the trading company that's protected by our Seven-Star Sword Sect. You really have guts. Feng Ping hadn't even made a remark when Zhao Lei had already grunted coldly and sharply denounced the bandit leader. The bandit leader's face went grim. He was a 9th-level nascent soul stage martial artist at any rate. He was afraid of the Seven-Star Sword Sect's elder, but it didn't mean that he was afraid of an ordinary disciple of the Seven-Star Sword Sect. But when he thought of how there was a Seven-Star Sword Sect elder present, he lowered his arrogant head and hurriedly agreed without daring to hesitate. He knew clearly in his heart that with strength of a void-prying stage martial artist, it was sufficient to sweep through their entire bandit group. When he saw the bandit leader yield, Zhao Lei who relied on Elder Feng Ping to scold the bandit leader had a complacent expression. Finally, Feng Ping glanced indifferently at the bandit leader and said, "Since all of you are unable to deal with us, then we'll do it according to the rules of the Boundless Desert, cripple your own cultivation." The rules of the Boundless Desert. If a bandit group were to be careless and offend an existence that they couldn't go against, the moment before annihilation, the bandit leader could make a choice to save the entire bandit group. So long as the bandit leader crippled his own cultivation, the bandit group would be able to escape the calamity. Feng Ping's words caused the bandit leader's face to go deathly pale. Respected Elder Feng Ping. Meanwhile, the grey-clothed bandit looked at Feng Ping with a terrified expression. Our leader and group of brothers have only entered the business not long ago. They were confused for a time and that's why they stopped the merchant group of the Ancient River Trading Company. I hope that elder can give us a way out and spare us. Entered the business not long ago. Duan Lingtian had a strange gaze. In this way, these bandits were mostly reckless fellows. However, at this moment, Duan Lingtian felt admiration from the bottom of his heart towards Elder Feng Ping's deterrent force. Feng Ping's strength deterred the entire group of bandits and caused them to utterly not dare attack. This world where the strong are respected was vividly portrayed at this moment. Since you don't dare, then let me help you, Feng Ping said indifferently. Right when Feng Ping had just finished speaking and the bandit leader's face went deathly pale. Swoosh. A wave of ear-piercing howls of the wind set off ceaselessly continuous sounds of air exploding, and the sounds entered into the ears of everyone present. Everyone present saw the energy of heaven and earth royal in the sky, then it condensed into 4,000 ancient mammoth silhouettes that dashed out. Bang! Ah! An enormous bang accompanied by a shrill cry practically sounded out at the same time. In the next moment, everyone saw Feng Ping had returned to his horse in the blink of an eye, whereas the bandit leader instead flew out with his horse. In the sky above the bandit leader, the ancient mammoth silhouettes that had just condensed had fully dispersed. No, no, no! The bandit leader successively spat out a few mouthfuls of blood, then his expression went gloomy, as if he'd realized something. His eyes filled with hatred stared at Feng Ping. You crippled my cultivation, you actually crippled my cultivation, fight to the death, I'll fight you to the death. The bandit leader struggled to stand up, then staggered as he charged towards Feng Ping. Leader, the expressions of the group of bandits contained sadness within. You're courting death. An explosive shout suddenly sounded out, and a figure flashed out. Swoosh! The howl of a sword appeared. In the next moment, a bloody hole appeared in the throat of the bandit leader, then his body trembled before crashing onto the ground. The person that struck the killing blow was precisely Zhao Lei. After Zhao Lei returned to his horse, he coldly swept the corpse of the bandit leader with his gaze as he said in disdain, "Trash." Duan Lingtian frowned when he saw this scene. As far as he was concerned, Zhao Lei's actions had gone too far. The bandit leader had lost his cultivation and was already without threat. Zhao Lei. Feng Ping frowned and had a displeased expression, as he felt that Zhao Lei had broken the rules. Elder Feng Ping, he's trash without his cultivation anyway, there's no use in leaving him alive. Zhao Lei beamed and had an indifferent expression. You actually killed our leader. The gray-clothed bandit recovered from his shock and looked at Zhao Lei with an extremely furious expression. The disciples of the Seven-Star Sword sect are so shameless and so unobservant of the rules. Not good. Meanwhile, Duan Lingtian was able to notice that streams of killing intent that shot into the sky seemed to be rising from the remaining group of bandits. Brothers, they didn't follow the rules, so even if we die trying, we must take revenge for the leader. Along with the explosive shout of the gray-clothed bandit. Take revenge for the leader. Kill them. The group of bandits had completely gone berserk, and they were all as if in a frenzy as they spurred their horses to gallop forward with an imposing manner that shot into the sky like a rainbow. Origin energy skyrocketed atop the sabers in the bandits' hands as they flashed towards Duan Lingtian and the others. Saber lights that covered the sky swept towards them. When over 100 bandits that were unafraid of death charged towards them, even with Feng Ping fighting at full force, he was still unable to kill all of them for a time. Before long, Duan Lingtian's group was submerged in bandits. The bloodbath and slaughter had completely unfolded. Duan Lingtian sat on the tall horse with one hand pressing on his horse's head to pacify the steed that was becoming restless, and his other hand held onto the narrow sword. Duan Lingtian never took the initiative to attack. But every bandit that attacked Duan Lingtian would die beneath his sword without exception. Before long, the group of bandits realized that Duan Lingtian was not to be easily offended, and they intentionally avoided Duan Lingtian. For a time, the place where Duan Lingtian was had become a strange no man's land. The bandit leader's strength was the strongest in the group of bandits. Amongst the remaining bandits, only a little over 10 bandits were comparatively stronger, including that gray-clothed bandit. These 10 or so bandits were also the targets Feng Ping took special care of. However, there was still a fish that had escaped the net in the end. You actually dared to kill the leader, I'll kill you. Duan Lingtian heard an explosive shout and couldn't refrain from turning towards the sound. It was the gray-clothed bandit who was charging towards Zhao Lei. 414 Chapter 415, Duan Lingtian makes a move. The gray-clothed bandit's figure flashed as he charged towards Zhao Lei, and the saber light on the saber in his hand rose explosively. In the air, 800 ancient mammoth silhouettes appeared, followed by another 150+ ancient mammoth silhouettes, and they dashed out with an imposing manner that shot into the sky like a rainbow. Obviously, this gray-clothed bandit was a 6th-level nascent soul stage martial artist. The saber in his hand was a grade 8 spirit saber. The attack of the gray-clothed bandit caused the face of Zhao Lin, who was already in an extremely sorry state from the pincer attack of a few bandits, to go ghastly pale. Duan Lingtian. In his panic, Zhao Lei noticed the nearby Duan Lingtian. When Zhao Lei saw Duan Lingtian had a leisurely expression as he looked at the scene over here, he was nearly angered to the point he spit blood. I'm fighting for my life with the bandits here, but Duan Lingtian is watching the show from the side. Instantly, Zhao Lei's heart warped and he felt unfairness in his heart. Zhao Lei's gaze went cold as he looked at the gray-clothed bandit that flashed over, and the corners of his mouth curled into a scheming smile. Bang! Suddenly, Zhao Lei stomped his feet on the ground and his origin energy skyrocketed as he seemed to have transformed into a cannonball that flew straight towards Duan Lingtian. Duan Lingtian was watching the scene since all along, and when he saw that Zhao Lei was targeted by the gray-clothed bandit, he'd already intended to lend a hand. Although the grudge between him and Zhao Lei wasn't shallow, Zhao Lin was still a 7-star sword sect disciple at any rate. As a fellow 7-star sword sect disciple, he shouldn't just watch idly by or add insult to injury when under such circumstances of suffering a disaster. But Duan Lingtian's face went gloomy when he saw the scene that appeared before him. Zhao Lei. He saw Zhao Lei charge towards him then circumnavigate to his back, causing Duan Lingtian to become the target of the gray-clothed bandit and the other bandits. How could he not know what Zhao Lei was thinking? Zhao Lei wanted to make these bandits kill him. After all, Zhao Lei didn't know of his true strength and only thought he was a 4th-level nascent soul stage martial artist. Duan Lingtian, I'll leave them to you, I'll go help Elder Feng Ping. In next to no time, Zhao Lei's voice entered into Duan Lingtian's ears, causing Duan Lingtian's expression to become even gloomier and frightful cold lights shot out from his eyes. Help Elder Feng Ping. With Zhao Lei's measly ability, would Elder Feng Ping need Zhao Lei's help? Moreover, along with every joining in the battle with Elder Feng Ping in the lead, this group of bandits were almost completely wiped out now. There was utterly nothing for Zhao Lei to do. Looks like I've still been too merciful. Slight coldness that was icy cold and bone-piercing arose within Duan Lingtian's heart, and he felt the thought of rescuing Zhao Lei that emerged in his heart was laughable. Earlier, he wanted to help Zhao Lei deal with this gray-clothed bandit. But unexpectedly, Zhao Lei instead had directly took him as a shield to expose before the gray-clothed bandit and the other bandits, causing him to become the target for all. Zhao Lei obviously had the intention of making him lose his life. After all, in the eyes of Zhao Lei, his strength was inferior to the gray-clothed bandit. Swoosh! Amongst the few bandits, the gray-clothed bandit who was at the 6th level of the nascent soul stage was the swiftest, and he'd arrived near Duan Lingtian in the blink of an eye. When he saw Duan Lingtian's age, the gray-clothed bandit made light of Duan Lingtian. At the same time that he flashed past Duan Lingtian, the saber in his hand casually flashed out straight towards Duan Lingtian's throat, as if he wanted to kill Duan Lingtian with a single slash. Underestimating me to that extent. When Duan Lingtian saw the gray-clothed bandit flash past him yet still have his eyes on Zhao Lei, slight ridicule instantly appeared on Duan Lingtian's face. Presently, the saber of the gray-clothed bandit that flashed over was extremely casually slashed out. Perhaps, this slash would be able to kill an ordinary 4th-level nascent soul stage martial artist. But Duan Lingtian was no ordinary 4th-level nascent soul stage martial artist. In next to no time, Duan Lingtian felt a gust of strong wind that was filled with killing intent, and it fiercely swept towards his throat, causing him to feel pain from the blowing of the wind. Instantly, Duan Lingtian's eyes swiftly went cold. You're courting death. In an instant, Duan Lingtian moved. The origin energy on his legs rages and wind force emerged. In the blink of an eye, Duan Lingtian kicked off the horse, he leapt up as if he was mounting the clouds and riding the mist, and he barely dodged the gray-clothed bandit's swift slash in an extremely agile manner. His entire movement was smooth like moving clouds and flowing water. This scene felt as if it was pre-discussed before and the gray-clothed bandit was cooperating with Duan Lingtian to put on a show. How could this be possible? In the distance, Zhao Lei, who dashed to Elder Feng Ping's side with great difficulty and obtained a feeling of safety, saw this scene with his own eyes and his pupils constricted as an expression of disbelief appeared on his face. Duan Lingtian actually dodged the attack of a 6th-level nascent soul stage martial artist. In next to no time, Zhao Lei clearly saw the ancient mammoth silhouettes that appeared in the sky above Duan Lingtian, and his face was incomparably deathly pale. 800 ancient mammoths. Duan Lingtian is a 6th-level nascent soul stage martial artist. Zhao Lei was dumbstruck, completely dumbstruck. A 22-year-old 6th-level nascent soul stage martial artist. I'm not dreaming, right? When he thought up to this point, Zhao Lei couldn't help but stretch his hand out to pinch his thigh. At the beginning, he who was slightly numbered didn't feel any pain and was instantly pleasantly surprised. Looks like I'm really dreaming. I knew it, how could that Duan Ling Tian possibly possess such a strong cultiva? In the next moment, Zhao Lai's thoughts stopped dead in their tracks. Only because the intense pain in his thigh had already entered into his pain receptors. I'm not dreaming. Zhao Lai's face went pale, and his eyes were filled with unwillingness. Damn it, this Duan Ling Tian's age isn't old, but he actually possesses this shocking cultivation. We're both people, but why is the difference so huge? The heavens are unfair. At this moment, almost all the remaining bandits were already dead, so many people saw this scene with their own two eyes. Amongst them included the 7-star sword sect's elder Feng Ping. That's wind force. Unlike Zhao Lei, Feng Ping was able to discern with a glance that the strange aura suffused within the origin energy on Duan Ling Tian's legs was wind force. As a void-prying stage martial artist that had similarly comprehended wind force, he was extremely familiar with it. That isn't a wind force seed, it's genuine wind force, elementary wind force. After he discerned all this, Feng Ping's pupils constricted and his face was covered with astonishment and disbelief. A nascent soul stage martial artist had comprehended elementary wind force. I'm not seeing things, right? 6th level of the nascent soul stage. Now, a wave of exclaims of surprise sounded out. It was the remaining people who were shocked by the 800 ancient mammoth silhouettes Duan Ling Tian has condensed from drawing upon the energy of heaven and earth. Besides Feng Ping, no one present was able to discern that amongst the 800 ancient mammoths that Duan Ling Tian has condensed, there were 200 that belonged to the elementary wind force. What? The expression of the gray-clothed bandit went grim when his slash missed. When he slightly turned around and saw the 800 ancient mammoth silhouettes above Duan Ling Tian, his face became ghastly pale. He realized that he'd made an enormous mistake. He's underestimated this young man that looked to be a little over 20 years old. He originally thought the young man was just a minor character, but he never expected that this young man was actually a 6th-level nascent soul stage martial artist like him. At this moment, he even had the heart to commit suicide. Swoosh! The origin energy on the gray-clothed bandit's body roiled as he wanted to turn around in midair, but he was affected by the obstruction of momentum. Instantly, his face revealed an expression of despair. He knew he was dead. And he was dead indeed. Swoosh! Along with Duan Ling Tian's gaze going slightly cold, the grade 6 spirit sword in his hand whistled out, descending onto the back of the gray-clothed bandit and piercing through the gray-clothed bandit's heart before coming out the other side. The body of the gray-clothed bandit trembled, then stopped in midair before crashing onto the ground. Dead, not to mention that the gray-clothed bandit had given such a big flaw for Duan Ling Tian to take advantage of. Even if this flaw didn't exist, it would still be extremely easy for Duan Ling Tian to kill him. After all, even one of the 5 great young masters, Saber Young Master, who was a 6th-level nascent soul stage martial artist that had comprehended a saber force seed and possessed a grade 6 spirit saber, had still lost at Duan Ling Tian's hands almost 2 months ago. To Duan Ling Tian, an ordinary 6th-level nascent soul stage martial artist like this gray-clothed bandit was of no threat at all. The bandits that were charging at Duan Ling Tian saw this scene and their face went ghastly pale. Instantly, they'd realized that this young man was an utter devil. Flee! The bandits glanced at each other then fled backwards. Duan Ling Tian didn't chase after them. In next to no time, these bandits were killed by the joint attack of the guard commander of the merchant group and the group of guards. Up to this point, the 100-plus bandits were completely annihilated. At the side of the ancient river trading company, only 10-plus guards were injured, but none died. It could considered to be a complete victory. The group of bandits were completely annihilated, yet the scene was deathly silent. The gazes of every, including the wagon drivers of the merchant group, had all descended onto Duan Ling Tian in unison. Gulp, 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 comma. For a time, a wave of gulping down saliva with difficulty could be vaguely heard from the surroundings. He's actually so strong. The other 2 7-star sword sect inner court disciples looked at each other and had expressions of astonishment. It's difficult to imagine that a 22-year-old young man actually has such strength. Now, I really hope that he's really a disciple of our 7-star sword sect. Yeah, with him present, why would the 7-star sword sect be worried about being brilliant throughout the future? Although the 2 7-star sword sect inner court disciples were older than Duan Ling Tian by over 10 years, at this moment, they looked at Duan Ling Tian with gazes filled with reverence. Duan Ling Tian's natural talent and strength caused them to feel heartfelt admiration. Duan Lingtian, looks like I've still underestimated you. Finally, Feng Ping spoke out and broke the silence of the scene. Feng Ping looked at Duan Lingtian with a gaze that was extremely complicated. He still couldn't wrap his head around how a fourth-level nascent soul-stage martial artist could possibly comprehend elementary wind force. As a third-level void-prying stage martial artist that had comprehended half-step advanced wind force, he could be 100% sure that when Duan Lingtian dodged the slash of the gray-clothed bandit earlier, it was absolutely by utilizing wind force. Duan Lingtian, how could he possibly possess strength like this? Zhao Lei's expression was ashen. He'd originally thought that Duan Lingtian was only a fourth-level nascent soul-stage martial artist, but he never imagined that Duan Lingtian would conceal his strength so deeply. Before long, the merchant group had rested and reorganized for a while before continuing on their journey. Duan Lingtian noticed that besides Elder Feng Ping, everyone else, including the guard commander of the merchant group, now looked at him with respect and reverence. 415 Chapter 416, Cousins. HMPH. If it wasn't for someone acting on their own, that group of bandits wouldn't have gone on a rampage. They're both 7-star sword sect disciples, but why is the difference so huge? Some people have no ability, but like to seek the limelight. If it wasn't for the bandit leader's cultivation being crippled by Elder Feng Ping, would someone dare to attack? Fortunately, none of our brothers were killed, otherwise, HMPH. The group of guards discussed animatedly and their discussions seemed to point to something. Zhao Lei's face sank as he naturally knew that these guards were talking about him. Duan Lingtian, are you really only at the 4th level of the nascent soul stage? On the other side, a voice transmission entered into Duan Lingtian's ears. Duan Lingtian was able to discern that this was the voice of Elder Feng Ping, and he instantly replied via voice transmission. Yes. Feng Ping's pupils constricted when he obtained Duan Lingtian's confirmation. How did you comprehend wind force? According to my knowledge, a martial artist below the void-prying stage is at most able to comprehend a force seed, and it's impossible to comprehend genuine force. Feng Ping's voice transmission entered into Duan Lingtian's ears again, and it was filled with wonder and bewilderment. As far as he was concerned, everything he said was the iron law of the Cloud Continent and he'd never heard of anyone breaking it. Duan Lingtian being able to break this iron law had caused him to be inexplicably shocked. I don't know either. Duan Lingtian shook his head and replied via voice transmission. I just tried to comprehend it and comprehend it I did. Feng Ping was dumbstruck. What does tried to comprehend, and comprehend it I did, mean? It's simply like not saying anything. But Feng Ping knew clearly that even if it was him, he wouldn't easily speak of a secret like this. Duan Lingtian being unwilling to tell him was understandable. The following leg of the journey could be considered to be peaceful. After using almost a month of time, Duan Lingtian had finally arrived near the destination along with the Ancient River Trading Company's merchant group. We'll reach there in another 5 or 6 days. Feng Ping looked at Duan Lingtian and said with a slight smile. After he'd witnesses Duan Lingtian executing his shocking ability, Feng Ping's attitude to Duan Lingtian had changed. In Cloud Continent, the strong were respected. The strength Duan Lingtian currently possessed might be inferior to him, but Duan Lingtian's natural talent could be called monstrous and unparalleled. With Duan Lingtian's natural talent, catching up and even surpassing him was no difficult matter, and was extremely easy. We'll be arriving soon, Duan Lingtian's gaze shone. As for the change of attitude in Feng Ping, he'd naturally noticed it. It was like this in this world where the strong were respected. If you had the strength, you could obtain the high regard and respect of others. Conversely, if you didn't possess strength, then you would be lowly like grass and ants. 7-star sword sect, Megrez Peak. Today, an unexpected guest had arrived at the cultivation location of the outer court elder, Zhao Lin, which was a gorge with sufficient sunlight. Your elder Zhao Lin, the young man who was travel-worn slightly respectfully bowed to Zhao Lin. You are a member of the Ancient River Trading Company. Zhao Lin's gaze descended onto the symbol on the chest of the man and his brows raised. Did my cousin brother send you? Cousin brother? The young man from the Ancient River Trading Company couldn't help but be stunned when he heard Zhao Lin. My cousin brother is called Zhao Yu, said Zhao Lin. Exactly, it's Elder Zhao Yu who sent me. Elder Zhao Lin, this is the letter Elder Zhao Yu asked me to give you a month ago. The young man from the Ancient River Trading Company withdrew a letter from his spatial ring and passed it to Zhao Lin. Letter. Zhao Lin was slightly bewildered as he received the letter. He was curious in his heart, why would his cousin brother who hadn't contacted him for a few years suddenly send him a letter? His cousin brother was the grandson of his grandfather's brother, and amongst the Zhao clan disciples of similar generation as him, Zhao Yu was the only other cousin besides him. The Zhao clan had already declined after being inherited down until today. Besides his grandfather, only he and his cousin brother, and their respective only sons remained. Zhao Lin opened the letter. Cousin brother Zhao Lin, it's been a long time. Brother misses you and grandfather greatly. Today, an unexpected guest arrived in the ancient river trading company's branch in the ancient city of Everlast that brother guards, and this person says he's an inner court disciple of the 7-star sword sect. But, his age is shocking as he's actually only 22 years old. His strength surpasses Zhao Lei and is at the 4th level of the nascent soul stage. Zhao Lin's pupils constricted and his heartbeat quickened when he read up to here. Could it be? Zhao Lin took a deep breath and continued reading. This person called himself Duan Lingtian. I wonder if such an outstanding disciple had appeared in the 7-star sword sect in the recent years. Brother, please let me know via return letter, so that brother can confirm it. Zhao Lin finished reading the balance in one go. Ha ha, ha 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 ha. Suddenly, after a short moment of silence, Zhao Lin burst out into loud laughter, as if he'd encountered a huge joyous occasion. The heavens assist me. Zhao Lin was wildly happy in his heart. Duan Lingtian, no wonder you vanished 1 month ago. So it turns out that you went to the ancient city of Everlast. I'm afraid you never imagined that the external affairs elder of the 7-star sword sect that's guarding the ancient river trading company's branch there is my cousin brother. When he thought up to this point, Zhao Lin's mood surged and it wasn't able to calm down for a long time. Dense cold lights arose within Zhao Ling's eyes. Duan Lingtian, you just had to ram at Hell's Gates. This time, I'm going to make you die. I'll write a letter right away, pass it to Elder Zhao Yu. Zhao Lin looked at the young man from the ancient river trading company. Yes, the latter replied respectfully. Zhao Lin took out a brush and waved his hand, and a letter was completed smoothly without stopping. You must personally pass this letter to Elder Zhao Yu. This gold is my reward to you. Zhao Lin passed over the letter and took out a stack of gold bills at the same time, then passed them both over to the young man from the ancient river trading company. Don't worry Elder Zhao Lin, I'm alive if the letter is with me, and dead if it is destroyed. The latter pledged sincerely, then beamed as he received the gold. Go, Zhao Lin waved his hand. Yes, the latter turned around and left. Cousin brother, the future of our Zhao clan is up to you. If you're able to obtain the Muscle Meridian Rebirth Scroll from Duan Lingtian, then our Zhao clan will rise mightily. A bright light flickered in Zhao Lin's eyes. When he found out that Duan Lingtian had gone to the ancient city of Everlast, he wished for nothing more than to head there himself, but he knew clearly that if he were to leave, it would surely leave some tracks. Once Duan Lingtian died outside of the sect, others would very likely follow these tracks and find him. This was something that he was unwilling to see happen. Cousin brother's strength surpasses mine, so it isn't difficult for him to kill Duan Lingtian and seize the Muscle Meridian Rebirth Scroll. When he thought up to here, Zhao Lin's face revealed a smile. 6 days later, Duan Lingtian's group finally walked out of the boundless desert and they'd only just entered an oasis when they saw a city standing in the distance. Duan Lingtian looked at Feng Ping who was beside him and asked curiously. Elder Feng Ping, that's the destination of our trip this time. Exactly. Feng Ping nodded. When we've arrived at the city ahead, the merchant group will put down the goods and change to another load of goods. At that time, we'll go back the same way we came to the ancient city of Everlast. During that time, we have some time to have a proper meal. Duan Lingtian's eye lit up. During this arduous journey of an entire 1 month of time, they'd never eaten a proper meal and now they could finally have one. The merchant group entered the city. The guard commander led the merchant group to unload their cargo. As for Duan Lingtian, Feng Ping, and the other 3 7-star sword sect disciples, they found a restaurant to eat. Their meal was calm and tranquil, as even Zhao Lei didn't make trouble anymore. Actually, since Duan Lingtian exerted the strength of 800 ancient mammoths that day, Zhao Lei was completely terrified and didn't dare be presumptuous before Duan Lingtian. He was so well behaved that it caused the other 7-star sword sect inner court disciples to exclaim with admiration. All felt that Zhao Lei had changed. After they ate, Duan Lingtian and the others gathered with the merchant group before leaving the city and headed back to the ancient city of Everlast. All along the way, Duan Lingtian was still cultivating. Time flew by. Almost a month quickly passed by. That day, Duan Lingtian awoke from his cultivation and a bright light flickered in his eyes. Looks like you've improved. Duan Lingtian had only just awoken from his cultivation when Feng Ping's voice transmission entered into Duan Lingtian's ears in a timely manner. Duan Lingtian smiled lightly. Presently, his cultivation was already at the breakthrough point between the 4th level of the nascent soul stage and the 5th level of the nascent soul stage. He only lacked an opportunity to push his cultivation to smoothly break through to the 5th level of the nascent soul stage. At that time, his strength would increase once again. Once I break through to the 5th level of the nascent soul stage, then even if I encounter that saber young master once again and fight him head-on, I don't have to be afraid of the strength from his saber force seed any longer. Even if his strength reaches its peak with the fluctuation of the saber force seed, I can still crush him head-on. Duan Lingtian thought in his heart, and he was filled with confidence. Elder Feng Ping, how long before we arrive at the ancient city of Everlast? Duan Lingtian asked Feng Ping. Feng Ping lightly smiled. We ought to arrive in another 4 or 5 days, then people I and Elder Zhao Yu sent to the 7-star sword sect ought to have already returned by now. We'll be able to confirm your identity once we return. Duan Lingtian nodded, then continued to close his eyes and meditate. At almost the exact same time, within the Ancient River Trading Company's branch in the ancient city of Everlast. Elder Zhao Yu, this is the letter Elder Zhao Lin sent to you. The young man respectfully passed the sealed letter in his hands to Zhao Yu. Okay, you can leave. Zhao Yu waved his hand, and the latter withdrew himself. Swish. In next to no time, Zhao Yu had opened the letter. His gaze descended onto the segment of words in the front and was slightly shocked. Duan Lingtian is really an inner court disciple of our 7-star sword sect. It would seem that Lei was indeed too rash. Zhao Yu sighed and continued reading. Duan Lingtian had just entered the 7-star sword sect for not even a year when he killed the number 1 disciple in the outer court, Shi Hao, and became the new number 1 disciple in the outer court at the age of 21. 1 year later, he killed a first-level nascent soul stage inner court disciple, Lu Shizhe, with a cultivation at the 9th level of the origin core stage. Not long ago at the martial competition of the 5 great sects, he defeated the demonic Lotus Blade sect's saber young master, Long Yun, and seized the supreme glory of first place in the martial competition for the 7-star sword sect. Zhao Yu's breathing became progressively hurried as his gaze went downwards. He never imagined that Duan Lingtian was not only an inner court disciple of the 7-star sword sect, but he also had such shocking accomplishments. 416 Chapter 417, White-Clothed Young Girl. Duan Lingtian is a monster. He's simply not human. Zhao Yu couldn't help but be inexplicably shocked. Duan Lingtian's accomplishments were something he couldn't avoid being shocked about even if he'd lived through half his life. When he recalled the conflict between Duan Lingtian and his son, Zhao Lei, when Duan Lingtian had just arrived at the ancient city of Everlast, he couldn't help but laugh bitterly. Looks like Lei can only suffer his loss silently this time, not to mention him, even I can't afford to offend Duan Lingtian. It wasn't difficult to imagine the importance of Duan Lingtian to the current 7-star sword sect. There's still so much at the back. In next to no time, Zhao Yu noticed that in the letter his cousin brother, Zhao Lin, gave him, there was actually a large segment of words after the description of Duan Lingtian's accomplishments. He continued reading. Before long, his pupils couldn't help but constrict. After he completely read it, his face was flushed and he was inexplicably excited. Duan Lingtian actually has a supreme cultivation method, the Muscle Meridian Rebirth Scroll. It's able to allow one to achieve rebirth and increase natural talent, so the reason that Duan Lingtian is so monstrous is all because of that Muscle Meridian Rebirth Scroll. Zhao Yu's feelings surged, and at the same time that he was shocked, his eyes emitted the flames of burning desire that seemed as if it could burn anything into nothingness. Just like cousin brother Zhao Lin said, once our Zhao clan obtains the Muscle Meridian Rebirth Scroll, it will surely rise up mightily. When he thought of this, the greed in Zhao Yu's eyes rose even more, to a point that it was difficult to restrain. Duan Lingtian ought to be returning with the merchant group in another few days. I should go make some preparations to gift him an enormous gift. Zhao Yu's face revealed slight madness. 7-star sword sect, Dubi Peak, Alcade Hall. Swoosh. In the sky outside Alcade Hall, the airflow flashed as a beautiful figure appeared out of thin air. This was a beautiful girl in clothes that were as white as snow, and her every action revealed an extremely elegant bearing. The white-clothed young girl stood in the sky like a pure snow lotus, causing it to be difficult for one to arouse the intention to disrespect her. Suddenly, a figure flashed out of Arcade Hall to stand facing the white-clothed young girl. This was a beautiful woman with a dignified and graceful bearing. Martial Aunt. The white-clothed young girl bowed slightly respectfully to the beautiful woman. The beautiful woman was none other than the master of Arcade Hall, the peak master of the 7-star sword sect's Arcade Peak. Qin Shang. You're Shui. Qin Shang asked in an unsure manner as she gazed at the white-clothed young girl before her. Martial Aunt, it's me. The white-clothed young girl lightly smiled like a blooming azure lotus, and her peerless beauty caused one's mind to surge. I never imagined that the little girl from that year would become so big in the blink of an eye. I still remember that when I saw you a few years ago, you were still a little girl. Qin Shang recalled past memories and sighed. Did you come here this time because big sister has something she needs? Qin Shang returned to her senses, then looked at the white-clothed young girl and asked in a light voice. When she mentioned her big sister, Qin Zhang's face seemed to contain deep respect mixed within. This was respect that came from the heart, respect that came from the soul. When Qin Shang recalled the shocking strength displayed by that young girl who emitted an air of mysteriousness throughout her body, Qin Shang couldn't help but shudder. At that time, she was only 10 years old and had not entered the 7-star sword sect yet. That mysterious young girl was only a little over 20, yet 3 void initiation experts were turned into dust with a raise of her hand. To Qin Xian, being able to become sisters with that young girl of extraordinary background was truly good fortune that she'd accumulated for 3 lifetimes. She knew clearly in her heart that if it wasn't because of the young girl, it would be impossible for her to become the peak master of the 7-star sword sect that possessed a strength only inferior to the sect leader, Elder Peng, and the 2 guardian elders. She was a mere woman, yet was able to stand at such a height. Her big sister played a big part in it. Martial Aunt, Master's 50th birthday is in 7 months. Master asked me to invite Martial Aunt and the people close to Martial Aunt to head over together and use this occasion to catch up. Master asked me to pass a message to Martial Aunt, the affection between sisters will never change forever. The white-clothed young girl said slowly. The affection between sisters will never change forever. Qin Zhang's body slightly shook, then she sighed lightly. The biggest accomplishment of Qin Shang, in this entire lifetime, isn't becoming the Arcade Peak's master, but it's instead acknowledging such a good big sister. Shui, wait for a moment, I'll go get ready now. Qin Xian's figure flashed out to return to Arcade Hall once she finished speaking. K'er, make a trip with Master, perhaps this is a good fortune for you. Qin Shang found K'er and said straightforwardly. K'er had a puzzled expression. K'er, do you remember the martial aunt that Master mentioned? Qin Shang asked K'er. I remember. K'er nodded. Master, this matter is related to martial aunt. She'd heard of the mysterious martial aunt of hers. She had learned that her martial aunt was a supreme figure from her master and was also the person her master respected the most in her master's entire life. Qin Shang lightly smiled and as she said, your martial aunt's 50th birthday is in 7 months, she ordered her personal disciple to come here and invite us to go together. But, if I follow Master over, then the 2-year agreement between young Master and Zither young Master, K'er was slightly hesitant. I'm confident that Duan Lingtian will win that 2-year agreement. What? Could it be that you're not confident? Qin Shang smiled as she asked, then her face went serious as she slowly said, with your martial aunt's character, she will surely not treat you shabbily when you head over this time, perhaps, when you return, your cultivation will already far surpass Duan Lingtian. When she recalled the background of her big sister, Qin Zhang's heart couldn't help but tremble. To her, it was an existence that was difficult for her to reach in her entire lifetime. When she saw K'er still hesitating, Qin Shang continued. K'er, I know you're exerting yourself to cultivate all for the sake of being able to help Duan Lingtian one day, but even if you continue cultivating like this, you might not be able to surpass Duan Lingtian and help Duan Lingtian. If you follow Master on this trip, you'll get the providence of your martial aunt, and wanting to surpass Duan Lingtian wouldn't be a difficult matter. To the extent that once your strength surpasses him, you can help him quite a bit. You're not willing to be a trophy wife by his side, right? Qin Shang obviously knew K'er's vital weak point and took a step forward in smashing the line of defense in K'er's heart. In the end, K'er agreed. Master, I want to make big sister Fei go with us, is that all right? When she heard she'd be able to obtain a great deal of benefits from this trip, K'er thought of Li Fei at the first possible moment. She and Li Fei were sisters that shared both fortune and suffering alike. Of course, Qin Shang lightly smiled as she nodded. Subsequently, Qin Shang brought Kair to leave Dubi Peak and went to Alcade Peak to get Li Fei. They were 2 when they left, and they'd become 3 when they returned. After they left Alcade Peak, Qin Zhang's face went pale. Not good. Instantly, Qin Shang grabbed both Kair and Li Fei's hands, then stepped on the air to rise before flying towards the sky above Alcade Hall with extremely speed. Presently, there were 3 people in confrontation high above in the sky. 2 aged old men and a white-clothed young girl. Little girl, do you think that we can't do anything to you just because you won't speak? Origin energy oscillated on the body of azure-clothed old man amongst 2. A profound aura transformed into a strong azure chi that ceaselessly rose within his origin energy, and to a certain extent, it was as if it had merged into one with the heaven and earth. Little girl, if you still don't speak of your background, then don't blame us Elder Zan and Elder Ming for bullying the young. The other gray-clothed old man said in a deep voice, and at the same time, a spirit sword appeared in his hand. Origin energy raged atop the spirit energy, seeming to have transformed into swimming dragons that ceaselessly flashed. At the same time, an oppressive aura of slaughter ceaselessly stretched out from the sword, carrying along an extremely terrifying sharp force. 6th level sword concept, 5th level wind concept. The white-clothed girl that hadn't spoken all along had finally spoken, and her tone contained a casual air. Leave, the 2 of you aren't a match for me. Presumptuous. The white-clothed young girl's words caused the 2 old men's faces to go grim, and they couldn't endure any longer, directly attacking with imposing manners that shot into the sky like rainbows. In the blink of an eye. Swoosh, swoosh. The azure-clothed old man seemed to instantly transform in a gust of azure wind that flashed straight towards the white-clothed young girl. The surrounding cloud and mist were directly swept away everywhere he passed. The gray-clothed old man's speed wasn't inferior to the former, and he seemed to have transformed into a sword of slaughter that stabbed towards the white-clothed young girl. Elder Zan, Elder Ming, show mercy. Right at this moment, an alarmed shout sounded out. Subsequently, a dignified and graceful beautiful woman with extraordinary bearing pulled along 2 young women to flash into the sky to arrive nearby. It was precisely the Peak Master of Alcade Peak, Qin Shang, who'd just rushed over from Alcade Peak. Unfortunately, Qin Shang was still too late. The 2 old men attacked with imposing manners that shot into the sky like rainbows, and they were both concentrated mind and soul onto their respective attacks, making it difficult for them to pay attention to their surroundings. They attacked in rage without holding back in the slightest. In the sky above the azure-clothed old man, 16 ancient horned dragon silhouettes and a few hundred ancient mammoth silhouettes appeared. In the sky above the gray-clothed old man, 17 ancient horned dragon silhouettes and a few hundred of ancient mammoth silhouettes appeared. This was strongest strength they could display from the entire strength of their body combined with their respective concept and amplification from the spirit weapons in their hands. Qin Zhang's face was deathly pale when she saw the attacks of the 2 old men were about to descend onto the white-clothed young girl. She could imagine that if the white-clothed young girl were to really die here, then the 7-star sword sect would surely be in great turmoil or even pass out of existence. Kair and Li Fei's beautiful eyes revealed slight inability to endure it when they saw this scene. They were unable to endure watch the subsequent scene of the beauty perishing. Right at this critical moment, the white-clothed young girl's voice sounded out calmly. I've said it before, the 2 of you aren't a match for me. In the next moment, the white-clothed young girl slowly lifted up her white wrist. She didn't use a spirit weapon nor concept. Pure origin energy leapt out to coil around her white wrist. Her wrist descended and the condensed origin energy transformed into a material palm print. In the next moment, swoosh, the palm print suddenly shook, then instantly expanded explosively, transforming into a small mountain in the blink of an eye before crashing down. Bang! When the terrifying palm print descended, the air seemed to have instantly been sucked out, and a terrifying airflow swept out. For a time, the clouds and mist atop Alcade Hall were completely swept away. 417 Chapter 418, Void Interpretation Stage Expert. The airflow that swept out caused an awe-inspiring strong wind to flash towards the surroundings, blowing onto Qin Shang, Kair and Li Fei. But they didn't notice it in the slightest at the moment as they stared blankly at the scene before them. Bang! The white-clothed young girl's palm descended, and that palm print that seemed to have transformed into a small mountain seemed as if it brought along unparalleled might as it collided with the attacks of the 2 old men. In the next moment, along with a muffled grunt from the two old men, their bodies directly flew out as if transformed into arrows that had left the bow, and fiercely collided on a precipice on the side of Doobie Peak. Instantly, shattered rocks flew out to scatter in the air and scatter down the precipice, and even an echo wasn't able to be heard in the slightest. Pooh, pooh, the two old men spat out a mouthful of blood at almost the exact same instant, then they glanced each other in the eyes and saw astonishment in the eyes of each other. And at almost the exact same instant, their gazes descended onto the sky above the white-clothed young girl in unison. There were 20 lifelike ancient horned dragon silhouettes spiraling in descent there. She didn't utilize a spirit weapon nor concept, and developed 20 ancient horned dragon silhouettes by merely using her own origin energy to draw upon the energy of heaven and earth. Void interpretation stage. She's a void interpretation stage expert. The azure-clothed old man's face went pale and he slightly lost his composure as he exclaimed in surprise. Void interpretation stage. The gray-clothed old man's face revealed bitterness. He knew that the white-clothed young girl held back earlier, otherwise, it would be impossible for him and the old fellow by his side to survive under the hands of the white-clothed young girl. Void interpretation stage. Qin Shang, Ke and Li Fei heard the azure-clothed old man's voice and were all dumbstruck. Swoosh! Right at this moment, an incomparably swift figure charged into the sky. Martial Uncle Zan, Martial Uncle Ming. Lingu Jinhong had an astonished expression when he saw the two guardian elders being injured at the same time, then he looked at the white-clothed young girl. Who exactly are you? Why did you come to the Seven-Star Sword sect? Meanwhile, the azure-clothed old man, one of the two great guardian elders of the Seven-Star Sword sect, Elder Ming, said with a bitter smile, "Sect leader, she's a void interpretation stage expert." Void interpretation stage expert. When Lingu Jinhong arrived, the 20 ancient horned dragon silhouettes above the white-clothed girl had already gradually dispersed, so he didn't know strong exactly the white-clothed young girl was. Now, his face completely went pale when he heard Elder Ming. Void interpretation stage expert. Not to mention the Azure Forest Imperial Kingdom, even the Darkstone Empire didn't possess such an existence. Moreover, this white-clothed young girl was so young. He'd never heard of such a young void interpretation stage expert in the Darken Dynasty. Senior brother sect leader, it's all a misunderstanding. Meanwhile, Qin Shang held Ke and Li Fei's hand as she stepped up into the sky. She knew that it was time for her to stand out. Junior sister Qin Shang. Lingu Jinhong looked at Qin Shang with a bewildered gaze. You know her? Senior brother. Qin Shang lightly smiled and introduced. She is the personal disciple of the big sister I once mentioned to you. She came today to invite me to participate in the 50th birthday of her master, and she absolutely bears no ill intent to the Seven-Star Sword sect. So that's how it is. Lingu Jinhong came to a sudden understanding and heaved a sigh of relief at the same time. As a senior brother that was on friendly terms with Qin Shang, Lingu Jinhong had heard of the good fortune of Qin Zhang's. Qin Zhang's big sister seemed to be from the foreign lands. Experts are really numerous like the clouds in the foreign lands. This white-clothed young girl is so young, yet she's already in existence at the void interpretation stage. Lingu Jinhun felt a wave of powerlessness when he was before the white-clothed young girl, but he knew that that level wasn't something he could reach. What? The azure-clothed old man in the distance, Elder Ming, was stunned. Misunderstanding. The corners of the nearby Elder Zan's mouth twitched. This misunderstanding nearly cost them their lives. Little girl, wouldn't it have been fine if you said that you know Qin Shang? Elder Ming looked at the white-clothed young girl with a bitter smile covering his old face. Martial Uncle Ming, I'm sorry. Qin Shang looked at Elder Ming with an apologetic expression. Shui was addicted to cultivating since a young age and doesn't know how people conduct themselves in the world. I hope Martial Uncle Zan and Martial Uncle Ming can forgive her. Never mind, since she's one of our own, then it means that the Seven-Star Sword sect is fine, and this old fellow should return now. I've cultivated so many years in vain, in the end I'm far inferior to even a little girl. Elder Zan sighed, then his figure flashed, transforming in a sword that soared into the skies and concealing himself within the clouds. I'm leaving as well. Elder Ming nodded to Lingu Jinhong and Qin Shang, then transformed into a gust of azure wind and vanished without a trace. Sect leader, we should leave now as well. In next to no time, Qin Shang noticed that many people had become aware of the event here and she stepped up into the sky to notify Lingu Jinhong. Then she brought Ke, Li Fei and the white-clothed young girl to conceal themselves within the clouds. Senior brother, Duan Ling Tian is the man that this disciple of mine has set her mind on. I hope you can guarantee his safety. Qin Shang is extremely grateful. A voice transmission sounded out in Lingu Jinhong's ears. Don't worry, Duan Lingtian is related to the future of our 7-star sword sect. I won't let anything happen to him. Lingu Jinhong promised. Sect leader, what happened earlier? Numerous figures stepped on the air and soared into the sky. It was the peak masters of the various peaks and their respective elders. It's nothing. Lingu Jinhong shook his head, then only left Zheng Fan behind after asking everyone to disperse. Peak Master Zheng Fan, pass down all the matters in your hands during the next few days, then make a trip to the ancient city of Everlast. You must ensure that Duan Lingtian is safe and sound. For safety's sake, Lingu Jinhong sent Zheng Fan over. Yes, sect leader. Zheng Fan nodded. He and his son owed Duan Lingtian a debt of gratitude, so officially and privately, he was duty-bound in this matter. Ancient city of Everlast. After a few days, Duan Lingtian had finally returned with the merchant group and returned to the Ancient River Trading Company branch. After they returned, Elder Feng Ping found the member of the Ancient River Trading Company that he'd sent. Did you obtain the letter personally written by our 7-star sword sect leader? Elder Feng Ping, this is the personally written letter from your respected sect's leader. The member of the Ancient River Trading Company respectfully passed a letter to Feng Ping. Feng Ping opened it to take a look, and his pupils couldn't help but constrict. Duan Lingtian is a matchless inner court disciple of the 7-star sword sect. He'd only entered the 7-star sword sect for not even a year when he killed the number 1 disciple in the outer court, Shi Hao, and became the new number 1 disciple in the outer court at the age of 22. 1 year later, he killed the first-level nascent soul stage inner court disciple, Lu Shizhe, with a cultivation at the 9th level of the origin core stage. Not long ago at the martial competition of the 5 great sects, he defeated the demonic Lotus Blade sect's saber young master, Long Yun, and seized the supreme glory of the first in the martial competition for the 7-star sword sect. Feng Ping's face flushed red after he finished reading it. Duan Lingtian actually seized the first in the martial competition of the 5 great sects. What a kid, I actually never heard him mention it, not arrogant or conceited, he'd indeed a good youngling. Feng Ping laughed loudly. Practically at the exact same instant, Zhao Lei found out about the outcome of Duan Lingtian's identity from his father, Zhao Yu. At the same time, he also knew of the deeds that Duan Lingtian had performed in the 7-star sword sect. I never imagined that Duan Lingtian's background would be so great. Zhao Lei gnashed his teeth with an unwilling expression, yet he was helpless and sighed. Father, don't worry, I won't make it difficult for you. Since Duan Lingtian is really an inner court disciple of our 7-star sword sect, then I'll bury this humiliation at the bottom of my heart. There's no need. Zhao Yu shook his head and smiled. Zhao Lei was stunned as he didn't know what his father meant. Zhao Yu suddenly stood up and gazed outside the courtyard, then called Zhao Lei over to his room once he confirmed that there was no one outside. Father, what are you being so mysterious for? Zhao Lei had a bewildered and curious expression. Lei, you can't tell anyone what father is about to tell you, do you understand me? Zhao Yu had a serious expression as he warned. The more Zhao Yu was like this, the more curious Zhao Lei was. Father, I understand. Quickly tell me, is it related to Duan Lingtian? Subsequently, Zhao Yu slowly narrated everything Zhao Lin had wrote about the Muscle Meridian Rebirth Scroll in the letter. The Muscle Meridian Rebirth Scroll is able to allow one to achieve rebirth and increase the natural talent to the absolute limit. Zhao Lei's breathing became hurried and his eyes revealed traces of burning desire. Father, doesn't that mean that so long as I cultivate the Muscle Meridian Rebirth Scroll, I'll be able to soar into the heavens in accomplishments? And even possess a natural talent similar to Duan Lingtian? Yes. Zhao Yu lightly smiled as he nodded, then said, Lei, I and your uncle are already old, and it was difficult to cultivate to the void-prying stage. Dispersing our cultivation to change and cultivate the Muscle Meridian Rebirth Scroll required proper thought. You and your cousin brother are different, so long as you obtain the Muscle Meridian Rebirth Scroll in Duan Lingtian's possession, you and your cousin brother can directly disperse your cultivations and cultivate it. At that time, our Zhao clan will surely rise mightily. As he finished speaking, Zhao Yu had an excited expression. Zhao Lei hurriedly nodded and was extremely excited. So it turns out that Duan Lingtian possessed his shocking natural talent and cultivation because he cultivated the Muscle Meridian Rebirth Scroll. Zhao Lei's gaze flickered as they emitted viciousness. Father, what do you plan to do with Duan Lingtian? Kill him to prevent any future trouble, of course. At the same time, help you have your revenge. A cold light flashed in Zhao Yu's eyes as he said frankly. Thank you, father. A brilliant smile bloomed on Zhao Lei's face, and his vicious gaze contained frightful cold lights mixed within. Duan Lingtian, I'll let you be complacent, I'll let you be arrogant, soon, I'll seize everything of yours and cultivate that muscle meridian rebirth scroll, then stride towards the peak of the martial Tao. Alright, Lei, we ought to go offer an apology to that Duan Lingtian, Zhao Yu said to Zhao Lei. Offer an apology? Zhao Lei frowned when he heard this and had a puzzled and unwilling expression. Father, why do we still have to offer an apology to him? Lei, you can be at ease. Duan Lingtian will surely be unable to flee from death. You're offering an apology to him now, firstly to show the bearing of our Zhao clan members, and secondly so that no one will suspect us when his death is exposed. Zhao Yu's face revealed a smile of a sly fox. After all, in the eyes of outsiders, the relationship between us has already been mended. 418 Chapter 419, Sly Old Fox. Within the spacious hall in the ancient river trading company, everyone from the Seven-Star Sword sect including Duan Lingtian were gathered together. Duan Lingtian, you truly concealed yourself deeply. If I didn't see the personally written letter from the sect leader, I still wouldn't know that you've only joined the Seven-Star Sword sect for less than 3 years, yet you've done so many outstanding things. Feng Ping's eyes lit up like an array of stars when he saw Duan Lingtian again, and his face bloomed into a warm smile. Duan Lingtian smiled lightly. He knew clearly in his heart that since Feng Ping obtained the letter personally written by the sect leader, then Feng Ping would surely know of his past. Most importantly, his identity was already confirmed without a doubt. Feng Ping's words caused the other 2 Seven-Star Sword sect inner court disciples to have bewildered expressions. Elder Feng Ping, shouldn't you tell us the content of the letter personally written by the sect leader? Yeah, we're interested in Duan Lingtian's deeds as well. The 2 Seven-Star Sword sect inner court disciples looked at Feng Ping as they asked curiously. You two little fellows. Feng Ping shook his head and smiled, and he was just about to speak when he was interrupted. Duan Lingtian, inner court disciple of the Seven-Star Sword sect. He only entered the Seven-Star Sword sect for less than a year when he killed the number 1 disciple in the outer court, Shi Hao, and became the new number 1 disciple in the outer court at the age of 22. 1 year later, he killed the first-level nascent soul stage inner court disciple, Lu Shizhe, with a cultivation at the 9th level of the origin core stage. Not long ago at the martial competition of the 5 great sects, he defeated the demonic Lotus Blade sect's saber young master, Long Yun, and seized the supreme glory of first place in the martial competition for the Seven-Star Sword sect. It was Zhao Yu who'd taken a step forward and finished saying it in one go, causing both the Seven-Star Sword sect inner court disciples to be dumbstruck. Although they know Duan Lingtian's strength was formidable, they never imagined that Duan Lingtian would have such shocking achievements in the Seven-Star Sword sect. He'd simply written history in the Seven-Star Sword sect. For a time, the gazes they shot at Duan Lingtian was even more reverent. Duan Lingtian. Suddenly, Duan Lingtian noticed that after Zhao Yu finished speaking, Zhao Yu looked at him with a sincere expression. I was unable to confirm your identity as inner court disciple that day, so I said some things that aren't so good. I hope you don't take it to heart. Elder Zhao Yu, please don't mention it. Duan Lingtian naturally replied with a smile when he saw Zhao Yu being so courteous. Looks like this Zhao Yu isn't as deplorable as his son. As an elder of the Seven-Star Sword sect, he actually was willing to lower his head and apologize to an inner court disciple. This was hard to come by. You unfilial son, have you forgotten what I told you on the way here? Are you still not going to apologize? In next to no time, Duan Lingtian noticed that Zhao Yu moved his gaze onto Zhao Lei, and it seemed to contain slight rage mixed within. Zhao Lei took a deep breath and looked at Duan Lingtian, then lowered his head. Duan Lingtian, the incident before is my fault, I shouldn't have done that. As for the incident that happened afterwards, it was all brought upon me by myself. In the future, I won't bear a grudge at you any longer. I hope you can let bygones be bygones. What Zhao Lei said caused Duan Lingtian to be completely stunned. His first thought was that Zhao Yu had forced Zhao Lei to say this. But, no matter what the process was, since Zhao Lei had said these words, it was undoubtedly an extra slight intention of admitting his mistakes. He wasn't a savage and unreasonable person, so he smiled lightly. Senior brother Zhao Lei, although this incident started because of you, but the way I solved it in the end was slightly extreme, sorry. Zhao Lei nodded and silently withdrew himself. Now everything is fine, the sky has cleared up after the storm. Duan Lingtian is an inner court disciple of our 7-star sword sect without a doubt. Feng Ping laughed loudly and was extremely happy. Duan Lingtian looked at Feng Ping and Zhao Yu as he slowly said, Elder Feng Ping, Elder Zhao Yu, I have something I want to tell both of you in advance. What is it? Speak. Feng Ping and Zhao Yu looked at Duan Lingtian with an expression as if they would solve anything he needed help with. It's like this, I plan to leave the ancient city of Everlast and wander about myself for some time, Duan Lingtian said without beating around the bush in the slightest. This plan was something he'd decided 2 months ago before he'd followed the merchant group on the journey. Now, since his identity was already confirmed, it was also the time for him to leave. He kept having the feeling that staying in the ancient city of Everlast wouldn't be able to provide him with the effect of gaining experience and tempering. Perhaps, wandering about by himself might be able to provide better experience and tempering. Duan Lingtian's words caused Feng Ping to frown. Duan Lingtian, the sect leader asked you to come here because he hoped that you'd be able to obtain experience and tempering here. Not only that, I think the reason the sect leader made this decision is because you have the care of me and Elder Zhao Yu in the ancient city of Everlast, so even if you encounter any dangers, it would be easily solved. Exactly, Duan Lingtian, if you go out wandering alone, then if you encounter any danger or something happens to you, then how would we explain it to the sect leader? Zhao Yu nodded and agreed with Feng Ping's words. Elders, don't worry, I'll act according to my ability and will absolutely not be rash. Duan Lingtian shook his head and smiled, with an expression as if he'd made up his mind. Feng Ping and Zhao Yu didn't say anything further when they saw Duan Lingtian was so persistent. Feng Ping warned with a serious expression. Duan Lingtian, you must pay attention to your safety when you're outside. You must know that you're not only a single person right now, but you carry the future of the 7-star sword sect. Yes, you must be careful, Zhao Yu said as well. Don't worry elders, I will. Duan Lingtian nodded then said, since it's like this, I'll leave right away. There's no rush. Zhao Yu lightly smiled and stopped him. Duan Lingtian, you've just returned today and you're fatigued from travel, let us father and son be the host tonight. All of you will go have a proper meal in a restaurant and you can leave tomorrow. How about it? That's fine as well. Duan Lingtian didn't suspect anything and nodded. A day earlier or a day later was of no big difference to him. Then we'll slaughter Elder Zhao Yu properly tonight. Feng Ping joked. For a time, the spacious hall was filled with laughter. That night, Zhao Yu and Zhao Lei set a banquet and everyone from the 7-star sword sect that was guarding the ancient river trading company branch were gathered together. This table of food is for us father and son to make an apology, and to send off Duan Lingtian. Zhao Yu raised the wine cup in his hand, then glared at Zhao Lei before toasting Duan Lingtian together. Elder Zhao Yu, you're too courteous, friends are often made after a fight. Duan Lingtian light smiled as he nodded, then raised his wine cup to toast Zhao Yu and Zhao Lei. In next to no time, Feng Ping and the other 2 7-star sword sect inner court disciples joined in. The 6 of them drank until deep into the night before returning. Duan Lingtian, we'll drink again when you return. Zhao Yu smiled to Duan Lingtian, then carried up Zhao Lei who was knocked out from too much wine and returned to his own small courtyard. All right, Duan Lingtian replied then left shoulder to shoulder with Feng Ping and headed towards a different direction from Elder Zhao Yu. Duan Lingtian returned to his own small courtyard after bidding farewell to Feng Ping. Once he returned to his small courtyard, Duan Lingtian's drunk appearance vanished, and his originally muddy eyes had returned to clarity. Big brother Lingtian, that Zhao surnamed pair of father and son suddenly became so nice, they're surely planning something. The voice transmission of the little gold mouse entered into Duan Lingtian's ears. Little gold, I never expected that you were even able to notice this. Duan Lingtian pulled out the little golf mouse from within his sleeve and lightly combed her hair, his eyes flickering with a frightful sheen. The sly old fox, Zhao Yu, ability to act isn't bad at all, even I was nearly deceived. Unfortunately, that useless son of his gave it away long ago. Earlier, when they were still at the hall of the ancient river trading company, he'd noticed an inkling from Zhao Lei, and when Zhao Yu suggested that he leave the next day, he felt something was off even more strongly. Zhao Yu seemed more like he was delaying for time. Big brother Lingtian, why don't we seize the opportunity to leave deep in the night? The little gold mouse suggested. It's all right, we'll leave tomorrow, let me see what tricks Zhao Yu has up his sleeve. Duan Lingtian's eyes went cold and the corners of his mouth curled into a sneer of disdain. At practically the exact same moment, at a small courtyard on the other side of the ancient river trading company's large courtyard, a bright light flashed within Zhao Yu's muddy eyes, and he didn't seem drunk in the slightest anymore. At the same time, Zhao Lei, who Zhao Yu put down, woke up as well, and he had a sober expression. Was this even a person who was knocked out from getting drunk? Father, since Duan Lingtian is leaving tomorrow, then you can follow him and kill him tomorrow. So long as we kill him and seize the Muscle Meridian Rebirth Scroll in his possession, then our good days will be arriving. As he finished speaking, Zhao Lei had an excited expression. No, Zhao Yu shook his head. When he leaves tomorrow, not only will I not follow him, I'll even go look for Elder Feng Ping to have tea. Zhao Lei was dumbstruck. Father, wouldn't he get away if you don't follow him? Lei, if I follow him, then once the matter of him being killed was exposed and I wasn't at the Ancient River Trading Company's branch, then if the sect really investigates the matter, they would surely suspect me. So, I'll look for Elder Feng Ping to have tea tomorrow. Once the sect investigates the matter, Elder Feng Ping can be a witness for me that it was impossible for me to go follow Duan Lingtian. Zhao Yu's face revealed a smile that was sly like a fox. In this way, there's indeed no risk at all. But, what about that Muscle Meridian Rebirth Scroll? If we let Duan Lingtian get away this time, we don't know if we'll still be able to find such a good opportunity in the future. Zhao Lei frowned with an unwilling expression. Lei, Zhao Yu sighed, then stretched his hand out to point at his own brain. Sometimes, you have to use your brain to think more. I'm not going to follow Duan Lingtian to pursue and kill him to seize the Muscle Meridian Rebirth Scroll, but it doesn't mean that I won't ask someone else to kill him and seize the Muscle Meridian Rebirth Scroll. It doesn't matter who killed him to us, what's most important is that Muscle Meridian Rebirth Scroll. Zhao Lei's gaze lit up when he heard Zhao Yu. Father, you've thought it out perfectly. 419 Chapter 420, Muscle Meridian Rebirth Scroll. Dawn, as the myriad of beings in the land awoke from their slumber. Duan Lingtian, who sat cross-legged on the bed and cultivated the entire night, let out a breath of air as he opened his eyes. Crack, crackle, crack. Duan Lingtian lightly stretched his arms, and a wave of light sounds of bones rubbing together sounded out. Only a little bit more and I can break through to the 5th level of the nascent soul stage. Duan Lingtian's face revealed a satisfied smile as he sensed his current cultivation. Duan Lingtian got off the bed and brought along Little Gold as he left the room. After he ate the breakfast prepared by the member of the Ancient River Trading Company, Duan Lingtian went to see Feng Ping and the others to bid his farewells. With Zhao Yu and Feng Ping in the lead, everyone from the 7-Star Sword sect were present, and they sent Duan Lingtian off from the Ancient River Trading Company with their eyes. They only came back to their senses after Duan Lingtian's figure vanished before their eyes. Elder Feng Ping, President Lan gave me some tea half a month ago, come have some at my place. Zhao Yu looked at Feng Ping and invited. Feng Ping's gaze lit up and he jumped at the offer. Tea given by President Lan is surely good tea, then I'll do as you ask. Along with the Zhao Yu and Feng Ping leaving the large courtyard, Zhao Lei and the other 2 7-Star Sword sect inner court disciples left as well. No one noticed that at this moment, a wisp of an evil smile that was difficult to notice faintly appeared on the corners of Zhao Lei's mouth. On the other side, Duan Lingtian's spiritual force became vigilant once he turned into the small alley. At the first possible moment, Duan Lingtian's spiritual force didn't notice any inklings, and he couldn't help but say to himself, could it be that I overthought things? But, when he passed through the small alley, he was able to notice a gaze that was locked tightly on him. Needless to say, this person was extremely cautious and even an ordinary void-prying stage martial artist might not be able to notice him. Unfortunately, Duan Lingtian's previous life profession of a weapons specialist allowed him to grasp the highest level of counter-tracking abilities, and he'd noticed this person that was concealed in the shadows at the first possible moment. Not only that, Duan Lingtian was even able to discover the person's cultivation through his acute spiritual force. First level void-prying stage. That Zhao Yu really looks highly upon me. Duan Lingtian rubbed his nose and an evil smile appeared on his face as he shook his sleeve and sent a voice transmission. Little Gold, drag out that unfortunate fellow for me later, also, don't kill him, I want to ask him a few questions. Okay. The Little Gold Mouse's voice transmission contained jubilance and excitement. Duan Lingtian wasn't surprised by this. Little Gold had never fought a battle throughout these 2 months, and perhaps she was already pent up. Now, her pent-up flame finally had a place to be vented. Subsequently, Duan Lingtian circumnavigated into a remote small alley within the ancient city of Everlast. Relying on his acute spiritual force, Duan Lingtian was able to sense that the first-level void-prying stage martial artist that was following him was still concealed at the side, as if intending to wait for an opportunity to attack him. Little Gold, drag him out. Duan Lingtian sent a voice transmission to tell the little gold mouse of the exact location of the first-level void-prying stage martial artist, then directly asked her to get him. Squeak squeak, the little gold mouse cried out excitedly, then she transformed into a gold light that flashed out from Duan Lingtian's sleeve. After a short moment, Duan Lingtian heard a wave of thunderclaps sound out behind him. It was precisely the little gold mouse utilizing her half-step advanced lightning force. In the next moment, bang, ah, a heavy sound of something dropping onto the floor sounded out while accompanied by a miserable shrill cry. Duan Lingtian turned around and saw a middle-aged man lying on the ground in an extremely sorry state. The little gold mouse stood in the air beside him while holding the pocket-sized spirit sword in her hand. Don't kill me, don't kill me. Although the little gold mouse was only a tiny little thing, in the eyes of the middle-aged man, she was like a savage beast that caused him to have a panicked expression and endlessly beg for mercy. Who are you? Why did Zhao Yu send you to follow me? Duan Lingtian glanced indifferently at the middle-aged man as he asked. But the middle-aged man paid no attention to Duan Lingtian and instead was still staring at the little gold mouse with an uneasy and terrified expression. Duan Lingtian frowned when he was disregarded by the middle-aged man and he said to the little gold mouse, "Little gold, if he doesn't answer my question in the time of 3 breaths, then you can give him a slash however you like." Squeak squeak, the little gold mouse hurriedly nodded when she heard Duan Lingtian. Her pair of jade green eyes flickered with cold light and the pocket-sized spirit sword in her hand flickered with a ghastly sheen of origin energy. You too, the middle-aged man's face went deathly pale, as he'd never imagined that the 7-star sword sect inner court disciple he was following was actually together with this strange mouse demon beast. Zhao Yu, you've really put me in deep S***T. The middle-aged man gnashed his teeth as his heart suddenly went cold. If I knew earlier that this kid had a demon beast protecting him, then I wouldn't have accepted this errand even if that Zhao Yu gave me even more benefits. You still have the time of 1 breath. Duan Lingtian's calm voice sounded as if he was speaking of something that was of no importance. The middle-aged man never expected that the revolving of his thoughts had actually wasted the time of 2 breaths. Now, when Duan Lingtian's words entered his ears, it was like the sound of death entering his ears and it caused his face to go deathly pale. When he saw origin energy bloom on the spirit sword in the hand of the mouse demon beast that suppressed him, the middle-aged man hurriedly looked at Duan Lingtian and said in panic, I'll tell you. Squeak squeak, the little gold mouse was slightly dejected, then she bared her fangs and brandished her claws at the middle-aged man as if she was saying, can you not be such a poo-wai? I haven't even done anything. Duan Lingtian looked at the middle-aged man as he said indifferently, go on. Yes, the middle-aged man nodded in panic. It was Zhao Yu who promised me many benefits to kill you. Kill me. Duan Lingtian's face sank as his gaze emitted cold lights. Yes, the middle-aged man continued. He asked me to deal with you cleanly, then seize your spatial ring. He said he doesn't want anything else but a cultivation method in your possession. Duan Lingtian frowned. At the beginning, he only thought that Zhao Yu was taking revenge for his Zhao Lei, and that's why Zhao Yu bribed a first-level void-prying stage martial artist to kill him. But now it would seem like the matter wasn't as simple as he'd imagined. What cultivation method? Duan Lingtian asked. The middle-aged man didn't dare hesitate and said hastily, it was some rebirth muscle meridian scroll. No, it was the muscle meridian rebirth scroll. Muscle meridian rebirth scroll. Duan Lingtian's pupils constricted and he was greatly shocked in his heart. How could Zhao Yu possibly know of the muscle meridian rebirth scroll? Logically speaking, besides myself, only the Megrez Peak Outer Court Elder, Zhao Lin, knows of this fictitious cultivation method that I fabricated, right? Zhao Yu, Zhao Lin, they're both surnamed Zhao. Could it be that there's some relationship between them? Duan Lingtian's thoughts revolved and his fierce gaze descended onto the middle-aged man as he asked in a low voice. Since Zhao Yu looked for you to help him do this, I presume the both of you can be considered to be acquainted. Do you know of that Zhao Yu's background in the 7-star sword sect? I seem to have heard him mention it before. His grandfather is the guardian elder of the 7-star sword sect. The middle-aged man shivered when he noticed the frightful cold light that flickered on the spirit sword in the little gold mouse's hand, and he spoke of everything he knew. As expected, Duan Lingtian understood, he completely understood. So it turned out that this Zhao Yu and Zhao Lin were cousins. Perhaps, when Zhao Yu sent people to ask about me in the 7-star sword sect, it was precisely Zhao Lin who he'd asked the person to look for. After that, Zhao Lin knew that I was at the ancient city of Everlast, so he told Zhao Yu that I possessed the Muscle Meridian Rebirth Scroll. Zhao Yu was similarly greedy of the fictitious Muscle Meridian Rebirth Scroll that I fabricated. All this wasn't difficult for Duan Lingtian to guess. Zhao Lin, Zhao Yu, since the two of you want the Muscle Meridian Rebirth Scroll so much, then I'll give it to the two of you. Duan Lingtian seemed as if he'd recalled something and the corners of his mouth curled into an evil smile. This evil smile entered into the eyes of the middle-aged man and caused his face to go deathly pale as he said in panic, "Young master, I'll told you of everything I know, don't kill me, don't kill me. Don't worry, I won't kill you. So long as you help me do one thing, I'll write off the score between us." Duan Lingtian said indifferently. "Thank you, young master. Thank you, young master." The middle-aged man heaved a sigh of relief and hurriedly nodded. "Find a secluded place nearby, I need to do something." Duan Lingtian calmly swept the middle-aged man with his gaze, then looked at the little gold mouse. "Little gold, follow by his side, if he dares make any rash actions, kill him." Squeak squeak, the little gold mouse hurriedly nodded, then transformed into a gold light that descended onto the middle-aged man's shoulder. The middle-aged man's body went stiff. "I don't dare, I don't dare." In next to no time, the middle-aged man found a secluded inn for Duan Lingtian. Duan Lingtian sat before the table in the room, then withdrew an ancient and simple booklet that was empty and a brush, then started wielding his brush energetically. The middle-aged man stood nearby, not moving an inch. The little gold mouse lay on his shoulder as she looked at Duan Lingtian, who was wielding his brush energetically with interest. Presently, Duan Lingtian was making a copy of a cultivation method. The starting part of it was from a cultivation method that could be considered to be not bad that Duan Lingtian had casually found from the memories of the rebirth martial emperor, then he'd copied the start. The back was instead something Duan Lingtian fabricated casually. Then, he added eye-piercing large words in the empty space in the middle. "One must first castrate oneself if there is desire to cultivate the second half. Without castration, it's difficult to succeed in the divine cultivation method. Once castrated, rebirth shall be achieved." In the end, Duan Lingtian wrote 4 exquisite large words at the cover of the booklet. Muscle Meridian Rebirth Scroll. The start of the cultivation method can be considered to be ingenious, and is sufficient to attract anyone, but, without the second half, the essence of the cultivation method can't be comprehended in the end. I really want to see their expression when they disperse their cultivations, then cultivate this cultivation method and become captivated by it, only to see those words when they have cultivated it to the middle. A wisp of an evil smile appeared on Duan Lingtian's face. He believed that at that time, the expressions of the Zhao clan members were sure to be extremely brilliant. The ink Duan Lingtian used to write this Muscle Meridian Rebirth Scroll was first-rate ancient ink, and coupled with the ancient and simple little booklet, it was difficult to distinguish its authenticity. So long as they see the start, they will surely be captivated by it. This was something that Duan Lingtian was extremely confident of. 420.